A month has passed since the world changed, a month away from what should have been a simple discharge. Now, the city burns. And the sky itself seems to have gone mad, raining down debris. Communication between the base and the outside world has been severed, leaving Shin Young-jun to desperately check his radio. But there are no signals, nothing but static. What in the world is going on? Not only regular calls, but the entire communication network is down, leaving him to wonder how long it has been already, and if their families are safe, with all military frequencies jammed. That's how it's been until now, a full month since he was supposed to be discharged, and there are no signs of the situation getting any better. To make matters worse, their food supplies are dwindling rapidly, leaving nothing but empty containers. In the relentless pursuit of survival, a difficult decision had been made. As Shin Young-jun meticulously prepared the ingredients, he hummed softly to himself. For in these trying times, proper nourishment was paramount to maintaining strength. Today's lunch, a hearty stew, simmered on the fire, its aroma filling the air. Shin Young-jun proudly presented his creation, a courage-inducing bear stew. The soldiers lined up, receiving their portions, eagerly anticipating the meal. One soldier, savoring each bite, couldn't help but wonder if it was truly this delicious, or if the dire circumstances simply made it seem so. Another, eyes wide with surprise, exclaimed at the unexpected flavor, while Shin Young-jun, observing their reactions, offered more. The meal was clearly a success, even prompting a question for Lieutenant Kim. The sound of eager eating fills the air, as one soldier, invigorated, declares they need to move out. Another soldier watches, his expression reflecting the newfound energy. The deliciousness of the meal is almost too much, with one exclaiming that soldiers deserve more than just this incredible taste. Others gulp down their portions, overwhelmed by the flavor. The sentiment spreads, with calls to share the bounty, acknowledging that everyone needs to eat. The soldiers, now fully energized, cheer for more exercises, their collective yell echoing through the space. A unified cry erupts, "Hooray for the Republic of Korea Army!" The scene briefly settles, the sounds of renewed vigor fading into the background. Shin Young-jun stands ready in his chef's uniform, a picture of calm efficiency. A closer look reveals his composed demeanor. This is Sergeant Shin Young-jun, 23 years old. Suddenly, the scene shifts to chaos, as soldiers inside a building begin to transform, their eyes glowing an ominous red. A horde of them charges forward, their faces twisted in feral screams. One soldier's face contorts, his eyes burning with a malevolent crimson light. He is responsible for the meal, now known as the judge. The battle unfolds on the grounds of a military school. Shin Young-jun, now in combat gear, delivers a powerful kick, as voices shout to block him off, noting that the area he's targeting is empty. A soccer ball arcs through the air, met with a powerful kick as a player shouts in surprise, urging his teammate not to miss. Back at the military base, a soldier asks Lieutenant Kim if he has heard Sergeant Shin's latest track. The question hangs in the air as various soldiers in the mess hall react to their lunch, some questioning the taste, others noting the menu is the same as always. Meanwhile, Shin Young-jun, now in a standard military uniform, rushes through the base, clutching a box of ingredients, knowing time is short. He mutters that everyone is waiting, and he needs to cook with whatever he can find. His focus is singular, he needs to get this to the kitchen quickly. A moment of quiet determination passes over him. Before he stands ready in a chef's uniform, a knife glowing with purple energy in his hand, poised to begin. His eyes now glow with the same ethereal purple light, as carrots float around him, manipulated by an unseen force. With a swift, almost ethereal motion, carrots are sliced with incredible speed, a faint purple aura still clinging to the air around them. The knife blurs, each cut precise and instantaneous, sending fragments of orange flying as the blade carves through them. Suddenly, a voice cuts through the rhythmic chopping, calling out to Sergeant Shin Young-jun. He pauses, turning to face the soldier who just spoke, still holding his knife midair. Both men look taken aback, a shared expression of bewilderment crossing their faces. Their surprise is quickly overshadowed by the stern gaze of a senior chef, who reprimands them for not properly checking the food. The senior chef continues his lecture, demanding to know how many times he has to repeat himself, while the soldier nervously tries to interject, calling out to Sergeant Shin. His face contorted in anger, the senior chef demands an explanation. Sergeant Shin Young-jun, still reeling from his recent display of skill, stands alongside a subordinate chef as a stern senior chef looms over them, reprimanding their actions. The subordinate chef sighs, lamenting the extra work, muttering about additional kitchen duties due to a shortage of hands. His distress is palpable as he worries about the menu changes, especially with no squid for dinner and Lieutenant Kim's dislike for lunch vegetables. Taking charge, the senior chef gathers everyone's attention, his voice cutting through the kitchen's din. He announces a critical menu change, switching dinner from stir-fry squid to pork belly stir-fry. The subordinate chef quickly acknowledges the order, as the senior chef urges them to hurry, reminding them that the others will be waiting. His instructions continue, directing them to retrieve cream and chicken from the fridge. With a determined look, the senior chef declares a new task, preparing a chicken pasta dish for Lieutenant Kim's lunch, urging everyone to move quickly. A discarded paper bag lies on the ground, a small, white device nearby, hinting at an abrupt abandonment. The device, a phone, rests on cracked, dry earth, surrounded by sparse, withered vegetation, emphasizing the harshness of the environment. From a dark, organic mass, something sharp and menacing begins to emerge with a soft, tearing sound. As a massive, scaly creature stirs, its single visible eye glowing faintly amidst swirling green particles, emitting a low, guttural rumble. The ominous presence moves through the dense forest, its heavy steps marked by a dull thudding sound. Finally, the monstrous entity reveals its full, terrifying visage, its red eyes blazing as it unleashes a deafening roar, sharp teeth bared. The powerful, guttural cry echoes through the desolate landscape, a primal sound of raw power. Elsewhere, a man in traditional attire, wearing a green hat, offers a soda can, remarking that only a few people have been discharged. A short-haired woman, also holding a can, simply agrees, acknowledging the truth of his statement. Lieutenant Kim looks up at Shin Young-jun, demanding to know his purpose here. As the cook's sergeant simply states his profession, Kim, however, recalls a different ambition for his friend, who then expresses surprise, muttering about the difficulties of the food industry and how cooking wasn't even his major. A confident smile spreads across Young-jun's face, as he explains finding something he excels at, something that brings him joy when others appreciate his culinary skills, confirming his new path as a chef. Kim can only express his genuine admiration for the revelation, before Young-jun extends an invitation to his former workplace, offering to mentor him as a senior. But the offer is met with a sudden, violent rejection as Kim crushes the can in his hand, angrily dismissing the idea and calling his friend a jerk for even suggesting it. Even in this new reality, his mind sometimes drifted, a quiet thought escaping him. Oh, but Japanese cuisine is good too. Back in the traditional setting, the lieutenant's frustration was palpable, wondering aloud if they were going to eat earlier, while Shin Young-jun calmly replied that he wasn't interested in terms of hierarchy or status. With a sigh, the lieutenant instructed someone to be sent to the storeroom, and Shin Young-jun acknowledged the order, turning to leave. His footsteps echoing softly, he reminded himself that it was almost mealtime, and he needed to get things in order. As he walked, his mind drifted to the endless possibilities of the culinary world, envisioning exquisite Japanese cuisine. He considered the idea of serving under someone, perhaps even as a concubine, but quickly dismissed it, resolving instead to open his own restaurant and live by his own style. That was the only way. His internal debate continued, a firm rejection of any path that didn't align with his vision. Nah. He stood firm in his conviction, believing that the parable of gourmets was a good one to follow. With a heavy thud, a wooden door closed. A sudden, unseen force sends him recoiling violently, a cry of alarm escaping his lips. Meanwhile, in a different location, a man in traditional attire looks on with a deeply troubled expression. Shin Young-jun tumbles through the air, startled by a familiar voice calling out, while the traditional man, clutching a bottle, wonders aloud what could possibly be happening. His mind races, recognizing the name, Junhyuk. He finds himself perched precariously on a broken fixture, staring down into a dark, blood-splattered abyss, a guttural growl echoing from its depths. His eyes widen in pure, unadulterated terror, his face a mask of horror. From the swirling darkness, a massive, scaly limb, glowing with ominous red energy, begins to emerge, accompanied by a chilling, grinding sound. A single, expletive-laden question escapes his lips, demanding to know the nature of the horror before him. The monstrous limb continues its terrifying ascent, its movements accompanied by another deep, resonant growl. He frantically checks the radio, finding no signals, his mind racing with confusion as a monstrous limb looms into view. The grotesque hand of the creature seizes his head, its grip crushing. His eyes widen in terror, a name escaping his lips, questioning the impossible. A primal scream tears from his throat. His hand trembles, desperately trying to convince himself this is all a nightmare, a bad dream from which he will soon awaken. His gaze darts wildly, searching for an escape, for any sign of reality. But the violent splatter of blood confirms the horrifying truth, as he lets out a guttural cry of frustration and despair. This isn't a dream. This is terrifyingly real. The silence is shattered by a guttural cry, as a violent impact sends a spray of blood across the sterile tiled floor. Behind him, a fellow soldier aims his weapon into the darkness, while another calls out, "Sergeant Shin." The grim reality settles in as one soldier mutters, "If we're next to get eaten, we're next to get eaten." Another voice urges them to simply, quietly leave. A desperate plea cuts through the tension. Lie down quickly and go. But the confusion remains. "Sergeant Shin, what's going on?" As if in answer, a hand reaches out from the doorway, followed by a creeping, shadowy presence that begins to emerge from the depths. The monstrous entity stands revealed, its form towering over the blood-soaked floor and the shattered remnants of communication equipment. Its shadowy mass shimmers with malevolent purple particles, and a single, glowing red eye fixes its gaze. The creature's presence is overwhelming, a terrifying silhouette against the dim light, surrounded by swirling magical energy. Faced with the impossible horror, Shin Young-jun can only let out a raw, primal scream of pure terror. A desperate voice cuts through the chaos, urging someone to flee. Without hesitation, Lieutenant Kim launches himself into the air, a blur of motion as he closes the distance. His hand grips a blade, ready to strike. He descends with furious resolve, vowing to take down the monstrous entity. The attack comes down with immense force. But the shadowy creature meets it with an explosive burst of purple energy, shattering the assault. The impact sends Lieutenant Kim hurtling back, crashing hard into the ground. He lies defeated, his body broken from the overwhelming power. Above him, the monstrous entity lets out a guttural roar, its red eyes glowing with unchallenged might. A desperate cry escapes him as the world around him crumbles. He stares at the unresponsive radio, a growing dread in his voice, realizing his attempts to call for help are utterly futile. From the shadows, a monstrous maw opens wide, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. The creature, a hulking beast with glowing red eyes, lets out a guttural roar, its presence filling the confined space. Before he can even react, the beast lunges, its powerful strike sending him flying across the room. He tumbles helplessly through the air, the impact rattling his bones. The monster lets out another triumphant roar, its red eyes burning with predatory satisfaction. Lying broken on the ground, he can only curse his fate, the words a desperate whisper against the monster's might. A massive claw closes around him, and he is dragged away into the darkness. Overwhelmed and battered, he lies sprawled on the ground, his face contorted in a silent scream of agony. Suddenly, the monstrous entity strikes again, its dark form a blur of motion as it sends him flying across the room with brutal force. A guttural roar echoes through the space, the creature's red eyes burning with predatory glee. Shin Youngjun collapses, clutching his head in agony, a desperate voice from somewhere asking, "Sergeant, what's going on? Is this?" As he can only manage a pained groan. Still reeling from the impact, he can only manage a choked, like-eyed no. The monster's massive, shadowy leg steps forward, its presence growing more oppressive with each movement. Its single, glowing yellow eye fixes on him, another piercing shriek tearing through the air. With terrifying speed, a clawed limb lashes out, a pink aura of destructive energy trailing in its wake. The monster lets out a final, triumphant growl, its red eyes glowing ominously in the dim light. He is violently thrown through the air, a desperate curse escaping his lips as the monstrous entity's purple aura flares around him. Before he can even recover, the creature lunges forward, its clawed hand reaching, glowing red eyes fixed on its prey. A deafening croak echoes through the ruined space as its massive maw opens, ready to devour. Overwhelmed by terror, Shin Youngjun screams, desperately raising a hand to ward off the inevitable. A chilling silence has fallen, the communication devices lying inert, unable to pick up any signals. A growing unease settles in. As the gravity of the situation becomes clear, something is terribly wrong. Despite the unsettling quiet, Shin Youngjun continues his work, stirring a golden, shimmering concoction in a large wok, the light reflecting off the rich broth. Suddenly, a frantic shout pierces the air, calling out to Sergeant Shin, his expression shifting to one of alarm. A monstrous, shadowy appendage lunges from the darkness, as a voice urgently commands him to get down. He barely manages to drop to the floor, as Lieutenant Kim, moving with incredible speed, intercepts the attacking beast with a powerful, glowing strike, sending it recoiling. The lieutenant lets out a fierce cry, his face contorted with effort and determination. The monstrous creature, a hulking wolf-like beast with glowing red eyes, lets out a pained, guttural roar as it's forced back. With the immediate threat repelled, Shin Youngjun cautiously rises, looking back at his cooking with a hopeful, "Did it work?" He returns to the wok, the golden, glowing food still simmering, seemingly unaffected by the chaos. Still focused on his task, he grumbles about the hot oil, a minor annoyance in the grand scheme of things, yet enough to elicit a frustrated grunt. But the monster, a shadowy mass of malice, closes in, its voice a guttural command to die. It lets out a terrifying roar, its presence overwhelming the space. Suddenly, his body moves against his will, a chilling realization that he is no longer in control, a silent ugh escaping his lips. He finds himself responding to an unseen command, a bewildered "yes, sir," forced from his mouth. His gaze snaps upward, mouth agape at the monstrous form looming over him. But before the creature can fully assert its dominance, Lieutenant Kim bursts into action, delivering a powerful, arcing kick that glows with focused energy. The impact sends a shockwave through the monster's shadowy form, its appendage recoiling from the force. As the monster takes the hit, a sharp, involuntary cry of pain escapes Shin Youngjun, clutching his head in agony. As the kick connects with the shadowy entity, Shin Youngjun cries out in agony, the impact reverberating through him, while Lieutenant Kim grimly notes the monster's influence, even over the junior. But the entity is not easily subdued, its dark energy erupting outward with a violent shriek. The force of the counterattack sends Lieutenant Kim reeling, pushing him back with relentless pressure, forcing him to brace against the invisible wall of power, a grunt of effort escaping his lips. The situation rapidly spirals out of control, and he curses the escalating chaos. Despite the danger, Lieutenant Kim lunges forward again, delivering another brutal kick that draws blood from the shadowy form. even as he questions if this painful method is the only way to save the junior. He considers the implications of his actions, thinking of others like Shin Hyun and the junior, who might be similarly afflicted. Meanwhile, Shin Youngjun's face is a mask of pure agony, his features contorted, splattered with the blood drawn from the entity, a testament to their horrifying connection. The monstrous entity lunges forward with a guttural cry, its shadowy form blurring as sharp claws extend. But a dark, oily substance splashes across its form, followed by a spatter of blood, indicating a successful strike. The entity recoils with a pained shriek, its monstrous face contorted in surprise. A glowing red wound now marks its dark, scaled body, a clear sign of its vulnerability. Lieutenant Kim realizes the truth. The entity cannot perceive him through the oil. Though its scales are incredibly tough, he has found a way to bypass its defenses. Observing its movements, he notes a vulnerable spot on the back of its head. A grim determination settles on his face as he considers the possibility, knowing he must find a way to strike that precise point. Moments later, the monstrous entity lies incapacitated on the blood-stained floor, Lieutenant Kim standing over it, a familiar knife, Sun Hyun's favorite, clutched in his hand. The monstrous entity lets out a guttural roar, its presence filling the confined space. While Shin Youngjun, crouched low, knows that even the slightest sound could spell his end. He remains perfectly still, calculating his next move. With a fierce resolve etched across his face, he declares his true identity. I'm the judge. Then, with explosive speed, he strikes the creature's arm, sending debris flying. The monster recoils, its limb bleeding from the sudden assault. As another sharp crack echoes, indicating further damage to its monstrous form. Without hesitation, his hand plunges a knife deep into the creature. As he positions himself on its back, delivering a decisive, glowing strike. As external voices reported no radio signals and questioned the unfolding chaos, Shin Youngjun, undeterred, prepared to strike the monstrous entity before him, burying his glowing knife deep into its shadowy form. The creature recoiled, letting out a piercing shriek of agony, its dark energy flaring as its cries intensified. Despite a fresh smear of blood on his cheek, the young man's gaze remained sharp and resolute, his determination unwavering. He lunged forward again, a powerful aura surrounding him, delivering another devastating blow that sent shockwaves through the air. The monster, its red eyes glowing menacingly, snarled, declaring that he definitely wants to die. Ignoring the threat, Shin Youngjun drove his knife in once more, even as external voices debated the need to understand his abilities before allowing him to continue. With a swift, decisive motion, he pulled the glowing blade free, leaving the creature reeling. A guttural roar rips through the air, a final, desperate surge of power from the monstrous entity. Its red eyes glowing with malevolence, it lunges forward, a crimson aura flaring around its gaping maw. But the sergeant, bloodied and defiant, meets its charge with a furious scream, refusing to yield. He delivers a devastating kick, sending a spray of blood and dark energy across the ruined floor. His bloodied hand, clutching a knife, plunges repeatedly into the monster's flesh. Each strike is met with a sickening impact, more blood erupting from the creature's form. Finally, the relentless assault ceases, leaving a gruesome trail of blood pooling on the ground. Both the monster and Shin Youngjun lie broken on the floor, the silence punctuated only by his ragged breaths. His bloodied hand, still clutching the knife, rests on the defeated creature's mangled form, a testament to his brutal victory. A triumphant gasp escapes him as he collapses, the battle finally over. He confirms his hard-won victory, the words heavy with exhaustion. Nearby, the monstrous creature lies utterly defeated, its massive form motionless. Suddenly, a brilliant flash of light erupts, accompanied by a sharp, metallic chime. A system window materializes before him, congratulating him on his awakening and revealing his new job as a novice chef, level 1. It also prompts him to check his status window, hinting at further details about what this new power entails. The scene shifts, revealing a peaceful, sunlit town, a stark contrast to the recent brutal battle. A sudden, jarring sound echoes through the air, as the world around him shifts from peaceful to desolate. Looking down upon the city streets, he sees them, hordes of grotesque creatures swarming everywhere. The sheer scale of the devastation is overwhelming, with countless bodies strewn across the ravaged landscape. A chilling thought grips him. Could everyone truly be gone? Overwhelmed by the sudden, horrific reality, he collapses to his hands and knees, gasping for air. His eyes widen in disbelief, struggling to comprehend the madness unfolding before him. Amidst the chaos, a new, terrifying presence emerges, a monstrous figure with glowing red eyes that sends shivers down his spine. He then spots a mysterious, futuristic structure in the distance, and wonders about the strange system messages that accompanied his awakening. A new system message blares, announcing a worldwide event has begun, urging all to unite and form or join a faction. The message continues, promising that the earliest factions will receive special perks. Yet, the system notes that the current contents have no faction, leaving him to wonder what this nonsense could possibly be. He muses that it looks like a game, and perhaps he should form a faction, but then questions who is behind this elaborate trick. The system reiterates that the worldwide event has begun and will soon commence fully. A new directive appears, declaring him the sole participant in his zone, instructing him to capture and expand his territory by seizing flags within his region, Box 17, promising special perks for advancing his faction. Shin Youngjun stares up at the glowing text, the words echoing in his mind. A faction must capture the flags. Clutching his head in frustration, he admits he doesn't know anything about any of this. With a determined gaze, he resolves that he's too busy to care about such trivial matters right now, his immediate priority being to escape his current predicament. Having decided to prioritize survival, Shin Youngjun surveys the wreckage of what was once a familiar space, concluding that finding other people is the most logical first step, as there is safety in numbers. Moving through an overgrown landscape, he reaffirms his resolve to survive, no matter the cost. Cautiously peering from behind dense foliage, he plans to thoroughly search the immediate vicinity, hoping to find some sign of life. His journey takes him past crumbling buildings and through deserted streets, the silence broken only by the sounds of his own movement. Climbing over a barrier, he considers the system messages he'd received earlier, reasoning that if others could enter this area, he should also be able to find a way out, feeling a sense of progress as he draws nearer to his goal. He then stumbles upon a grim scene, a pile of bodies, and a chilling thought crosses his mind. Perhaps the people who came here weren't killed by monsters, but rather ran out of ammunition. Despite the grim reality of his surroundings, a flicker of hope remains in his eyes. He continues his urgent search, sprinting through a narrow alleyway. His gaze fixed on something ahead, a new discovery awaiting him. A guttural roar echoes through the desolate street as a monstrous, reptilian creature lunges forward, its red eyes glowing with predatory intent. Shin Youngjun, caught off guard, questions its sudden appearance, realizing he's completely unprepared for such an encounter. Without hesitation, he launches himself from a nearby structure, descending towards the creature below. A sudden flash of light erupts, illuminating the grim surroundings. As the light fades, Shin Youngjun stands before a translucent system window, his chef's eye skill now active, initiating an ingredient analysis of the monster. The creature continues its menacing roar, unaware of the strange assessment it's undergoing. Moments later, the system confirms the analysis is complete, displaying the results on the screen. Shin Youngjun's eyes widen in disbelief as the message, "You have obtained secret lizard grooming enlightenment," appears, leaving him utterly dumbfounded. His thoughts drift to the monsters lurking in the foliage, noting their flexibility and suitability for initial training. He then considers the treasures they might hold, acknowledging his limited knowledge of monsters, but confident in his ability to analyze their valuable drops. These creatures, he muses, are ideal for a smooth progression, allowing for a seamless transition from one stage of development to the next. Suddenly, his analytical calm shatters as he confronts a horrifying sight, a question escaping his lips. A look of pure shock and disgust contorts Shin Youngjun's face as a chilling, disturbing method for preparing a monster flashes through his mind. The monstrous creature before him lets out a guttural, terrifying roar. He stares up at the towering, dark form of the monster, its body wreathed in a sickly green aura, confirming his worst fears with a horrified gasp. Clutching a knife, he grapples with the grim reality, wondering if such a horrific method could truly be possible. He finds no signals on the radio either, leaving him utterly bewildered by the unfolding situation. Aghast at the chaos, he realizes there's no time left for thought. With a hardened gaze, his resolve solidifies. Hell, he decides, let's give it a try. As the monstrous creature lets out a guttural roar, he wonders if his attack will simply get stuck in its tough hide. Closing the distance, he plunges a glowing dagger into the beast, a system notification instantly announcing the unlocking of his intro dagger skill. He continues his relentless assault, another message confirming that kill efficiency improves when using dagger-type equipment. The monster lets out a pained shriek, its tough hide finally yielding to his determined strikes. He lands a perfect strike, confirming the system's guidance as he continues his assault. The creature begins to fall, its massive form collapsing, before crashing to the ground with a heavy impact. With a final, guttural sound, the monster lies defeated. Shin Youngjun lets out a breath, acknowledging how close he came to death without the crucial information provided by the messages. Then, a sudden realization makes his eyes widen in surprise. A strange energy courses through him, a vibrant blue aura swirling around his form, leaving him to wonder what this feeling could be. The sensation intensifies, a purple glow now enveloping him, as if something is slowly filling him up. It is an entirely new feeling, one he has never experienced before, overwhelming his senses. Suddenly, a system message flashes, confirming he has gained experience points. He stares at the glowing text, which warns him not to eye a dish that has no ingredients they cannot handle, even those they have never dealt with before. The message continues, explaining that for targets judged as ingredients, observation can reveal the best recipe, processing methods, and more. The system then classifies a monstrous creature as a lizard man, before presenting a list of lizard recipes for ingredients, detailing the properties of lizard meat. The system continued its bizarre instructions, detailing that without removing the gangly shell, a monster becomes an ingredient requiring careful attention, and then recommended a specific cooking method. Overwhelmed by the absurdity, he could only shout, "Enough!" His mind reeled at the thought, questioning, "You crazy? Cooking that?" Staring at the grotesque remains of the creature, he couldn't comprehend. How can you eat a monster that has eaten people? The sheer mental strain and physical exertion left him gasping, his breath coming in ragged, heavy sighs. His boot remained firmly planted on the ground, a small tack sound echoing the quiet of the moment. Suddenly, a voice cut through the silence, causing him to whip his head around and demand, "Hey, who's there?" Another figure emerged, surprising him with an "Oh," as he introduced himself. "I'm Sergeant Shin Young-jun, a chef." The newcomer, also a sergeant, recognized him, exclaiming, "Sergeant Shin." The other sergeant, relieved, stated, "Ah, you're alive." He then inquired, "What are you doing here alone?" He ponders the strange man who found him, wondering about the long, convoluted path that led him to this desperate situation. Meanwhile, a military search party moves cautiously through a desolate landscape. Their leader, Sergeant Shin, reports hearing human voices from a particular direction, holding onto the slim hope of finding survivors. He then directs his team to press onward, towards the other side, acknowledging the unknown dangers of the monsters that might emerge. Suddenly, a frantic cry echoes through the air, urging everyone to run and escape quickly. Now, Young-jun and the military sergeant sprint through the dense forest, their figures blurring with speed as they flee from unseen threats. He glances back, a flicker of concern crossing his face, as they continue their urgent escape. A heavy question weighs on his mind, wondering about the fate of the other soldiers. A wave of sorrow washes over him as he realizes they all seem to be gone, a silent apology forming on his lips. As they continue their desperate flight, he mourns the good men who were lost. He reflects on the grim reality, a memory surfacing of a time when he felt a profound sense of isolation, thinking, "Looks like I'm the only one left." The memory shifts to an earlier moment, a military camp bustling with activity, where a soldier excitedly announces the discovery of a survivor, urging everyone to move quickly. Within the fortified perimeter, Young-jun and the military sergeant observe the scene. As the sergeant confirms they've fortified the area around the ammunition depot, a crucial strategic point. He then notes the exhaustion etched onto the faces of the other soldiers, and the peculiar detail of their differing uniforms. Another soldier, seemingly in charge, issues a command, mentioning preparing primates in a hushed tone. The sergeant, clearly perplexed by the strange terminology, repeats the phrase in disbelief. Preparing primates? He wonders, the words hanging heavy in the air. Later, within the confines of a military structure, Young-jun and the sergeant sit armed, their expressions a mix of weariness and vigilance, awaiting whatever comes next. Observing the fortified perimeter, the sergeant wonders if the cryptic command they overheard could be referring to the people they now see. The view outside reveals a sprawling, makeshift military camp, bustling with activity. As the sergeant, still processing the strange orders, demands a report from his companion, asking what kind of command they just heard. Shin Young-jun confirms that Lieutenant Kim is currently in command here, his voice steady despite the unsettling situation. He explains that the top officers from the main base have been scattered for a long time, and upon hearing of their arrival, Lieutenant Kim immediately ordered them to relocate. With the situation clarified, Shin Young-jun decides it's time to move, announcing they should go inside. They proceed through a door to the left, entering the interior of the facility. As they walk, the sergeant reveals that Lieutenant Kim is the only officer left, implying he might be the sole survivor of the command structure. Shin Young-jun, taking the lead, reiterates the need to continue moving, suggesting they go further inside for now. Pushing open a heavy door, he steps into a dimly lit room, the silence broken only by his own soft footsteps. Suddenly, a voice calls out, identifying him as Sergeant Shin Young-jun, and he turns to face the speaker, who confirms they were looking for him. He finds himself among a small group of soldiers, their faces etched with relief as one exclaims, "Oh, Shin Young-jun, you're alive." Among them is Lieutenant Kim Hyun-sek, who grimly states, "Hey, it seems like we're in big trouble." Shin Young-jun addresses the assembled soldiers, suggesting they get this over with and talk, though he senses their discomfort. He agrees to proceed, noting that despite everything, there are still quite a few survivors. Meanwhile, another soldier urges Lieutenant Kim to keep checking the surroundings, asking about the search and rescue team. Kim's expression hardens as he hears his name, Lieutenant Kim. Shin Young-jun observes him, thinking of him as a dirty, greedy low-level officer. Kim, meanwhile, dismisses the food offered to him with a disgusted, "Yuck, I can't eat this," deciding he'll eat something else later. Shin Young-jun, holding a knife, expresses his doubt. "I'm not sure if I can trust you for this," as the hour grows late. A critical message flashes across the screen. This day is our last chance to escape, right now. He tries to explain the grim reality to the soldiers, emphasizing that the situation is far worse than they realize. Lieutenant Kim interjects, asking about the head of their unit, to which Shin Young-jun replies that he is no longer present. The lieutenant's expression hardens as he dismisses the idea, believing the situation is too dire for such a plan. Shin Young-jun continues, his voice firm, explaining that only the most desperate remain, and he has a plan for them. He presents a small notebook, revealing the scouting unit's number, 7. Lieutenant Kim questions the number, asking if it refers to just a single unit. Shin Young-jun clarifies the devastating truth, stating that out of roughly 100 soldiers, only 7 remain, including casualties. Lieutenant Kim, still disbelieving, asks to see the notebook, but Shin Young-jun counters, asking what he expects to find. He explains that he meticulously checked the numbers before arriving, and confirms they have lost all contact with the outside world. The silence on the radio is absolute, confirming no signals can get through, as Sergeant Min Jae, the communication unit specialist, grapples with the impossible reality. He reports that all regular phones, internet, and even military satellite communications are completely disconnected, leaving them utterly cut off. Min Jae's face is etched with despair as he confirms he has tried every method imaginable, but all attempts at contact have failed. A grim realization settles over Shin Young-jun, who simply states their dire predicament. Lieutenant Kim turns to him, his voice laced with disbelief, questioning if they truly cannot reach the outside world, and wonders if an EMP attack from North Korea is to blame. But he quickly dismisses the EMP theory, knowing the military's defenses against such an attack, leaving him to ponder the true, terrifying cause of their isolation. Among the gathered soldiers, one voice breaks the silence, expressing the chilling fear that they are doomed and will starve or freeze if they remain cut off. The same soldier then turns to Lieutenant Kim, desperately asking for guidance, as anxiety begins to spread through the group. Shin Young-jun feels the weight of their predicament, a sense of being utterly trapped, as the collective anxiety of everyone around him becomes palpable. As the goal remains unclear, the stark reality settles in. Nothing can be done, and the soldiers' anxiety doubles with each passing moment. Overwhelmed by the weight of their predicament, Shin Young-jun sits in quiet despair, the unspoken thought hanging heavy in the air. A commander who can't manage the situation is useless. The pressure mounts as a voice cuts through the silence, reminding him, as the only officer in charge right now, everyone is waiting on your decision. He struggles to form a coherent response, stammering, well, I'm. The young sergeant sits at the head of the table, facing the expectant, desperate gazes of his men, who voice their fears directly. But we're going to starve to death if we stay here, another adding, and freeze to death. The collective frustration builds, the men wondering, if the lieutenant can't make a decision, how can we? They question if he's just sitting there doing nothing, predicting that eventually, there'd be a mutiny. A soldier's voice rings out, a direct challenge to his authority. You said you'd take responsibility. The stark reality of their isolation is hammered home with a rhetorical question. Lost contact, right? Min Jae approaches, expressing concern that they shouldn't send anyone out, especially with their communication lines down, suggesting they wait for the situation to stabilize before attempting contact. He then asks Lieutenant Kim, his voice tinged with apprehension, if such a move wouldn't be inherently dangerous. Lieutenant Kim considers this, his gaze distant, acknowledging the inherent risk. Meanwhile, Shin Young-jun remains lost in thought, his mind grappling with the gravity of their predicament. He stares at a map, the vast distances highlighted, realizing that the target location is simply too far for a safe journey. Min Jae echoes this sentiment to Lieutenant Kim, confirming the impracticality of the distance. Shin Young-jun's thoughts then shift to a more immediate threat, the bastard, who is likely still nearby. Addressing his assembled soldiers, he declares the mission dangerous but necessary, calling for volunteers to pick up supplies. His expression is grim, as he knows the alternative. They will simply freeze to death if they do nothing. As the discussion continued, Lieutenant Kim challenged his superior, stating that he didn't want to be in command, to which Shin Young-jun retorted that if he made the wrong choice, he would have to deal with the consequences. Kim pressed on, accusing Shin Young-jun of trying to avoid responsibility by making others take orders from higher-ups. Shin Young-jun's expression hardened, his thoughts clear. The situation was difficult, but this was no time for such an attitude from a commander. He then sharply rebuked Lieutenant Kim, declaring he had expected more from him, calling him an idiot. Kim, taken aback, could only offer a hesitant, if no one else doesn't care, it's not like we have other alternatives. Shin Young-jun, however, remained resolute, asserting that the remaining soldiers would still be able to fight if they received orders from higher-ups. Min Jae and Lieutenant Kim exchanged a glance, the latter muttering, "Oh, yeah," before adding, "Well, it's not like we have other alternatives." Kim then conceded, saying, "I think we all agree," before reiterating that the remaining soldiers would still be able to fight if they received orders from higher-ups. Min Jae, standing beside Kim, then chimed in, suggesting they let's check. As the scene shifted to an exterior view of the troops' barracks, Shin Young-jun's voice echoed, asking, "Young-jun, how much food do we have left?" He surveys the meager provisions, noting that they have about 8 days of basic rations and perhaps 6 weeks of emergency supplies. Considering their reduced numbers, Min Jae reports that this might last them 1 or 2 months, before asking about their ammunition. He explains that they've used all their training ammunition for combat, but without additional supplies, they're running critically low. Shin Young-jun's expression hardens as he acknowledges the grim reality. They are facing monsters, after all. He then considers the immediate threat, pondering how they will deal with the increasing number of monsters within the base itself. Despite the dire circumstances, a flicker of hope remains as he believes the base commander will surely find a way to contact the outside world. He concludes that the higher-ups need to make a decision, trailing off as the full weight of their predicament settles upon him. Turning to Min-jae, he gives a direct order to go and inform the other troops. Min-jae, however, looks back with a questioning gaze, feeling that he isn't being told the important things. Still reeling from the dire supply situation, Min-jae, among the gathered soldiers, voices his concern, asking why they aren't discussing the awakening. A collective murmur of confusion ripples through the group, with Min-jae and others questioning Sergeant Shin about what he means by awakening. Min-jae presses further, reminding them that their mission was to hunt monsters. Sergeant Shin confirms their task, asking what the problem is with hunting their prey. He observes their uneasy expressions, questioning their reaction to his words. Then, with a sudden, unsettling movement, he produces a knife, declaring he has something to show them. Min-jae, alarmed by the weapon, demands to know the meaning of the knife and why he is doing this. Sergeant Shin holds up the knife, now stained with what appears to be blood, reminding Min-jae of his earlier promise to do anything asked, even jump like a lunatic. With a chilling declaration, Sergeant Shin states he has stabbed Min-jae to death, but Min-jae, looking at the blade, dismisses it as nothing more than a stupid wooden toy. He closes his eyes, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his temple, the sensation of chopping vegetables filling his mind. Then, with a sudden, explosive burst of speed, he brings twin blades down in a devastating arc, pink energy trailing from their edges. His gaze remains sharp, unwavering, as the force of his strike dissipates. The air crackles with residual energy. Before the two soldiers, the sturdy wooden table splits cleanly in half with a resounding crack. One exclaims in disbelief, "Oh, that's insane. How'd you do that?" Another demands, pointing at the impossibly clean cut. The table is cut like paper. A system window flashes, displaying his newfound ability. Talent, novice chef's proficiency. He turns to them, explaining, after killing the monster that entered the kitchen, this became possible after undergoing an awakening. He stares ahead, a sudden realization dawning on him as the words echo in his mind. Fellow awakened? An awakening. Lieutenant Kim, standing beside him, questions, didn't you see it with your own eyes? His thoughts drift to the precariousness of his survival, unsure how he'd made it this far, but certain he now faced a situation where he had to feed himself or perish. The constant threat of running out of water and food loomed large. With the number of monsters unknown and only 5 days of supplies left, he wonders how he could possibly die here. A fierce resolve hardens his expression as he declares, "No, I will survive. I'm going to get out of here in one piece and return to my own restaurant." His immediate priority becomes clear. In order to survive, he'll have to feed this group. A system message flashes, confirming his new purpose. From here on, I will feed you. His novice chef's proficiency talent, now at level 1, ensures all food he prepares will become a delicious meal. His ultimate goal, however, is far grander, to awaken the entire battalion. To be continued. Shin Young-jun stands amidst communication gear, a radio in hand, his face etched with disbelief as he realizes all signals are dead. He points urgently, his voice rising in alarm, proclaiming they are in trouble as monsters approach. Lieutenant Kim, standing nearby, shares his concern, wondering how such an event could unfold, yet hoping they can contain the threat. Just as their meeting concluded, the monsters reappeared, prompting Shin Young-jun to rally his forces, urging them to move. He barks orders for everyone to return to their positions and prepare for the impending battle. A surge of frustration and anger washes over him, questioning why the creatures are attacking them so relentlessly. With a desperate command, a soldier opens fire, unleashing a volley of bullets. But the monstrous threat is too swift, one of the creatures lunging forward, its glowing red eyes fixed on a soldier, sending him reeling from the impact. The monster lets out a piercing shriek, its sharp teeth bared, as it continues its relentless assault. With all communications down, the unit finds itself in a desperate fight, as a soldier fires his weapon, urging his comrades to conserve your ammo. Aim as high as you can. The monsters prove resilient, absorbing an impossible amount of damage, making it feel as though it almost seems like it takes a full magazine to kill one. Still, the soldiers focus their fire, knowing that at least the head is still. Observing the relentless assault, Shin Young-jun grimly calculates the cost, realizing that 30 rounds for one monster. He knows, with a sinking feeling, that there's no way. We'll be wiped out before we even scratch 10,000 of them. Despite the overwhelming odds, a faint hope persists, a whispered reassurance that they said we could hold out for now. Finally, a moment of respite as a voice calls out, "Clear. It's over." The commander quickly follows up, "All right. Set up a perimeter and check for injuries." The cost of their victory is starkly visible, as a soldier laments, 2 casualties today. Another curses softly, shit. Later, Shin Young-jun and Min-jae stand over the covered bodies, Min-jae asking, "What do we do with their bodies?" Shin Young-jun replies, "There's a cemetery we made behind the base." He then instructs, "Now go. We'll be put into rotation soon. You hurry." As the call to action echoed, he watched his comrades rush forward, And with that final push, the battle with the monsters concluded. The strategies discussed in their recent meeting were swiftly put into motion. As Lieutenant Kim questioned the certainty of their current plan, instructing a subordinate to be dispatched to the higher unit for supplies. Min Jae confirmed that a subordinate had already been sent and that they were actively gathering the necessary provisions. Pleased, the lieutenant ordered the two to rotate out, stating he would handle the remaining troops, emphasizing the need to prepare for a coming surge in awakened individuals, a sentiment largely driven by Shin Young-jun's own experiences. Later, among the other soldiers, a frustrated voice wondered why they couldn't achieve an awakening, despite being certain they had killed a monster. Another soldier mused that perhaps it was because they lacked a gun, a suggestion met with disbelief. Yet another speculated that perhaps the monster had simply been consumed by the one who defeated it. The discussion continues, focusing on the monster's remains, as one soldier points out that the creature was shot from a distance, preventing any close contact. Min Jae agrees with the assessment, acknowledging the difference in how the monster was engaged. Lieutenant Kim then theorizes that some kind of energy must have been present within the monster when it was killed. If that energy is what triggers an awakening, he muses, then one must first be capable of killing a monster to experience it. Another soldier raises a practical concern, asking about those who didn't possess a gun to kill the creatures, to which Min Jae simply replies that they are simply unlucky. Lieutenant Kim clarifies that they will leverage this understanding, not for a siege, but to gain an advantage. This implies a need to get closer to the monsters, a thought that almost sounds like a dangerous proposition. Shin Young-jun's hands are shown, as he confidently declares that they will proceed in a different manner, finding it easy enough to kill with bare hands anyway. He concludes, suggesting that this method reveals a hidden strength. As the monster's weakness is exploited, a brutal attack lands, reminding them of the harsh realities of combat. Back in the present, Lieutenant Kim considers their options, musing, then you're going to have to engage them with a bayonet. He then suggests, maybe we should just attach the bayonet with a shotgun. Min Jae, however, quickly interjects, a bayonet attached to a shotgun? That's not how it works, sir. Lieutenant Kim dismisses the practicality, insisting, until a bayonet is attached. He then reflects on Shin Young-jun, noting, Shin Young-jun depended on his physical strength in actual combat. He had a very specific and. He continues, his gaze fixed on the younger man. This guy's willpower is off the charts. A grim thought then crosses his mind. We're going to die. Min Jae, overhearing the dire pronouncement, reacts with alarm. What? In this situation? He continues, a sense of unease settling over him. I don't know how, but I'm getting a bad feeling. He shakes his head. No, I don't think so. Lieutenant Kim, seemingly shifting gears, announces, lunch is gone, and I've got to get dinner ready. Min Jae then addresses a superior. Captain, may I? He then adds, yes, we need to eat so we can fight. All the other soldiers. As the military camp bustles with activity, orders are relayed for the upcoming meal, with soldiers confirming their understanding and preparing to inform the troops. A voice then echoes, speaking of the awakening, as another soldier confirms their orders with a sharp salute. Military trucks begin to mobilize, moving along the dirt roads, flanked by marching soldiers. Inside one of the vehicles, Lieutenant Kim drives, while Min Jae sits beside him, both maintaining a watchful silence. The convoy continues its journey, a cloud of dust trailing behind them as they press onward. Back at the camp, a soldier opens a door, revealing the interior of a building. Inside, Shin Young-jun struggles with a massive pot, wondering aloud why it feels so incredibly heavy, noting that the entire pot, not just its contents, seems to defy gravity. He then realizes the source of the anomaly, attributing the immense power to his awakened skills, which are infusing the stew. He muses that distributing it will be no problem, despite its weight. The pot glows with a vibrant energy, its contents now a Manna Cook's strengthened beef stew, radiating an otherworldly aura. Amidst the growing chaos, a desperate realization dawns. There are no signals on the radio either, leaving everyone to wonder what in the world is going on. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Shin Young-jun continues his work, a system message confirming that excellent temperature control significantly increases a chef's stats. His sincerity in cooking has advanced to a moderate level, promising a heavy increase across all his stats. Yet, he ponders the exact nature of the strength he's gained, as the system offers to add a new skill. Chef Special, Manna Cook's strengthened beef stew. He continues to refine his dish, focusing on his chef's special sauce to complete the meal. As he works, a strange energy begins to emanate from his hands, a visible glow accompanying his newfound power. He realizes the implications of this ability, wondering if he can now control the emotions of those who consume his cooking to some extent. Meanwhile, the world outside remains gripped by fear, with everyone panicking and trembling. Observing the widespread distress, Shin Young-jun hopes that his special food will make them feel a little more comfortable. As he prepared his dish, Shin Young-jun reached out, feeling the manna drops coalesce into his hand, absorbing them into his being. This act of sincerity had granted him a new skill. Chef Special, Manna Cook's strengthened beef stew, a dish designed for comfort. With a determined expression, he declared, "Now, let's eat." He watched as the soldiers gathered, his stew steaming invitingly, a silent hope in his heart. Min Jae, Eager for a taste, requested, "Sergeant Shin, I'll take a double portion." He then urged his comrades, "Yes, eat a lot." As Lieutenant Kim took his first bite, a single tear welled in his eye, the unexpected comfort of the food washing over him. A silent question hung in the air. Would it truly work? The answer came quickly as Min Jae exclaimed, "Wow, this is delicious." Lieutenant Kim, now visibly moved, asked, "You made this all by yourself, Sergeant Shin?" He then added, "I'm not like the others, so I can't tell if you're a Manapact Awakener." Observing the effects of his cooking, Shin Youngjun notes that from the way it looks, his new skill is indeed working, though he can't help but wonder if this isn't actually a bad skill to possess. Meanwhile, Min Jae, feeling the profound effects of the meal, gives a hearty thumbs up, expressing his gratitude to Sergeant Shin for the incredible food. Lieutenant Kim adds that while the monster had a sensitive body, he now feels completely full and refreshed, a sentiment Min Jae echoes, feeling equally invigorated. Shin Youngjun responds with a simple, confident yes, of course, though internally, he admits it doesn't seem to be going as he expected. A close-up of the steaming, mana-infused stew reveals its comforting warmth, as Shin Youngjun muses that he's not yet sure about the full stats or implications of his new ability. An overhead view of the mess hall shows countless soldiers, all quietly enjoying their meals, a testament to the widespread calming effect of the food. Lieutenant Kim and Min Jae watch the scene unfold, their expressions shifting to one of profound surprise, a soft tuck sound emphasizing the sudden realization. Their eyes widen further, a silent take, marking the moment of dawning comprehension, as the full scope of Shin Youngjun's culinary magic becomes apparent. Even Shin Youngjun himself looks on, his brow furrowed in a mixture of surprise and confusion, clearly questioning the unexpected potency of his own creation. His moment of contemplation is abruptly shattered as a sudden, sharp sound echoes from a nearby door, a clear indication that whatever peace he might have found is already over. He can't catch a break. The military base lay quiet under the night sky, a basketball court illuminated by distant lights. Suddenly, a group of soldiers sprints across a rooftop, one of them shouting, "Over there!" Shin Youngjun looks up, a question forming on his lips as he notices the sudden silence. The gunfire has ceased. More soldiers rush past on the ground below, their urgency palpable, prompting Shin Youngjun to lean out and call down. "Hey, what's going on?" He grumbles, annoyed by the interruption to his routine. "I just came back from eating. That's..." As he descends to the ground, he spots a familiar face among the commotion, calling out, "Tae-jun. Oh, you came too." He then turns to another soldier, Min Jae, his confusion growing. "Even you're here, Min Jae? What the hell happened?" Min Jae quickly explains the situation. "We saw a monster, so we chased after it. And you said we need to go and awaken." He glances out a window, a hand reaching for the pane, relieved that the others are safe. Meanwhile, a grotesque, bloodied monster snarls in the darkness, its form covered in wounds. Outside, Min Jae, Tae-jun, and Lieutenant Kim gaze up at the building, wondering if anyone else survived the attack. His resolve hardening, Shin Youngjun decides he must go check on them himself. He grips his rifle, a determined glint in his eyes. Min Jae suggests that those who have already awakened should go first, explaining that without rune stones or the power of awakening, the soldiers stand no chance against the monsters. Tae-jun agrees, believing it's too dangerous to fight without awakening first, though Lieutenant Kim counters that they can't simply wait for a miracle. Ultimately, a voice declares that the seniors will go first. A pained gasp escapes him, the world around him blurring into a chaotic mess. As a monstrous limb, dripping with blood, lunges toward him, a sudden, overwhelming surge of power erupts within his very core. A brilliant flash of light engulfs the area, followed by a clear, resonant voice announcing, "Congratulations on your awakening." Before his eyes, a translucent system window materializes, detailing his newfound abilities, a new skill, a new title, and a clear indication of his enhanced rank, confirming the impossible had just occurred. Staring at his own hands, now faintly glowing, Shin Youngjun can only utter a stunned, disbelieving cry, questioning if this surreal experience is truly real. His comrades, Min Jae, Tae-jun, and Lieutenant Kim, watch in astonishment, their faces etched with confusion as they demand to know what he has done and if he has truly awakened, wondering if they too saw the mysterious system window. A slow, confident smirk spreads across his face, a stark contrast to his earlier distress. As blue electrical energy crackles around him, he acknowledges the profound change, feeling a new, exhilarating power coursing through his body. Min Jae and Tae-jun exchange glances, their initial shock giving way to a shared realization. It's a success. A surge of power courses through him, a tangible force he can now perceive and confirm with his own senses. Around him, his comrades stare in disbelief, their voices echoing with awe at the brilliant blue glow emanating from his form and the lightning crackling in his eyes. Shin Youngjun himself processes the revelation, a novice mage, now wielding the power of thunder. Min Jae, one of the soldiers, confirms the name of his new ability, Thunder, with a mixture of wonder and apprehension. Another voice cuts through the air, reminding him of his previous unawakened status and questioning if his culinary talents are now obsolete. Tae-jun stands beside the still glowing Shin Youngjun, his expression a mix of curiosity and concern. The implications of his awakening are clear. He can now fight monsters up close, and though some may doubt it at first, with enough effort, he can achieve anything. Suddenly, a distant crash echoes through the night, a stark reminder of the dangers that still lurk. Shin Young-jun declares his readiness to face whatever comes next, while Tae-jun cautions him to be careful, repeating the warning for emphasis. As the group of soldiers gathers, a voice announces that it's Sergeant Park's turn, urging everyone to pay attention. Sergeant Park steps forward, his gaze firm. Before him lies a monstrous creature, heavily wounded and bleeding, prompting a quiet, questioning "huh?" from someone nearby. He observes the beast, noting its continued menace, thinking it's still a little scary and definitely not dead yet. The monster stirs, letting out a low, guttural growl. Sergeant Park leans in, his hand moving subtly. He calmly tells the creature, "Hey, stay still," before adding, "I'll be done in a minute." As he speaks, the monster's eye flares with an ominous red glow. A swift, unseen strike tears through the air, silencing the monster with a final, agonizing shriek. Shin Young-jun braces himself, rifle held ready. The creature lets out a guttural roar, its jagged teeth glinting, and his eyes snap wide, a flicker of shock crossing his face, as a dark mass begins to stir, then surges upward with a malevolent, crimson glow, letting out a piercing shriek as it ascends. The monstrous limb lashes out, causing Min-jae and Tae-jun to cry out in terror. The tentacle-like appendage thrashes wildly. But in a blur of motion, Shin Young-jun intercepts, his attack tearing through the monster's flesh with a spray of blood. Amidst the chaos and communication blackout, the monster's limb, which had just launched its assault, was violently ripped apart, spraying blood across the ruined landscape. Witnessing the brutal counter, Min-jae could only scream in rage and defiance, cursing the monstrous creature. The monster, however, was far from defeated, its single red eye glowing with renewed, malevolent energy. Seeing its continued threat, Min-jae urgently called out to Tae-jun, demanding he finish the creature off. Tae-jun, his face set with grim determination, responded with a resolute "okay." Meanwhile, Shin Young-jun, having delivered the initial devastating blow, stood firm, his voice echoing with an unwavering promise. He would not let the bastard live. As if in response, the monster's glowing red eye intensified, a dark, shadowy form moving with impossible speed. Then, with a sickening crunch and a fresh spray of crimson, a powerful strike landed, tearing into the monster's flesh once more. The monster's very essence seemed to unravel, a dark, organic mass violently disrupted from within, glowing particles of red energy scattering through the air. Its maw, once a terrifying weapon, now hung open, a bloody, torn ruin of flesh and bone. Observing the creature's devastation, Shin Young-jun's eyes held a grim determination, while behind him, Min-jae and Tae-jun stared in wide-eyed shock. The sheer brutality of the fight left them speechless, their faces contorted in a mixture of fear and disbelief. Breathing heavily, his body covered in blood and sweat, Shin Young-jun looked down at his hand, a faint, ethereal glow emanating from his palm. A guttural cry escaped him, a mix of exhaustion and perhaps something more profound. Was this truly the end of the battle? Suddenly, a system message materialized before him, congratulating someone on their awakening, revealing that Park Tae-jun had awakened as a novice astronomer, with specific stats for strength, agility, magic, and luck, leaving Shin Young-jun utterly surprised. A system message flashes, confirming the new reality, declaring, "Take this, is it." As the dust settles, Shin Young-jun looks down at the injured Tae-jun, asking if he is alright, who, despite his pain, retorts, "What are you doing calling me that?" He then adds that a monster is still alive, and he needs a moment of treatment, letting out a pained ugh. The monster, still breathing heavily, its maw mangled and bloody, struggles to recover. Shin Young-jun, clutching his own chest, acknowledges his narrow escape, muttering, "I got a small window too." He then curses, "Well done, asshole. You almost made my chest burst. It's all over." He helps Tae-jun to his feet, who lets out another pained ugh, as Shin Young-jun reassures him, "I'm glad you're okay." Reflecting on the intense battle, Shin Young-jun admits, "For a split second, my body wasn't my own." He adds, "My leg almost came off. I almost lost my motivation," before calling out, "Hey, help." He then points towards a group of soldiers, including Min-jae, instructing them, "Over there. You lot, keep a watch out." The soldiers stand ready, as an unseen voice confirms, "We'll return as soon as the medic comes." With the commotion from the monster attack finally over, a new reality settles in as Tae-jun, now visibly glowing with an awakened power, stands alongside Min-jae, who has also undergone the transformation. From this new development, an army capable of confronting monsters without relying on conventional weapons begins to form, as Shin Young-jun observes the burgeoning power within his ranks. However, the awakening phenomenon spreads like wildfire among the soldiers, particularly within the ammunition depot, causing concern among some, as Tae-jun, overwhelmed, insists he couldn't have caused it, while Lieutenant Kim listens intently. This rapid spread, however, would be met with resistance from other senior officers who refuse to attempt awakening themselves. One such senior officer vehemently refuses, his anger palpable, as Shin Young-jun watches the unfolding resistance. "Hey you, Tae-jun, Sergeant, Sergeant," the soldiers call out, one adding, "The only thing I've ever killed before this was a chicken." Lieutenant Kim extends a hand, asking if he truly doesn't understand the situation. His face tight with frustration as he insists, "We, the soldiers, have to set an example." But Shin Young-jun firmly refuses, "Can't do it," prompting a frustrated "sheesh you." From the lieutenant, Shin Young-jun repeats his refusal, "No matter what you say, I can't do it," explaining that there's no way he can fight this kind of monster and he's going to die. Lieutenant Kim slams his hand down, the sound echoing through the air. The other soldiers whisper amongst themselves, one noting, "You could have gotten hurt, too," while another adds, "I heard he's an expert." A third observes that he knows, but Shin Young-jun is a little scared for his life, concluding that now that he's seen the monster, he's even more afraid. Lieutenant Kim looks serious, surprised because Shin Young-jun looks like he could fight a monster to death, adding that he doesn't want to force people to defect the mana zone because of this. Finally, he relents, "Fine, do whatever you want." Still reeling from the previous exchange, Shin Young-jun hesitantly asks if Lieutenant Kim is truly certain about his decision, offering a quiet thank you. Kim, his expression firm, advises him not to act without proper respect for a superior in the future. As the other soldiers watch on, Kim questions the situation, while Shin Young-jun acknowledges his superior's rank, but with an unspoken reservation. His gaze intense, Kim declares that the leader they truly need now must be an awakened one. Shin Young-jun, his face etched with a mix of fear and defiance, points out that Kim himself rejected that very idea. One of the observing soldiers quietly agrees with Shin Young-jun, while Shin Young-jun himself cries out in disbelief, unable to accept the situation. A narrative thought reflects on the impossibility of Shin Young-jun being a leader in their current predicament, acknowledging his power but questioning his qualifications. Finally, with a sigh of resignation, Kim utters a quiet, "Ah, I understand." As the other soldiers call out for each other to move on, confirming Shin Young-jun isn't coming, he continues to protest, unable to accept the reality of his situation. He remains steadfast, even as Min Jae approaches him, reminding him that soldiers will be dispatched regardless. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim addresses Kwang Il, instructing him to follow for now. Kwang Il, in turn, questions Min Jae, asking if he's also going. The military camp buzzes with activity, a multitude of soldiers preparing for deployment. Lieutenant Kim, still with Kwang Il, expresses his frustration, lamenting that he can't simply send everyone. Min Jae continues to press Shin Young-jun, explaining that the problem isn't just about the immediate mission, but how it will affect the entire shift. Lieutenant Kim, addressing his soldiers, acknowledges the danger, stating that there are many monsters outside, necessitating a strong defense. Shin Young-jun, looking away, quietly agrees, admitting that he knows there are many monsters and someone needs to protect the others. Min Jae observes that it's been a while since monsters last appeared, suggesting they'll soon begin to gather in groups. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim asserts that they are protected from the monsters as long as they act in groups. Min Jae points out that this is precisely why no streets are safe, as people want to leave and go where their families are safe. Min Jae concedes that this is a possibility, and so they must do their best to make their people feel protected. Only then will they not have to worry about their families. The lieutenant agrees that protecting their own lives is important, but wonders if he's the only one who's afraid. He continues, contemplating a scenario where they might have to fight an entire army of monsters. In such a case, he predicts many young soldiers will break down, potentially leading to conflict with the awakened soldiers. He concludes that such a situation would be destined for defeat, with Min Jae adding that it would eventually lead to the collapse of the unit. Continuing their grim discussion, Min Jae questions the implications of the awakening, as Lieutenant Kim confirms its arrival. An unnamed authority figure then interjects, declaring that refusal is simply unacceptable. The weight of the situation hangs heavy, a stark concrete wall standing as a silent witness. Min Jae, understanding the implications, then asks how they might convince Kwang Il, to which Lieutenant Kim responds that while Kwang Il is a respected soldier, his humiliation prevents him from acting for that sake. Suddenly, Shin Young-jun steps forward, offering a solution and asking for some time to implement his idea. Min Jae turns to Lieutenant Kim, questioning if Shin Young-jun's proposal is truly possible. Shin Young-jun, resolute, affirms he will try his best, leaving Min Jae to contemplate the daunting task ahead. With his commitment made, Shin Young-jun walks away, ready to begin. The weight of the situation presses down, leaving Min Jae to wonder what in the world they are to do. Despite his recent commitment, a part of him still yearned for an escape, wishing he had a different role, one that would allow him to abandon this unit and simply run. Yet, a fierce determination burned within him, reminding him that he was a level 1 novice chef, and that title carried its own weight. To truly maximize his unique skills and contribute to the unit, he knew he had to become an even better cook. Standing before his comrades, his voice firm with conviction, he declared his unwavering resolve. He would not allow their unit to be humiliated, and he would make it stronger. With that promise echoing in his mind, his gaze sharpened, reflecting a newfound purpose. Soon, the rhythmic chop of his knife against vegetables filled the air as he meticulously prepared ingredients, his commitment now manifesting in action. Later, clutching a walkie-talkie, he broadcast a direct message, a challenge, and a vow to Kwang Il. He would make him a real soldier. The steaming bowl of food he held was not just sustenance, but a symbol of his unwavering resolve. He focuses intently on his task, determined to make the best fried rice possible, even as a system message appears, reminding him to keep up the good work. The ingredients sizzle and dance in the pan. As he expertly tosses them, a vibrant aroma beginning to fill the air. Each movement is precise, a testament to his growing skill. However, a new system message flashes, indicating that while the main ingredient's quality is not ideal, the overall stats of the dish will be slightly reduced. Undeterred, Shin Young-jun continues, another message appearing to confirm that the auxiliary ingredients are excellent, which will slightly increase the dish's stats. The system then highlights a crucial detail. The dish is made for a specific audience, and if that target audience consumes it, its effects will receive a significant boost. As he adds a special sauce, the system confirms its creation, revealing that this unique condiment can change the emotions of those who consume the food. He looks on with a determined expression, confident in his creation. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim recalls Kwang Il from the logistics unit, wondering if he should ask him to the cafeteria. The finished fried rice, shimmering with a subtle glow, is presented as his special food. Kwang Il, taken aback, questions what it is, but Shin Young-jun simply urges him to eat. Lieutenant Kim, still observing, thinks about Kwang Il's normally impeccable demeanor, finding him almost too good to be true. A single tear escapes Kwang Il's eye. As he finally agrees to eat, picking up his spoon, his hand moves to scoop a portion. This is the novice chef's chicken fried rice of courage. As Kwang Il begins to eat, savoring each bite, Shin Young-jun explains his philosophy. The power to overcome fear is courage. I tried my best to make it as good as possible. With a satisfied gulp, Kwang Il exclaims, "This is so good, Sergeant Shin." To which the chef replies, "There's more, so eat up." A gentle smile plays on Shin Young-jun's lips, a quiet satisfaction in seeing his efforts appreciated. Turning slightly, he adds, "We can talk more after you're full." Outside, a military vehicle sits silently as a voice calls out, "Sergeant Shin," followed by a quiet apology. A moment of silence hangs in the air, before a questioning HM breaks the quiet. From inside, another voice explains, "I'm sorry, it's just that it's scary." Inside a building, Lieutenant Kim sits across from Shin Young-jun, stating, "So that's how you feel." Young-jun offers another quiet apology. Young-jun confesses, "I've been like this since I was a kid, and I've always been told to act like a man." Kim listens intently, then offers genuine sympathy. "I can only imagine how much you've suffered, Sergeant Shin. I'm truly sorry for not realizing it sooner." Young-jun, however, is distracted by a thought, but it wasn't even a real tuna. Kim continues, "Yeah, you must have had a hard time with your personality." Young-jun's expression hardens as he reveals, "I really tried to take on extra jobs because I didn't want to be an inconvenience to others." A flashback shows a younger Young-jun, surrounded by other men, thinking, "I thought I was finally recognized for my efforts, but I guess I was just a burden to them." He listens as Lieutenant Kim explains that many brave people have died after encountering monsters, admitting his own fear in such situations, before Young-jun quietly adds that he too was scared. A moment of shared vulnerability passes between them, before Young-jun asserts that doing nothing would only lead to them being devoured by those monsters, reflecting on a past encounter where he felt like nothing more than a burden to his comrades. The monster's overwhelming presence in that brief moment still vivid in his mind. A memory of crushing force and primal terror. Clenching his bandaged fist, Young-jun declares that it's unfair for him to die here, not when he's in his prime. Revealing his true aspiration, to open a restaurant. Lieutenant Kim, looking at him with a gentle smile, assures him that even under those dire circumstances, he is truly amazing, a sentiment that took a lot to convey. He reflects on his past, acknowledging that his own courage, judgment, and decisions have always guided him. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim, standing beside him, encourages him, telling him he wants him to fight alongside them with a weapon, adding that the other veterans would also be there. A warm smile spreads across the lieutenant's face, as Shin Young-jun internally resolves that hearing about their actions makes him feel like he should try it too. A sudden surge of confidence washes over him, prompting Lieutenant Kim to observe that the food must have worked, seeing a different look in his eyes. With newfound resolve, Shin Young-jun declares that the next monster is his to finish off. A sharp, decisive sound echoes. A soldier, enveloped in crackling black and red energy, charges forward, his voice echoing with a fierce command for everyone to stay close or try to help him. He swings a blade of pure red energy, declaring this his moment, the opportunity to aid his comrades finally at hand. With a brutal impact, the monster's arm is cleanly severed, blood erupting from the wound. From a safe distance, Min-jae watches, wondering what the hell he's doing, while Kwang Il observes that the soldier has gone a bit overboard. The soldier stands victorious over the fallen creature, a triumphant laugh escaping him as he declares its demise. Min-jae, still bewildered, questions why the soldier is even here, and Kwang Il asks if they shouldn't try to stop him. Shin Young-jun watches with a worried expression, thinking that perhaps the soldier is being a bit too aggressive. His concern proves justified as the soldier is suddenly struck by another monster, taking a severe injury. A monstrous face with glowing red eyes emerges from the shadows, while a voice suggests that if the situation escalates, they can step in. A dark, reptilian claw lunges with predatory speed. But Kwang-il meets the assault with a furious roar, his eyes burning with a fierce yellow light. The monster's attack continues relentlessly, its sharp claws tearing into the soldier, drawing blood. Despite the injury, Kwang-il pushes back, his arm raised to fend off the next blow. The reptilian monster snarls, its red eyes glowing with malevolent intent. Undeterred, Kwang-il shouts a challenge, declaring himself to the fucking lizard. The monster's claw slams down again, the impact echoing with a guttural roar. Finally, the fight concludes with Kwang-il injured, as Shin Young-jun, Lieutenant Kim, and Min Jae observe, surprised by the monster's unexpected strength. From a distance, Shin Young-jun watches the unfolding chaos, remarking that Kwang-il seems to be doing well, even as he questions why no one has provided him with a weapon. Suddenly, a loud impact echoes through the air, drawing a startled exclamation from one of the observers, followed by a collective, questioning silence. Below, Kwang-il's face contorts with primal fury, his teeth bared and blood already staining his chin. With a desperate, savage lunge, he sinks his teeth deep into the reptilian monster's arm, tearing flesh with a sickening rip. The monster retaliates instantly, sending Kwang-il recoiling from a powerful blow to his torso. Despite the counterattack, the damage is done. A large chunk of the monster's arm is visibly torn away, oozing green blood. The sight leaves his comrades stunned, their faces frozen in disbelief. As a wave of cheers erupts from the surrounding soldiers, Kwang-il stands over the now subdued monster, which lies defeated with a heavy thud. The observers can only marvel at his ferocity, one soldier exclaiming that he just bit the monster's arm, while another questions if this is the same man who was so scared earlier. As the dust settled, Shin Young-jun, still reeling from the unexpected ferocity, could only wonder if the previous encounter had been too much for Kwang-il. But the fight was far from over, as Kwang-il continued his savage assault, tearing into the monster with primal force, blood erupting with each impact. His comrades watched, horrified, as Shin Young-jun cried out, demanding to know if the lieutenant had ordered him to stop, questioning the danger of the relentless attack. Unheeding, Kwang-il continued to bite and tear, his ragged breaths echoing the sheer effort of his savage act. The group of soldiers could only stare, their faces etched with a mixture of shock and profound unease. Lieutenant Kim, standing beside Shin Young-jun, remained silent, his own expression a grim testament to the unsettling display before them. The monster's body continued to give way, torn apart by the relentless, primal assault. Flesh and blood exploded outwards, a gruesome testament to the finality of the attack. Even as the monster lay broken, Kwang-il's bloodied mouth remained clamped down, still tearing, still consuming, a terrifying display of raw, untamed instinct. He continues his brutal assault, tearing into the already defeated reptilian monster with primal ferocity, when suddenly, a blinding light erupts from within him, enveloping his form. A guttural roar escapes his lips, a sound of both pain and immense power. As his vision clears, a system interface overlays his sight, confirming a profound change within him. Nearby, Shin Young-jun recoils, witnessing the bloodied hand of his comrade, a chilling testament to the transformation. Kwang-il lies amidst the gore, his comrades Lieutenant Kim and Min Jae now gathered, their faces etched with concern and disbelief. But then, he slowly pushes himself up, letting out another powerful cry as he gazes towards the sky. Turning to his stunned recruits, Kwang-il declares with a triumphant, blood-stained grin that he too has awakened. A blue system panel materializes before him, a clear sign of his transformation. From behind, his comrades shout in disbelief and awe, acknowledging his incredible feat and the true awakening he has undergone. The soldiers continue to marvel at his power, declaring that he could now easily overpower 10 men, offering their congratulations to the newly awakened sergeant. As he stands over the defeated monster, the praise continues, with one soldier proclaiming it the best bare-handed fight they had ever witnessed, commending Kwang-il for a job well done. He exhales slowly, a deep breath escaping him as he processes the aftermath of his intense battle and awakening. Meanwhile, Shin Young-jun, with a determined glint in his eye, boasts that all their success is thanks to him. The group stands together, observing the scene, a mix of awe and exhaustion on their faces. As Kwang-il smiles, a system message appears, reflecting his internal resolve. He will have to be more diligent next time. From above the assembled soldiers, a voice questions, Young-jun, what did you do? He's a completely different person now. Shin Young-jun replies, I just made some food and talked with him. That's all. Lieutenant Kim scoffs, you have such a talent for exaggerating. That's how the human heart works. Still unconvinced, he asks, so we just talk to them and everything will be fine? Shin Young-jun insists, you can't ignore what you're listening to. Lieutenant Kim's expression hardens. It can't be that easy. He mutters, that's right. It doesn't make sense. Shin Young-jun looks out over the group, stating, it's all thanks to the effectiveness of my skills. He concludes, keeping his secret close, but I can't reveal it yet. He unleashes a surge of power, a purple aura flaring around him, as he observes that this situation is different from the usual table pacing he's accustomed to with people. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim and Min Jae watch, concerned, as Kwang Il stands nearby, his demeanor now quite intimidating, a stark change from before, yet still a welcome one. Outside, the group stands together, Shin Young-jun calm amidst his transformed subordinates. The lieutenant considers the implications of bringing someone like Kwang Il, now a berserker, into their ranks, questioning if it's too dangerous to exchange their reasons for such power. Shin Young-jun acknowledges that survival is paramount, making such changes a necessary good in the end. He then instructs that in the future, only those truly unfit to awaken should be sent to him, adding that he'll need to provide them with special food first for such a dangerous job. A look of concern crosses his face, realizing the difficulty of his own request. He surveys the empty shelves of a store, the remaining food having quickly deteriorated. Boxes of rotting produce and meat confirm their dire situation, leaving them with nothing to waste. He sighs, the thought of a proper meal a distant memory, counting down the days until he can truly eat again. After all, emergency and combat rations don't really have a cooking process. Suddenly, the mundane thoughts are shattered as a voice shouts that something is running. Without hesitation, he gives the order to lead it in their direction. He raises his weapon, the muzzle flashing brightly as he fires, urging his comrade not to miss this time. Another shot rings out, a quiet admission that there were bound to be a few exceptions to their success. As they continue their pursuit of the fleeing reptilian creature, he reflects that overall, the awakened are doing well. The injured monster snarls, blood dripping from its maw, as one voice declares, we must just kill it, while another softly apologizes, I'm sorry. A sharp gasp escapes one of the soldiers as they survey the scene. Min Jae, looking down at the defeated creature, remarks that the process wasn't exactly smooth. This was the strongest monster in the group, a formidable foe that required significant effort to corner and defeat. Lieutenant Kim observes its lingering defenses, noting their surprising resilience. Most monsters, when nearing death, enter an uncontrollable rage, making them incredibly dangerous and nearly impossible to approach. This inherent danger underscores the critical need for awakening. Shin Young-jun, reflecting on the situation, acknowledges the importance of safety, even if it means a slower pace. A swift movement cuts through the air, signaling a shift in their operations. As the soldiers move out, Kwang Il calls out to the lieutenant, confirming their success and expressing relief that someone can handle such tasks effectively. A few minutes prior, the military unit stood in the aftermath of their recent engagement, the air still thick with the scent of battle. The reptilian monster, a formidable foe, lay lifeless on the ground, its tough hide finally breached. As the group assessed the scene, Kwang Il called out to a new face among them, congratulating Soo-hyuk on a job well done, while Min Jae noted his presence from the termination unit. A question hung in the air, a silent acknowledgement of the next crucial step in their ongoing struggle. Who among them would be the next to undergo the awakening? Min Jae's earlier comment about Soo-hyuk from the termination unit echoed, drawing attention to the young soldier's focused expression. Lieutenant Kim then addressed him directly, declaring it was his turn, to which Soo-hyuk responded with a respectful affirmation. Kwang Il, perhaps with a hint of concern, questioned if he could truly target only one enemy, but Soo-hyuk confidently asserted that he had been practicing extensively. With a final, stern instruction from Lieutenant Kim to succeed, Soo-hyuk swallowed hard, his resolve hardening. Then, in a blur of speed and raw power, he launched himself forward, leaving a crimson and black trail in his wake. He plunges his spear deep into the reptilian monster, a torrent of blood erupting from the wound, as the creature lets out a final, guttural cry. The force of the blow is undeniable, its red eye flaring with a dying light as life drains from its massive form. But even as the monster falls, a sudden impact sends him reeling, his head snapping back in surprise. A spray of blood, not his own, but from the monster's final throes, splatters across his uniform. Before he can even process the lingering impact, a translucent system panel flickers into existence before him, displaying his new designation, Marksman. Meanwhile, back at the command center, his comrades react with a mix of awe and excitement, Kwang Il exclaiming that this new status makes him a sniper. Still focused on the glowing interface, Soo-hyuk continues to absorb the unexpected information. A surge of frustration crosses his face as he reads further, demanding to know what exactly is happening. Another soldier, observing from behind, notes the sudden appearance of the strange system panel, as Soo-hyuk remains engrossed in its perplexing details. As a brilliant light erupts across the sky, a system message declares the formation of a new faction. Before Soo-hyuk, a holographic screen materializes, confirming the creation of a 5-player faction, the minimum required amount, leaving him utterly bewildered. The display continues, revealing their faction is the third in the large region, yet the very first in their immediate small region. As the group observes the glowing interface, Kwang Il voices his confusion, questioning the meaning of the rewarded amount. Soo-hyuk remains fixated on the holographic screen, still processing the sudden influx of system information. It seems that the moment Soo-hyuk awakened, the same system window appeared simultaneously for all 5 awakeners. Lieutenant Kim studies his own holographic display, which proudly announces an achievement for forming a faction faster than the majority. Shin Young-jun, now also observing a personal system screen, sees that a special reward is being given, 10 elixirs of growth for achieving third place. As the implications of the new system settle in, Lieutenant Kim turns to him, asking what their next move should be. Following the system's announcement, a directive echoes through the facility, calling for all awakened individuals to gather for an emergency meeting. Inside a dimly lit room, the gravity of their new reality begins to settle. A soldier explains the new resource allocation, stating that 10 items are to be shared per person, a distribution another finds impossible to manage. Lieutenant Kim confirms the system's message about factions, and Shin Young-jun deduces that the requirement for forming one must have been 5 awakened individuals. Considering the implications, Shin Young-jun muses that if the system's information is accurate, the elixir reward could significantly accelerate their progress. However, Lieutenant Kim expresses a deeper concern, worrying more about the other factions, especially since being ranked third implies 2 others are already ahead of them. His brow furrows in thought, the weight of their new competitive landscape clearly pressing upon him. Shin Young-jun reluctantly agrees, as the question of how to deal with these other factions looms large over their newly formed group. A grim possibility weighs on Shin Young-jun as he considers the nature of the beasts they might encounter in the gap, wondering if they could be as formidable as dragons. His gaze falling, he knows that everyone's thoughts are consumed by their families, a silent, shared burden. In a world ravaged by monstrous threats, they can only pray for deliverance from the unfolding disaster. Lieutenant Kim, acknowledging the grim reality, agrees that such a terrifying scenario is not impossible. He then voices his concern that while they might acquire the necessary resources, it will be an arduous task, a sentiment Shin Young-jun echoes, before Lieutenant Kim emphasizes the critical danger of being left alone and vulnerable. Shin Young-jun shifts the focus to immediate priorities, stating they must prioritize their own safety, a pragmatic approach Lieutenant Kim readily accepts, urging them to concentrate on that for now. The weight of their conversation settles upon Shin Young-jun, his expression lost in deep contemplation. Lieutenant Kim, too, grapples with the daunting challenges ahead, his concern evident. Ultimately, the broader purpose of their struggle becomes clear. Only through their own survival can they hope to find and save their families. Shin Young-jun listens intently as his comrade explains the dire situation, noting that despite having over 100 soldiers in their base, only 5 are actual faction members. He confirms the low count, acknowledging the need to awaken more people, though he finds the process annoying. Another soldier chimes in, suggesting it won't be easy, and questions the seated man about his own awakening, implying that if one isn't in a faction, they're considered a noob. Changing the subject, Shin Young-jun asks Min Jae if he's a marksman. The seated soldier explains that his marksmanship must have been detected, leading to his selection, a fact he finds amusing. Shin Young-jun then inquires about his specific talent, to which Min Jae clarifies that his eyesight and focus are enhanced when he shoots. Concerned, Shin Young-jun wonders if such an ability is truly beneficial, worrying about their dwindling bullet supply. Min Jae simply smirks, dismissing his concern. He then demonstrates his confidence, implying that where a normal soldier needs 10 shots, he needs far fewer. Continuing to explain the efficiency of his enhanced senses, Min Jae confidently states that he would only need 2 bullets to accomplish his task. As if to punctuate his point, 2 spent casings eject from his rifle, glowing with a faint, golden aura. A smile spreads across Shin Young-jun's face, realizing that with such abilities, taking down monsters would become significantly easier. He places a hand on Min Jae's shoulder, confirming his assessment and declaring that Min Jae would be in charge of hunting monsters from that point forward. Without hesitation, Min Jae snaps to attention, offering a crisp salute. Shin Young-jun looks down, a more somber expression replacing his smile, muttering that this was the only good news they had, and at least they could survive for a while. Turning to Soo-hyuk, his expression grim, he reminds them of their dire situation. There were only 5 of them left in the entire school. With a determined gaze, Shin Young-jun resolves that to survive, they must continue to move forward. He watches as the soldiers are forced to retreat towards the school, a monstrous reptilian creature looming before them. Amidst the chaos, one soldier, Soo-hyuk, collapses, overwhelmed by terror, his body trembling uncontrollably as he cries out that he cannot continue, certain he will die. Shin Young-jun approaches him, attempting to calm his panicked comrade, urging him to compose himself so they can discuss their next move. He looks on, a deep concern etched across his face, when suddenly, Min Jae launches himself forward, delivering a powerful, reckless kick to the monster's head, a surprising display of aggression. Shin Young-jun turns, his gaze fixed on the unexpected turn of events. As he continues to try and reassure Soo-hyuk, who remains frozen in fear. Min Jae, now fully engaged, fights with a ferocity that makes his comrades question if he was always so reckless, taking on multiple reptilian monsters at once. Shin Young-jun watches the scene unfold, a new concern replacing his previous worry, wondering if Min Jae has truly lost his mind. A quiet moment passes, the air thick with unspoken thoughts. Then, a comrade breaks the quiet, addressing Shin Young-jun directly, asking to speak with him about something important. Taken aback by the suddenness of the inquiry, Shin Young-jun questions the urgency, But his comrade presses on, convinced he is concealing something. The other soldier reveals his observations, noting a pattern. Every time Shin Young-jun requests a little talk after training, he returns noticeably stronger, hinting at a hidden combat method. Caught red-handed, Shin Young-jun internally concedes, acknowledging the truth of his comrade's deduction. He attempts to explain his secrecy, stating it was for the team's benefit, and that his comrade is the only one aware of his true capabilities. With a heavy sigh, he leans against a wall, realizing he can no longer keep his abilities hidden. As they walk together, the conversation continues, the weight of the revelation settling between them. Shin Young-jun then shifts the topic, mentioning that Min-jae had fortunately recovered his composure and was now focused on motivating the other troops. Having made the decision to focus on his cooking, he continues his work in the kitchen. Suddenly, a system notification flashes, declaring him Awakens Shin Young-jun, no longer able to hide his true strength, and revealing his F-rank chef skill tied to his training in cooking. His gaze falls upon the 82 points displayed, and a thought crosses his mind. I think I can use these. He knows that in games, points are typically used to buy items from a store. A hopeful expression crosses his face as he wonders if something similar exists here. His finger points, and the holographic screen shifts, confirming his suspicion. See, Point Store. A soft chime sounds. The system interface expands, revealing the Point Store as it opens. He looks intently at the newly opened holographic store, filled with various items. He acknowledges the system's message, understanding that his current abilities alone won't suffice. Curiosity piqued, he reaches out to explore the newly revealed Point Store. The initial offerings display various combat-oriented tools, such as axes and knives. He observes that many items cater to combat classes, a realization that brings a slight frown to his face, especially when he spots something as mundane as rye bread listed for purchase. His hand hovers over the holographic image of the bread. A hint of confusion enters his voice as he questions the unexpected item. Further browsing reveals powerful stat-boosting potions and skill books, but their exorbitant prices are immediately apparent. He sighs, confirming his current inability to acquire such valuable items. Deciding to prioritize, he resolves to revisit the more complex skills and traits later, for now focusing on what he can manage. Holding a dagger, Shin Young-jun muses, I'm using Chef's special skill and Chef's eye well. This newfound aptitude is confirmed by a system notification, displaying novice dagger proficiency. He recalls a time, long before his current circumstances, when he was merely a chef who couldn't even cut a carrot properly. Now, practicing with multiple daggers, he observes, I haven't even tried sword fighting, let alone swordsmanship, but I'm already pretty good with this. A thoughtful expression crosses his face, as he considers the implications of his rapid progress. Holding a simple kitchen knife, he wonders, if this is novice, then what should master level be like? Another system message appears, revealing he also possesses novice flame affinity. He remembers this particular skill, which appeared when he accidentally burned a pot. Now, with flames dancing in his hands, he declares, I can hold flames in my hands for 5 seconds. This 0-point skill, I'll keep practicing it. Despite his efforts, he finds himself frustrated, muttering, I don't feel like I'm getting stronger. His status window confirms his suspicion. His novice cooking proficiency remains stubbornly at 0% experience. Yet, he acknowledges the immediate benefits of his culinary creations, stating, it tastes great, and I must say, it's strangely energizing. He then realizes the deeper impact, adding, and my stats in the status panel have increased. A fellow soldier, intrigued, asks, really? Shin Young-jun explains, I noticed that the dishes I ate that were attached to the status window are still there. He reflects that no one else seemed to notice, before a thought clarifies everything. He muses, isn't that because I've awakened my abilities? I can see the status window, but then concludes, oh, that's why. As other soldiers enjoy their meals, a narration box clarifies that the effects of the consumed dishes do not appear in the system message, making their benefits invisible to others. He confirms this, stating, it won't tell me about the effects of your cooking at all. His comrade, still unaware of the full implications, offers encouragement. Well, I'm sure you'll improve my abilities if you got a defense. He then asks, so how does it feel? Shin Young-jun responds with a hint of awe. It's huge, because my strength stat was 10 and it suddenly increased by 3. He elaborates on the significance. It's only plus 30% on paper, but it's so much greater. He confirms, with a knowing look, the buffs are already kicking in. As the unique properties of his cooking continued to manifest, a thought occurred to him. If Min-jae's assessment was correct, then at least in their case, the novice skills weren't underperforming. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim, contemplating the broader implications, mused, if only that kind of skill could be applied to the entire battalion. Suddenly, a soldier sprinted through the barracks, his voice echoing with urgency, Sergeant Shin, we need you. Shin Young-jun, caught off guard, could only question the sudden alarm. Over at the barracks department? What in the world was going on? His face contorted with fear, he realized the gravity of the situation. Before him stood a monstrous entity. Unlike anything they had faced before, a new type of monster. It was completely different from those lizards they had grown accustomed to. Shin Young-jun walks across the military base, greeted by Min-jae and Soo-hyuk. Min-jae asks him about his presence. wondering if something urgent has come up, as Soo-hyuk adds that they were keeping an eye on the area. Min-jae then reveals that something happened before they were caught by a monster, prompting Soo-hyuk to ask what kind of monster appeared. Lieutenant Kim joins the group, explaining that its appearance is completely different from any they've seen so far, and that Young-jun will know it when he sees it. Young-jun looks on, a sense of unease settling over him, as he hears the description of the creature. Min-jae continues, describing how the monster moved against the peak over them, and Soo-hyuk reiterates his question about its type. Young-jun, still processing the information, can only utter that it sounds like a normal guard. A sudden realization dawns in his eyes, as the true nature of the threat becomes clear. The source of his concern is revealed, a swarm of monstrous, bat-like creatures with glowing red eyes, emerging from a dark, cavernous opening. From the dark, rocky landscape, a colossal, scaly form begins to emerge, its single red eye glowing ominously. As more of its massive body becomes visible, a voice exclaims, "Oh, I see it now." The creature shifts its immense weight, prompting another cry. It's moving. Now fully revealed, the reptilian behemoth, wreathed in a dark, smoky aura, begins its inexorable advance. With a thunderous crash, one of its massive feet slams down, shaking the very earth. Its single, glowing red eye intensifies, radiating power as cracks spiderweb across the air around it. From an observation deck, Shin Young-jun and a soldier watch in horror, a collective gasp of terror escaping them. The soldier raises binoculars to his eyes, trying to make sense of the approaching nightmare. A look of pure dread washes over Young-jun's face as he realizes, shit, it's coming this way. As the massive reptilian creature continued its approach, the communication systems failed, leaving Shin Young-jun in disbelief, unable to get any signals on the radio either. He wondered what in the world was happening. The sheer scale of the approaching threat was undeniable. That thing had to be over 3 meters long. Observing the situation alongside Lieutenant Kim, Shin Young-jun noted that while smaller lizards were common, this massive creature must be their boss. Lieutenant Kim agreed, acknowledging that monsters lived everywhere, but the lizards that had appeared previously were only 1 or 2 meters, making this new threat significantly larger. Shin Young-jun's expression tightened, wondering if this one had come from somewhere else entirely. As if to confirm his fears, a swarm of smaller, distinct reptilian creatures began to emerge from the terrain, their scaly bodies writhing across the ground. There were more than 20 of them, all different types of lizards, and the thought of them attacking all at once was daunting. Despite the overwhelming numbers, Lieutenant Kim remained resolute, believing they would simply have to use a lot of bullets, but it wouldn't be a problem. Despite the overwhelming numbers, Lieutenant Kim asserts that they already understand the monster's weaknesses, but a strange feeling persists. He acknowledges their numerical disadvantage, yet there's a deeper concern brewing. Shin Young-jun, sensing the unease, questions if this unusual calm could be a trap. He then inquires about the monster's growth, learning it began to expand this morning at dawn. Lieutenant Kim confirms there was nothing out of the ordinary initially, but the creatures simply continued to grow without cessation. Shin Young-jun ponders the lack of aggression, wondering if their inactions suggest they belong to a different, more strategic group. A flicker of concern crosses Lieutenant Kim's face, as the implications of such intelligence begin to sink in. The massive reptilian creature looms in the distance, its imposing form a silent testament to the growing threat. Lieutenant Kim's expression hardens as he realizes the truth. The monsters are not attacking because they are patiently waiting for an opening. As the military personnel observed the unusual stillness of the reptilian monsters, a collective unease settled over them, leaving them to question the strange situation. Lieutenant Kim, continuing his analysis, explained that the monsters understood their maneuvers and would not fall for simple tricks, which was why they were merely hovering near their scouting positions. Still, something about the situation bothered him, as he pondered if the reptilian creatures could truly possess such intelligence. Shin Young-jun offered a chilling comparison, reminding him of the cunning intelligence of wolves, and noting that these bipedal monsters were likely even more formidable. Lieutenant Kim conceded the point, agreeing with Sergeant Shin, but then proposed a direct assault, wondering if they should simply attack first. The suggestion caught Shin Young-jun off guard, as he echoed the question, considering the implications of such a move. He quickly countered, realizing the tactical disadvantage, explaining that they were already at a disadvantage within their base, and venturing outside would only worsen their position. Lieutenant Kim acknowledged the truth of his words, agreeing that they couldn't go out, and decided they would instead keep a close eye on the monster's activity, waiting for them to make the first move. With a heavy sigh, he issued a final command, instructing the men to remain vigilant and careful. Shin Young-jun considers the precarious situation, knowing that if the monsters managed to breach their defenses, the entire base would be in grave danger. The pervasive fear of the unknown enemy weighs heavily on everyone, reinforcing the urgent need to eliminate them for the safety of all. A monstrous silhouette looms on the horizon, a stark reminder of the lurking danger. Amidst the tension, the base finds solace in the small comforts, like the chef's special sauce, known for its calming effect, or the simple yet effective calming bean sprouts, a testament to the chef's ability to provide a sense of normalcy. Lieutenant Kim remarks to Soo-hyuk that at least they have a chef like him, whose culinary skills keep the monsters at bay, at least from their stomachs. He adds that they still control the chef, and there's a chance he could help them if asked, but for now, it's better to stay put. The chef's special comfort sauce offers another layer of reassurance, prompting Soo-hyuk to express his gratitude for Sergeant Shin, whose cooking is far superior to military rations. He even jokes about getting fat from the delicious meals. Such dishes, like the chef's faith-inducing braised pork and vegetables, are a vital source of morale for the weary soldiers. As Lieutenant Kim and his comrades observe the ongoing situation, Shin Young-jun admits it would be a lie to say he wasn't worried about his family, but finds solace knowing the others in their allied squadron are also alive. Despite the constant threat, somehow, the morale of the soldiers remained remarkably high, and their defense never faltered. He watches them, acknowledging that they are all doing their best, even when utterly exhausted. Later, at a counter, Lieutenant Kim remarks, "Not much has changed, has it?" To which Shin Young-jun simply agrees, noting they are still in the same precarious position. Outside the base, the true enemy lurks, monsters as intelligent as wolves and as swift as cheetahs, patiently waiting for any mistake. Back inside, Lieutenant Kim ponders, "I wonder what will happen when their numbers swell to 200 or 300, before reassuring himself that with an awakened among them, they will be fine." Shin Young-jun then reveals that out of the 20 or so awakened, 3 are marksmen, showcasing their specialized skills. He elaborates on their prowess, describing it as crazy accurate to hit a target while firing a standard K2 assault rifle. However, a more somber thought crosses Shin Young-jun's mind, as he concludes that if they counterattack, they will be defeated, and if they keep showing their current strength, they will ultimately lose. Shin Young-jun surveys the dwindling supplies in the warehouse, a grim realization settling over him that at this rate, they will soon run out of essential food and water. He notes the stark reality that despite the critical shortage, they have only half the personnel they should, and without his support, the troops will struggle to maintain their strength. As he meticulously checks the inventory, he mutters to himself that this is all he can do for now. Suddenly, a heavy thud echoes through the air, jolting him with a jolt of alarm as a monstrous, horned visage flashes in his mind's eye, a chilling premonition of danger. He hears a voice, demanding clarification, asking if the maintenance unit in their station town has been compromised. The full, terrifying form of the monster appears in his thoughts, and he wonders in horror, could it have already overrun the entire base? A cold dread washes over him as he considers the implications, realizing the catastrophic consequences if the monsters have made their move. His eyes widen in stark terror as the full weight of the situation crashes down on him, a single, desperate thought echoing in his mind. They are in deep trouble. With all radio signals dead and communication completely cut off, he stares at the broken device, a chilling realization dawning on him. What in the world is going on? The urgency of the situation sends him scrambling, his feet slipping on the slick ground as he moves with desperate speed. His face contorts with grim understanding, the words, "This is dangerous," escaping his lips as the full scope of the threat becomes clear. He pushes himself harder, recalling a past confidence, thinking, "I said the marksman could handle it," but quickly correcting himself. But that's a story from a time when the field of view is secured. Gazing out at the encroaching darkness, he mutters, "Without light." The grim reality settles in as he surveys the base, knowing that in this impenetrable night, they'll be completely useless. With urgency in his voice, Sergeant Shin Young-jun directs his troops to their positions, specifically instructing the marksmen to secure a clear line of sight from the rooftops. As the soldiers move swiftly, taking up defensive stances, an affirmative response echoes through the ranks. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim addresses the rest of the awakened, reminding them to focus on their assigned duties. Shin Young-jun leads a contingent of soldiers through the facility's corridors, before taking up a sniper's position himself, aiming his rifle from a vantage point. Later, gathering his troops at the ammo depot, he gives clear instructions to guard the entrance. He continues to oversee the deployment, guiding more soldiers into place. Nearby, Soo-hyuk questions another soldier about the unfolding situation, receiving confirmation that the hunters are almost fully deployed. Min-jae, wearing a yellow jacket, expresses relief over the received support, wondering if the madmen they face are as strong as they are, to which Soo-hyuk can only reply with uncertainty, as Shin Young-jun listens intently. Shin Young-jun surveys the scattered communication devices, a growing unease settling over him as he realizes no signals are getting through on the radio either. He then turns to Lieutenant Kim, expressing his concern about the effectiveness of their current preparations, even as he acknowledges that the monsters may not be infinite in number. Lieutenant Kim, however, cuts him off, emphasizing the critical need for speed, warning that if they don't deal with the threat quickly, they'll be in serious trouble. Meanwhile, Soo-hyuk, focused on a holographic tactical display, reports on the mage's capabilities, confirming their ability to provide both offense and defense. He continues, explaining that while the hardcore awakened are handling the front lines, the modules should be able to provide sufficient support with their tactical functions. Lieutenant Kim observes the display, taking in the information, before turning back to Shin Young-jun and asking where they should proceed from here. Shin Young-jun, with a slight smirk, suggests that if the lieutenant is so confident in his abilities, it might be better for him to stay behind. The lieutenant's expression hardens as he retorts, that it's not like he can stop him. Under a starlit sky, a low, rumbling sound begins to emanate from the distance, the quiet night disturbed only by the gentle sway of nearby objects. Suddenly, a powerful impact echoes through the ruined landscape, shaking the very ground and sending debris flying. Lieutenant Kim, his gaze fixed through binoculars, maintains a grim composure, while Shin Youngjun's face contorts with a sudden, worried realization. A voice cuts through the tension, confirming their worst fears. They're here. As if on cue, a blinding light erupts from the horizon, its raw power pushing back the darkness of the night. The sky itself seems to crackle with energy as the brilliant glow intensifies, signaling a massive arrival. Another violent impact rocks the area, sending tremors through a nearby building. At a defensive barricade, two soldiers stand ready, their rifles aimed, awaiting the imminent threat. As the communication blackout persists, a blinding flash erupts across the landscape, followed by a concussive force that ripples through the air. From the chaos, a terrifying swarm of horned creatures emerges, charging forward with relentless speed. Another violent burst of energy tears through the sky, illuminating their monstrous forms. Their red eyes glow with malevolent intent, as their sharp claws and horns become terrifyingly clear. One of the creatures sprints ahead of the pack, a blur of dark scales and raw aggression. As the military lines brace for impact, Min-jae urgently calls out, demanding orders from his captain, while the command echoes for the troops to prepare. A nearby soldier snaps to attention, confirming the command with a sharp, "Yes, sir." The captain's voice rings out with unwavering authority, issuing the decisive command to open fire. Immediately, a volley of gunfire erupts from the military line, the soldiers unleashing a barrage against the encroaching threat. The heavy artillery unleashes its fury, a deafening roar echoing across the battlefield. As a relentless barrage of bullets tears through the night, streaking towards the advancing horde. The first impacts send a horned monster reeling, its form recoiling violently. Still, the torrent of fire continues, unyielding and precise. More monsters are caught in the deadly crossfire, their bodies twisting and falling amidst the explosions of light and debris. A monster's arm is visibly shredded, the impacts tearing through its tough hide. Another takes a direct hit to the head, its form erupting in a shower of glowing particles. The relentless assault continues, each impact sending more monsters crashing to the ground, their forms dissolving into shimmering light. From behind the firing line, Min-jae watches the devastating volley, observing the immediate effects of their coordinated attack. He knew that without the boss to draw their attention, they would need to be far more cautious. Just then, the massive horned creature, the true boss of this horde, descended from the sky, immediately drawing concentrated fire from the soldiers below. It let out a guttural roar, a primal sound that echoed across the ruined landscape. The soldiers on the rooftops recognized the immense danger, identifying it as the most formidable opponent yet. From his elevated position, Min-jae commanded the marksmen to focus all their fire on the newly arrived threat. But then, a sudden realization struck him, and he uttered a name in disbelief. A sniper rifle was poised, its scope fixed on an unseen target. His eyes widened in profound shock, unable to comprehend the unfolding events. At that critical moment, his unique ability, Chief Sai, automatically activated. A monstrous lizard man, identified as a lizard monster and known as the rarest and strongest of its kind, capable of independent thought and decision-making, charges forward with terrifying speed. Observing its relentless advance, Min-jae questions its impossible agility. Even as a barrage of bullets rains down, the creature effortlessly evades every single shot. Bullets impact the ground and air around it, but none find their mark. Despite its undeniable strength, Min-jae considers its position on the front lines a foolish gamble for a commander. He concludes that the monster is simply making itself an easy target. Unaware of the tactical assessment, the lizard monster leaps through the air, its red eyes glowing with predatory intent. It lets out a guttural roar, its fanged maw wide open in a display of raw power. A sudden, unseen force erupts, spreading outward with a violent, crackling energy. The purple-black aura expands rapidly, engulfing everything in its path. One soldier is immediately struck, recoiling violently from the impact. The shadowy wave continues its advance, knocking down more soldiers in its wake. A wider swath of the battlefield is consumed, as numerous figures collapse under the unseen assault. A pained cry escapes a soldier as the dark energy strikes them directly. Another soldier grunts in discomfort, their body tensing from the sudden impact. Even Min-jae clutches his head, a groan escaping him, as he wonders what kind of attack this could possibly be. His eyes narrow, analyzing the new threat with intense focus. And with a battle cry, all lizard strength, speed, and regeneration are momentarily boosted, sending a wave of shock through the soldiers. Furthermore, all lizards are granted bullet resistance, making them an even more formidable threat. Meanwhile, Min-jae and another soldier discover their radios are completely dead, unable to get any signals. As if the situation wasn't dire enough, a new system message flashes, indicating widespread confusion, dizziness, and nausea, affecting everyone present. The sudden onset of symptoms causes one of their holographic screens to fall, as the soldiers struggle to maintain their composure. Elsewhere, Shin Young-jun clutches his head, clearly affected by the debilitating wave. Min-jae, too, feels the effects, wondering what could be happening to them. The system declares the situation dangerous, as the unnamed soldier struggles with intense dizziness, his head spinning. He struggles on the ground, surrounded by other incapacitated soldiers, as Shin Young-jun urgently asks if he's all right, noting that all marksmen are down. From a rooftop vantage point, Shin Young-jun exclaims his disbelief at the monster's unexpected strength, while Min-jae points out the creatures themselves. The lizard monster's eye glows with malevolent purple energy. As it unleashes a terrifying roar, its form wreathed in the same ominous aura. The two soldiers watch the unfolding chaos. The effects of the monster's power taking their toll as Shin Young-jun clutches his head, realizing the system's warning didn't fully convey the debilitating confusion and dizziness now robbing everyone of their focus. With purple energy crackling around a soldier's desperate grip on their rifle, their defenses begin to crumble. Min-jae, struggling to stay upright amidst the fallen, demands to know what everyone is doing. Meanwhile, Shin Young-jun, fighting his own disorientation, desperately tries to rally himself and his comrades to focus. A violent storm raged, lightning cracking across the darkened sky, illuminating a colossal, ominous structure in the distance. Amidst the chaos, a massive, clawed limb, surrounded by a swarm of smaller, bat-like creatures, remained unyielding against a barrage of explosions. With glowing red eyes, the horned monster let out a deafening roar, asserting its dominance. From a high vantage point, Shin Young-jun watched the unfolding disaster, the lightning reflecting in his concerned gaze. A voice crackled through his comms, informing him that their guy had dropped a barrier, meaning the buffs would soon wear off. Below, soldiers desperately fired their weapons, but their bullets were useless, failing to even scratch the monstrous hide, prompting a desperate order to give all ammunition to the awakened. The reports confirmed the monster's terrifying resilience, as it seemed to have grown even stronger than before, causing Shin Young-jun to clench his fist in frustration. Standing beside him, Soo-hyuk reminded him that the awakened had called this a temporary effect, suggesting they must have been waiting for a special agent to strike. The monster, meanwhile, stood with an unsettling stillness, as if it had anticipated their every move. As the situation escalates, Soo-hyuk calls out to the assembled forces, demanding all awakened individuals gather immediately. He explains the grim reality. Ranged attacks are now utterly useless against their foe. The gravity of the situation weighs heavily on Lieutenant Kim, who acknowledges the unavoidable shift to close-quarters combat. Soo-hyuk then addresses a formation of soldiers, preparing them for the new strategy. Among them, Min-jae looks on with confusion, questioning the unusual directive. Shin Young-jun approaches Min-jae, also puzzled. Soo-hyuk, meanwhile, begins to cook something in a pan, declaring that while he will explain, his true skill is not culinary. Turning to Shin Young-jun, he asks if he was awakened before. Soo-hyuk continues to address his unit, explaining his strategy, while Min-jae confirms the unexpected benefits they've received. Admitting he doesn't fully understand the nature of these buffs, but acknowledging their timely arrival. Soo-hyuk then issues a stern warning. These enhancements are temporary, tied directly to their physical forms. He reassures them that with their training and these newfound advantages, they have a real chance, urging them to cast aside their fear. With a final, resolute command to stay safe, Soo-hyuk orders the advance, met with a unified affirmation from his troops. His gaze sharpens, a silent acknowledgement that the entire battalion now stands empowered. Turning to Min-jae, Soo-hyuk assigns him the critical task of engaging the bat swarm monster. Shin Young-jun's face contorts with fierce resolve, a primal declaration to crush the enemy. As Soo-hyuk's hand glows with a soft, ethereal light, the enhanced effect of his cooking is revealed, intensified by the quality of his ingredients. With a surge of adrenaline, Shin Young-jun, Min-jae, and the other soldiers charge forward, the former still grappling with the bewildering nature of their situation. He watches the approaching horde, a grim determination setting in as he realizes. They're getting close. The entire battalion, now supercharged with a massive boost for the day, charges forward into the fray. And the effect of the invincible chef buff manifests around Lieutenant Kim, crackling with purple energy. From the darkness, a monstrous creature with glowing red eyes emerges, its presence a chilling declaration. Here they come. The sheer force of the battle begins to tear the environment apart, sending debris raining down as Lieutenant Kim looks up in shock. The chaos is overwhelming, even for Shin Young-jun, who watches with wide, concerned eyes. But then, he leaps, a powerful purple aura surrounding him as he delivers a devastating punch, a glowing magic circle forming beneath his strike. His eyes glow red with fierce power as he lets out a primal roar. He unleashes a devastating punch, the impact reverberating through the air. Without missing a beat, he follows through with a powerful kick, sending the massive creature reeling. The monster screeches in pain, its body scraping against the ground as it's forced backward. It finally crashes into a pile of debris, sending rubble flying in every direction. But the creature is far from defeated, retaliating with a burst of crimson energy blades from its glowing red eyes. Other monsters join the fray, their combined assault erupting in a massive explosion of fire and force. Amidst the chaos, he emerges, his sword now glowing with a vibrant purple aura as he cuts through the horde. His movements leave trails of shimmering purple energy, a testament to his overwhelming power. As he continues his relentless assault, a voice calls out, urging him to stay focused and support his allies. He unleashes a flurry of purple-tinged strikes, his enhanced speed a blur as he slams into the horned monster, sending smaller creatures scattering. The tactical advisor's voice cuts through the chaos, urging him to maintain the pressure. Another glowing impact rocks the monster, but it holds its ground, its resilience unnerving. Suddenly, the monster lashes out with a sweeping attack, forcing Shin Young-jun to dodge back, narrowly avoiding the blow. He retaliates instantly with a powerful kick to its head, the advisor's voice reminding him that the lizard chieftain has grown stronger. Another strike lands, but the monster's resilience is alarming. The monster roars, pushing back with immense force, and the advisor acknowledges the difficulty, even for a top-tier chef. Shin Young-jun struggles against the relentless assault, the sheer power of the chieftain threatening to overwhelm him. The tactical advisor, his sharp eyes focused, watches the battle unfold. A system message confirms the consumption of a chocolate cookie of bravery, a dish made by a novice chef, which significantly enhances the consumer's effectiveness, causing all attributes to increase by 1 for 1 day. With newfound power coursing through him, Shin Young-jun unleashes a devastating blow, sending the horned monster reeling. He presses his advantage, declaring, "I'll show you the power of a chef." Another powerful strike connects, driving the monster back with immense force. Simultaneously, a new system message appears, indicating that the chef's special sauce is applying the Legion bravery effect, allowing control over the battlefield's mood with the Legion's bravery. From a remote location, Lieutenant Kim observes the unfolding battle, noting with satisfaction that the normal lizards are no longer a threat. He continues, his voice firm, "Brave warriors now rule the battlefield." As Shin Young-jun glows with a powerful aura, the system confirms that hostile targets will have their stats and morale slightly reduced. With an intense gaze, Shin Young-jun considers his options, knowing that his previous strategies are no longer sufficient. Meanwhile, the horned monster lunges forward, its massive claws extended, ready to tear into him. Its predatory instincts driving it, the creature prepares to unleash a brutal attack. A guttural roar escapes its maw, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth as its eyes glow with malevolent intent. Just as the monster closes in, a sudden surge of power courses through the battlefield, a system message confirming that his allies have unlocked new traits. Before the monster can land its blow, Shin Young-jun retaliates with blinding speed, striking the creature with such force that it cries out, recoiling violently from the impact. A vibrant red aura flares around him as he presses his advantage, the effects of his medium bravery having neutralized any lingering confusion. He stands firm, ready for the next phase of the fight, a challenging battle now truly underway. With a determined expression and his aura crackling, Shin Young-jun prepares to face the monster head-on. Monsters surge forward, their grotesque claws reaching as a voice warns that they are swarming the entrance. Amidst the chaos, soldiers unleash a barrage of fire, desperately trying to hold the line and concentrate all their efforts on the breach. One of them, Kwang Il, fights with grim determination, urged by a comrade to watch over the way. Another soldier delivers a powerful kick, sending a monster reeling with a guttural cry. Suddenly, a burst of orange energy erupts, signaling a devastating impact. Shin Young-jun moves with incredible speed, his form wreathed in a vibrant red aura as he unleashes his full power. He presses his attack, a fierce cry escaping him as the red energy intensifies. The monster roars in defiance, its fanged maw wide open, but a glowing blade descends, poised to deliver a decisive blow. The monster's massive form rips apart, purple energy crackling around its dissolving body, as Shin Young-jun, wreathed in a brilliant blue aura, delivers another devastating blow. Nearby, Kwang Il watches the display of power, a look of utter disbelief and awe on his face. He can't help but exclaim how incredibly awesome this new strength is. His eyes wide, he wonders aloud if the stats have doubled, demanding to know what exactly has happened. Unfazed by the questions, Shin Young-jun continues his relentless assault, his glowing blade cutting through the monstrous horde with ease. He charges forward, confident that with these newfound buffs, they will surely overcome the threat and clear the area in no time. Lieutenant Kim, observing the battle, acknowledges Shin Young-jun's crucial role, stating that he is the core of their unit. He cautions him not to let his guard down, reminding him that monsters are still pouring from the gate, and therefore, there can be no focus on support. With a determined expression, Shin Young-jun acknowledges the command, his glowing blade flashing as he declares, "Got it. Leave it to me." He continues to push through the monstrous horde, urging his comrades to hold on just a little longer, confident that victory is within their grasp. A powerful blow connects, sending a surge of green energy through the creature. Meanwhile, Kwang Il, Min Jae, and Soo Hyuk sprint forward, closing the distance on another monstrous threat. Shin Young-jun unleashes a torrent of crackling blue energy, the force of his assault blurring into a streak of pure power. He follows through with a decisive strike. Suddenly, a look of alarm crosses his face as he calls out, Kwang Il. A new, more aggressive monster, wreathed in a crimson aura, lunges at Kwang Il and Min Jae, who cry out in pain. The creature continues its relentless assault. Still reeling from the previous assault, the aggressive monster's form continues to be torn apart by an unseen force. Each impact reverberates, further dismantling its monstrous body. Finally, with a guttural shriek, the creature lets out a pained roar. Its single, malevolent eye flares with a dangerous yellow light. Before he can react, the monster lashes out, striking him with immense force. The impact sends him reeling, his eyes glowing crimson with a surge of power and fury. Unwilling to yield, he unleashes a powerful counterattack, a burst of purple energy erupting around him as he sends the monster flying. The creature is propelled backward, crashing through the air with violent force. Still trailing purple energy, the monster continues its uncontrolled flight into the darkness. Still reeling from the previous impact, he clenches his fist, a silent declaration of intent. The monster, however, lets out a guttural roar, its yellow eyes blazing with renewed fury, a dark purple aura flaring around its form as it recovers. It seems to question the audacity of its opponent, a silent challenge in its glowing gaze. But Shin Young-jun doesn't hesitate, his own purple aura intensifying as he closes the distance, launching himself into a devastating assault. His hand connects with brutal force, sending shockwaves through the air. The monster roars in agony, its maw wide open, the impact clearly taking its toll. Shin Young-jun presses his advantage, his form a blur of purple energy, relentlessly driving the creature back. The monster's glowing yellow eye narrows in a mix of pain and desperate rage, its sharp teeth bared in a silent snarl. With a final, powerful strike, he sends the creature reeling once more. Shin Young-jun continues his relentless assault, a blur of purple energy. The monster's arm recoiling violently from the impact. As its massive form is silhouetted against the stormy sky. Its red eyes blaze with pain and fury, but its defenses shatter under the barrage. The creature is sent plummeting, crashing downwards with unstoppable force, violently thrown and disoriented. Still falling, enveloped in residual energy. It finally slams into the water below, sending up a massive splash, as Shin Young-jun watches the impact. He gritted his teeth, pouring every ounce of his strength into the relentless assault. As the monster's form buckled under the impact, its body contorting amidst a violent burst of dark energy. It was thrown through the air, a guttural roar tearing from its throat. A desperate scream echoing as red slashes tore across its hide. Still, the assault continued, red energy flaring around its battered form. Its face contorted in a bloody, enraged shriek, the monster's eyes burning with an ominous red glow. Even as it fell, the crimson light in its gaze pulsed with defiance. While the young man, splattered with its blood, maintained his fierce resolve. The final, brutal impact of his attack sends a spray of crimson across the air, confirming the monster's demise. Its massive, clawed foot now lies motionless, blood still dripping onto the ravaged ground. A final, guttural krak echoes as its eye, once burning with defiance, now stares blankly into the void. The colossal form of the creature, once a terrifying presence, is now just a dark, inert mass against the cloudy sky, tangled in barbed wire. Amidst the rubble and shattered structures, the monster lies utterly defeated, its reign of terror brought to an end. The battle is truly over, leaving behind a scene of devastation and the silent testament of its fallen foe. Having secured victory, Shin Young-jun surveys the scene, addressing his assembled unit with a calm, yet firm, query. Is everyone okay? His expression remains serious as he warns them not to lower their guard, reminding them that more monsters could still be lurking, and orders major officers to confirm the status of their unit members. The soldiers, some smiling in relief, others still wary, begin to process the aftermath of their hard-won battle. Still reeling from the recent confrontation, he finds himself unable to get a clear read on the situation, as all radio signals remain stubbornly silent. A growing unease settles over him, wondering what could possibly be happening. Meanwhile, in a different part of the devastated area, two soldiers survey the damage, a grim reminder of how easily their actions could be neutralized, even in a seemingly controlled situation. Despite the communication blackout, a holographic display flickers to life before him, revealing a world event, occupation battle status screen, confirming successful control over Area 1 and highlighting a trait-level ability, provisionally designated as world-level influence. He observes the various battalion statuses, taking in the percentages and unofficial rankings displayed on the screen. As the sun begins to set, a small, glowing orb materializes in his hand, the tangible reward for achieving first place in the recent event. A faint smile touches his lips as he acknowledges the achievement, muttering to himself about securing the top spot. In the chaotic aftermath, the streets teemed with both military personnel and civilians, all moving with a desperate urgency. From a shattered window, Shin Young-jun cried out, his voice strained with effort. He desperately called for aid, urging those below to bring the severely wounded here. It's over. Stay with me. His pleas continued, asking for some water. Mr. Park, are you there? With his hand outstretched, he continued to direct the rescue efforts, prioritizing the most urgent cases. After the battle subsided, the awakened individuals possessing healing powers became the busiest people, and Shin Young-jun, exhausted, sat amidst the wounded, a faint green glow emanating from his body. His hand, now radiating a vibrant green energy, gently touched a wounded limb, the injury visibly mending under his touch. Thankfully, the combined efforts of these healers and the regular medics were sufficient to manage the dire situation, though he could only think, please, gods. His hands glowing with a soft green light, Shin Young-jun continues his tireless work, mending the grievous wounds of the fallen. As the injured man beneath his touch gasps, the pain is gone. He calls out, urging the others forward, the others now. Lieutenant Kim watches him, acknowledging the immense pressure. You're fighting to save everyone. Later, Min-jae approaches him, offering a word of praise. Good work, Hyung. But Shin Young-jun quickly deflects the credit, insisting, no, it wasn't me. It was Min-jae, Kwang-il, and Soo-hyuk. Min-jae then turns his attention to a wounded comrade, noting, they're both exhausted and laid out. Lieutenant Kim, still assessing the situation, asks Shin Young-jun, by the way, I haven't seen the battalion commander. He continues, I don't know. I haven't seen him at the beginning of the battle. A worried tone enters his voice as he adds, where'd he go? It'll be hard for the rest of us to clean up the mess without him. Shin Young-jun's expression darkens, a clear sign of his disappointment. After the battle, Lieutenant Kim continues his report. Did you check it? How far can we go to relief? Shin Young-jun responds, I think we've secured up to the mountain ridge. Despite earlier communication failures, the military team confirms their success, as Min-jae announces they've secured the mountain range, standing over the defeated lizard-like monsters. This was the very mountain range where they had been stationed, a strategic point now firmly under their control. Shin Young-jun considers the implications, realizing that besides their own unit, the only other soldiers spread across the mountain range were these very lizards. He lets out a soft ah of understanding. He wonders if anyone else was involved with those occupying the mountain, his thoughts turning to the broader context of their mission. As one of his comrades confirms his suspicion, stating, if you're right, the group stands over more defeated god-eaters, the formidable lizards they had just vanquished. A glowing display confirms the grim reality, with a voice agreeing, yeah, I guess that's what it means. The weight of this realization settles on Shin Young-jun's face, his expression a mix of concern and growing unease. But the unsettling discoveries don't end there. Another comrade asks, what else is there? As a narration box reveals the most troubling detail, but where we were stationed, there was no sign of a battalion. Shin Young-jun's resolve hardens, thinking, at this point, we can't leave them out, as he grips his sword. He offers a slight, knowing smile, acknowledging the inherent difficulty of their current predicament. His teammate questions the reason for such a grim assessment, recalling the previous day's battle at the isolated outpost. Though the previous engagement was complicated, they ultimately held the advantage, yet there remained a significant difference between merely defending a position and actively seizing a stronghold. Even in a defensive posture, facing the onslaught of monstrous creatures, a single misstep could have proven catastrophic. He continues, noting the increasing number of awakenings among their ranks. And his teammate suggests that combining these new abilities with the buffs from his cooking would make things easy. However, Shin Young-jun quickly dismisses the idea, warning against relying too heavily on such advantages. The reason for his caution becomes clear as he prepares a spread of quality ingredients, explaining that each dish requires at least 4 to 5 hours of meticulous preparation. He sighs in exasperation, realizing that the effort involved in his cooking is far from simple. Having meticulously prepared a variety of dishes, he reflects that he had been readying himself for an invasion for a long time. Min-jae considers the options, remarking that if he had to choose one, it would be the dish granting the ability to summon a swarm of bats, praising the incredible quality of the meat. He then concedes that such a feat would indeed be possible. Surveying the grotesque pile of monster corpses before them, Min-jae admits he had underestimated the situation. Shin Young-jun suggests they discuss the matter later, to which Min-jae agrees. Suddenly, a new sight catches his eye, prompting a surprised exclamation. He warns the others to stay back, as another soldier points out the presence of a truck. Min-jae then laments the sheer volume, feeling as though they are endlessly burying bodies. Observing the massive monster corpse, the soldier wonders how they can dispose of them all, unable to burn or bury such a quantity. Later, Shin Young-jun activates a holographic interface, asking if anyone has seen anything like it before. The screen displays a list of mysterious options, including an invitation from Lord Balark and Netherrealm's keys. He admits to having seen them, but remains unsure which to choose. Min-jae listens as Shin Young-jun reiterates that he has looked at the options, but is still undecided. Still grappling with the mysterious choices before him, he wonders aloud which path to take, but Min-jae offers a blunt assessment, reminding him that his inexperience means his choice is largely irrelevant, and that he feels a sense of impending doom regardless. As other soldiers, including Kwang-il and Soo-hyuk, stand by, Min-jae assures him that no one will complain about his decision, implying a trust in his judgment or perhaps a shared resignation. Min-jae's expression darkens, revealing the underlying tension as he laments their inability to consult their commander. With a sigh of resignation, Shin Young-jun makes his choice, the holographic interface vanishing as he commits to a path. Min-jae immediately questions his decision, but Shin Young-jun reveals his selection: noble contract, Ramana. The conversation shifts to a more practical, yet equally perplexing, matter, as Min-jae asks if they will need chariots. Now running alongside his comrades, Shin Young-jun asserts that while they may not understand the implications now, clarity will come soon enough, as they are bound to encounter whatever lies ahead. Min-jae expresses lingering doubt, acknowledging the possibility that someone else might have already chosen the same path, yet ultimately places his trust in Shin Young-jun, giving him the go-ahead. Shin Young-jun's face hardens with resolve, ready to face the consequences of his decision. He prepares to activate the chosen contract, his finger hovering over the glowing interface. With a decisive motion, he presses against the shimmering screen. A sharp, electronic sound accompanies a ripple of energy spreading across the interface. The system confirms his selection, announcing that the mobile fortress Ramana has been chosen, and its summoning power is now granted to Shin Young-jun. With a sudden, violent crack, the ground beneath them begins to glow and fracture. Min-jae observes the unfolding event, realizing the implications of the power now flowing through his comrade, while Shin Young-jun, enveloped in a faint aura, declares his intent to summon it immediately. A confident smile spreads across his face. With a deep, resonating hum, a massive, intricate mechanical structure, accompanied by smaller units, begins to rise from the earth. Both Shin Young-jun and Min-jae gaze up in awe at the newly manifested mobile fortress. As the mobile fortress Ramana materialized, a system notification confirmed the acquisition of a new skill, but the sudden shift left Shin Young-jun reeling, unable to get any signals on his radio, wondering what in the world was happening. Meanwhile, his companions, Min-jae and Kwang Il, were equally stunned, questioning the sheer scale of the fortress and if its immense size was due to the sheer number of corpses it contained. Deciding to investigate further, the group agreed to head to the barracks to test out the new summon. Before leaving, he instructed unseen personnel to finish cleaning, receiving confirmation that the task would be completed. With their decision made, the three quickly made their way towards the barracks. The journey was swift. But upon arrival, Shin Young-jun found himself frustrated, realizing there simply wasn't enough room at the barracks to properly test the massive fortress. Shin Young-jun muses to himself, noting that while he's been gaining some weight, he's also been getting stronger. He continues to eat, fueling his growth. Reflecting on his progress, feeling his own power increase, and observing the troops' training going well, understanding that every point of buff completion contributes to his experience. A soft thud echoes from outside his room. As Lieutenant Kim's voice calls out, "Hey, Young-jun." A relieved smile spreads across the lieutenant's face as he confirms, "There you are." Young-jun shifts, the sound of movement filling the small space. As Lieutenant Kim stands in the hallway, having located him in room 3, a sense of urgency permeates the air as a radio crackles with static, its signal lost, and a voice laments. No signals on the radio either. The frustration is palpable, followed by a bewildered query. What? What in the world is going on? Amidst this growing confusion, the scene shifts to a military barracks, where Shin Young-jun stands at attention, offering a crisp salute to Lieutenant Kim, who greets him with a knowing smile. Lieutenant Kim approaches Soo-hyuk in the barracks, offering a word of praise, acknowledging the difficult time he'd had, and commending his good work. Soo-hyuk humbly responds that he only did what was necessary, but Kim quickly dismisses the notion that people without ability are needed, especially if they're just a chef. This thought of Shin Young-jun, the cook's sergeant, crosses his mind, as if from someone who can see the obvious. Kim's expression hardens, accusing Soo-hyuk of talking a good game, but always running and hiding when things get tough and are left to others. He then shifts his tone, expressing gratitude that Soo-hyuk and his men awakened so well, revealing he had already called his contacts, just in case. His face now grim, Kim delivers the sobering news that he doesn't have any good news. Soo-hyuk, concerned, inquires about the two people they sent to the upper units. Kim, now seated and looking down, admits he doesn't think they're doing too well, explaining that with real-time data, they should have received news by now if things were fine. Later, alone and gazing out a window, Kim wonders what would have happened if he had been the one sent instead. A monstrous reptilian creature looms, a stark reminder of the ever-present danger, as a voice laments that no one could have possibly escaped its clutches. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim and Soo-hyuk discuss a new development, with Soo-hyuk mentioning a new cook who prepares excellent battle rations, confirming that this is indeed the plan. Soo-hyuk, however, expresses his longing for something more substantial, asking if they can't just eat real food. Lieutenant Kim apologizes, explaining that they are in a state of emergency, and everyone must consume rations to conserve resources. He then asserts his authority, stating that no one can contest him since he is in charge. Soo-hyuk, however, looks away with a hint of apprehension, admitting he doesn't know if he'd want to eat those rations. Meanwhile, glowing hands prepare a special treat, designed to help awakeners whose mana is dangerous, with the offer extended to Lieutenant Kim if he wishes to be awakened as well. Lieutenant Kim ponders what those who were already awakened ate, recalling his previous report about the necessity of such measures in case of monster attacks. Soo-hyuk, still processing the information, questions the idea of using food to awaken powers, wondering what difference it makes if he eats it. With a sigh, he acknowledges the situation. There's truly nothing he can do about it. Lieutenant Kim, observing his subordinate's resignation, reminds him that he's the only officer left in their battalion. In these uncertain times, the military stands as the sole protector of the people, or rather, the only semblance of protection left. He will safely become that protection. Soo-hyuk, still processing the weight of this responsibility, concedes that he has no choice but to put up with it, as Lieutenant Kim then offers. Actually, there might be some spare food. But the young officer quickly rejects the offer, declaring he's eating his own rations. Lieutenant Kim, unfazed, simply states that the monsters are leaving, and he's letting it slide, adding that Soo-hyuk shouldn't be such a wake-up call. A determined expression settles on Soo-hyuk's face, before a soft thud echoes from the door. As he reaches for the handle, making his exit, Shin Young-jun stands in a room, a thoughtful expression on his face. He reflects, I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. But ever since the mountains became our territory, the monster attacks have been cut in half or less. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim addresses his subordinates, Min Jae and Kwang Il, explaining, we still get the occasional one, but it's generally subdued. He continues, I'm using them as tools for awakening more people. Back in his room, Shin Young-jun nods slightly, acknowledging, that's good. That means things are stabilizing. Lieutenant Kim, still with his subordinates, adds, we did the hard work while you were lying there. Everyone worked hard. Elsewhere, Soo-hyuk walks away, his bandaged ankle visible, a question forming in his mind. So there's really no treatment for it? Reflecting on the situation, Shin Young-jun laments that the healer who promised treatment should have arrived by now. He acknowledges that too much time has passed, and though he's in good health, he still struggles with walking. A somber expression crosses his face, his thoughts heavy with unspoken burdens. Nearby, Soo-hyuk observes him with concern, noticing the weight of his friend's distress. Shin Young-jun's mind drifts to a chaotic memory of monsters, a moment of regret echoing. If only I hadn't asked him to come back then. Overwhelmed by guilt, he whispers, I'm sorry. I blame myself for that. As Shin Young-jun's face contorts in anguish, Soo-hyuk firmly tells him, it's not your fault, so don't make that face. Soo-hyuk continues, reminding him that the person in question didn't even understand the situation, yet still returned for him. You're the reason I'm still alive, he insists, so don't you dare blame yourself for all those people. Placing a comforting hand on his shoulder, Soo-hyuk concludes, you're why we are still all here. Soo-hyuk kneels beside Shin Young-jun, who sits quietly, his hand resting gently on the other man's knee. His gaze is steady, filled with a quiet resolve, as he prepares to speak. Then, with a gentle suggestion, he proposes they step outside to see something important. The vibrant hues of sunset fade into the deep expanse of night. As Soo-hyuk pushes Shin Young-jun's wheelchair beneath the stars, asking if his role is now that of an attendant, a term Shin Young-jun questions. Around the wheelchair, faint purple particles begin to shimmer, catching the starlight. Soo-hyuk elaborates, explaining that attendants care for the sick and weak, those who cannot move on their own, prompting Shin Young-jun to realize it's like him, but without the ability to fight. Looking up at the shimmering sky, Soo-hyuk confirms, that's the essence of it. As the purple light intensifies around him, Shin Young-jun looks up with a dawning realization, a profound understanding of what it means to be human. The map reveals crucial intelligence. While these new rifts show no connection to others, they do allow for the detection of rift owners within a 2-kilometer radius, a detail that could prove invaluable for strategic planning. This new information is precisely why Soo-hyuk had sought him out. Indeed, he confirms, he has uncovered 2 significant things. Looking up at the vast, star-filled sky, he reveals that they are expecting visitors tomorrow. A sudden realization dawns on Shin Young-jun, wondering if these visitors imply something far more dangerous. Meanwhile, a hand grips a knife, its blade glinting subtly. Soo-hyuk adds, with a knowing glance, that it would be wise for them to conceal their true capabilities. Shin Young-jun gazes forward, his expression thoughtful, as a large house stands quietly in the distance. Above, the night sky slowly gives way to the first hints of dawn. As the sun rises high, painting the clouds in brilliant hues, and the day fully awakens. Deep within a dense forest, a military unit moves cautiously, their objective clear. There's a large house ahead. Min Jae, full of youthful energy, points ahead, urging them on, asking if they should really go over there. As they press on, Kwang Il glances back, a sense of unease settling over the group, realizing there must be other soldiers nearby. Meanwhile, deeper in the woods, a civilian woman clutches her child, both terrified, as a man looks on with concern, the child crying out for their mother. Back with the unit, Min Jae's resolve hardens, proclaiming their survival, while Lieutenant Kim rallies the troops, commanding everyone to move forward towards the house. As the unit closes in on their objective, a voice cuts through the air, urgently pointing towards a large, imposing gate that marks their destination. A scouting squad reports a group of 20 individuals approaching the military base, their clothes dirty and faces disheveled, expected to reach the unit within the hour. It is the morning of the 11th day since the attack, and Lieutenant Kim observes the distant landscape through binoculars, with Shin Young-jun standing beside him. He notes their movement, crossing the river and attempting to enter the military base, wondering aloud where they could possibly be coming from. As the group of civilians makes their way through the dense forest, the lieutenant questions what their next course of action should be. Shin Young-jun considers their plight, reasoning that they likely have nowhere else to go, and if they've traveled this far, they should be accepted. With a firm resolve, he declares his decision to save them. Later, under the vast expanse of the starry night sky, the lieutenant looks up, a thoughtful expression on his face. He ponders the situation, questioning if these are the very people Sergeant Shin had been discussing. A military truck is then dispatched, moving out into the night. A large group of civilians, disheveled and numerous, gathers in the military base's courtyard, their presence a stark contrast to the organized military environment. Amidst the chaos, Shin Young-jun steps forward, attempting to bring order to the crowd, urging everyone to calm down and form a single line. As the civilians begin to comply, he instructs them to write down their names, assuring them that the military will now take care of them. Lieutenant Kim observes the process, noting the sheer number of new arrivals, 25 individuals, both men and women, who now need accommodation. Shin Young-jun proposes a solution, suggesting they move the current third-floor dormitory residents to the second floor to make space for the new civilians on the third. Lieutenant Kim questions if they shouldn't control the numbers more strictly. Undeterred, Shin Young-jun issues new orders, directing his subordinates to begin cleaning the second floor immediately. A short while later, a new figure arrives at the base, prompting Kwang Il to ask Soo-hyuk if that isn't the commander. Soo-hyuk confirms the identity, adding with a hint of sarcasm that he's here to play executive. The commander then addresses the assembled soldiers with a formal greeting, announcing his presence to everyone. Lieutenant Kim Hyun-sek, currently in command of the unit, addresses the newly arrived civilians, assuring them of their safety and instructing them to relax and follow evacuation procedures. As soldiers affirm their understanding, Lieutenant Kim reassures the crowd, telling them not to worry. Meanwhile, Sergeant Shin Young-jun turns to Min Jae, asking about the situation, expressing his reluctance to hear bad news, only for Min Jae to reveal the civilians are starving. Shin Young-jun quickly dismisses the concern, stating it's fine and that food will be provided. With a determined expression, he reiterates his assurance, promising to handle the paperwork and preparations. He then addresses Min Jae and other soldiers, urging them to get moving, asking where Min Jae and the others are. Putting an arm around Min Jae, he suggests they go have a word. As they walk across the field, Shin Young-jun calls out to Sergeant Min Jae. He instructs Min Jae and the other senior soldiers that if he's not around, they are the most senior and should go to the living quarters instead. Min Jae acknowledges the order, and Shin Young-jun approves of his answer. Having taken charge of the new arrivals, he instructs his subordinates to guide them, ensuring their safety and integration. He assures them he will personally verify their progress with the commander, emphasizing the importance of immediately addressing any issues that arise. Looking directly at Min Jae, he adds, and Young-jun, make sure the food distribution is handled properly. He reiterates the urgency, knowing everyone is hungry and that meals must be distributed as soon as they are prepared, questioning if adding 25 extra servings will truly be problem-free. Min Jae responds with a respectful, if slightly strained, "Why yes, sir." Internally, Shin Young-jun grapples with the reality that increasing meals for the 25 survivors, on top of the 99 soldiers, will inevitably strain resources, forcing him to lie to his own men about the situation. He then addresses the larger group, instructing them that the soldiers will manage the situation for now, and that everyone must follow their instructions without question. Min Jae and the other soldiers acknowledge the command, while one of them observes that everyone has been under different kinds of stress, suggesting they all need to calm down, believing they are now safe. He wonders if he is the only one who truly dislikes the current situation, but ultimately, they can only obey their commander. Addressing the gathered civilians and soldiers, Shin Young-jun explains that when their officers tried to lead, no one listened, and it is a soldier's duty to protect the civilians who stand by them. Another soldier observes that even the arrogant Lieutenant Kim Hyun-sek is now following Shin Young-jun, suggesting perhaps they only care about status. Min Jae, listening intently, ponders the implications of this observation. Shin Young-jun reassures the civilians that they are safe now, and the soldiers are happy to protect them. Later, Min Jae admits that while Shin Young-jun might be greedy and only care for money, he is at least good with words. Shin Young-jun, however, states this is not the time for such thoughts, and he will go to the cafeteria while Min Jae takes care of the civilians. Min Jae agrees. As he departs, Shin Young-jun tells Min Jae to take some food with him, before quickly excusing himself. He leads a diverse group of civilians and soldiers through a sterile, brightly lit hallway, their footsteps echoing as a young child dashes ahead. Turning to an elderly man, he calmly explains that the third floor isn't the highest point of safety, but the man, weary from the climb, insists he can't ascend any further. Shin Young-jun reassures him, explaining that with monsters on the first floor, their current location is the safest in the entire building. Nearby, Soo-hyuk shifts uncomfortably, a bead of sweat tracing his temple, clearly not sharing the same sense of security. Meanwhile, Min Jae discovers a stack of water bottles, finally able to breathe a sigh of relief from the oppressive heat and exhaustion. Kwang Il, however, complains about the lack of hot water, reminding Min Jae that this is hardly a hotel. The group gathers once more, the soldiers listening intently as the elderly man speaks. They continue to move, settling into their new, temporary home, the challenges of their survival just beginning. After the recent chaos, a sense of normalcy, however fragile, settled over the survivors as they gathered to share a meal, the dining hall bustling with a rare, comforting energy. The simple act of eating real food brought genuine smiles to many faces, with an elderly man exclaiming his joy and a young soldier echoing his sentiment, while Shin Young-jun observed their relief. The taste of steamed rice, a staple once taken for granted, now felt like an unimaginable luxury, its simple goodness surprising even those who prepared it. Despite the success of the meal, Shin Young-jun couldn't shake a lingering frustration, wishing he could cook more efficiently to meet the growing demands. His thoughts quickly turned to the dwindling stock of raw materials, a deep worry settling over him regarding the precious ingredients. Even a single meal meant a significant reduction in their overall reserves, and the stark truth was that they were rapidly running out of food, soon to be entirely dependent on emergency aid. He calculated the grim reality, realizing that at this rate, their supplies would be completely exhausted in little over a month. Breaking his somber thoughts, Lieutenant Kim approached him, a satisfied smile on his face, declaring the meal a good one, and expressing his gladness that Shin Young-jun had eaten well, though the cook felt it was more than just good. The lieutenant continued, thanking him and praising his talent, then, with a curious gaze, asked what he had done before joining their ranks. He wonders how someone could ask a soldier about their past profession, especially when a system window has just declared his job as chef, and he was literally about to say it himself. Lieutenant Kim presses him, asking what he did before the army. He replies that he was a college student, prompting Kim to ask what he studied. Internally, he finds it strange for a soldier to be asked about his job so casually, out of the blue like this. The truth is, some individuals possess the ability to see a status window that only the awakened can perceive. At least he's still able to cook. A lone soldier walks through the sterile corridors of a military facility. His thoughts heavy with the current crisis. Shin Young-jun laments the burden placed upon them, stating that they are the ones left to look after everyone. He wonders how they ever got into such a predicament, while Min Jae, exhausted, simply wishes for rest, admitting he can't endure it any longer. Shin Young-jun, his face etched with frustration, asserts that Lieutenant Kim only made things worse, leaving them to handle the fallout. Min Jae agrees, blaming the lieutenant entirely for his immaturity, and mentions the whispers circulating that Lieutenant Kim is a coward. The word cowardship hangs heavy in the air, a stark accusation. As they continue down the hallway with another soldier, Shin Young-jun wishes Lieutenant Kim would simply stay away, recalling how he was the only one who fled during a previous fight. Min Jae, however, defends the lieutenant, suggesting he had a good reason, and that there's nothing they can do about it, though he still sounds unconvinced. Shin Young-jun, exasperated, reminds him that they are fighting a war against monsters, and a commander who abandons his men is no true man, asking Min Jae if he agrees. Still reeling from the perceived failures of their leadership, Shin Young-jun voices the collective sentiment, confirming that everyone shares the same deep frustration. His thoughts drift to the man at the center of their discontent, admitting he had always harbored an unease about Lieutenant Kim. Min Jae, his back to the viewer, adds a bitter observation that the lieutenant wouldn't even fight alongside them. The question hangs heavy in the air, a damning accusation. Did Lieutenant Kim truly command them only to abandon them on the battlefield? If so, the morale of the troops would surely plummet to its lowest point. Meanwhile, in a different moment, Lieutenant Kim himself stands resolute, his expression grim as he declares the urgent need to address the situation as soon as possible. Later, under the fading light of dusk, a small group of soldiers gathers, one speculating that the lieutenant is likely just like the commander who abandoned his men and fled. Another voice questions the necessity of a meeting in the middle of the night. The response is firm and unwavering. Yes, it's necessary. Shin Young-jun, addressing the assembled figures, offers an apology for the inconvenience, but stresses that there was no time to waste. Lieutenant Kim, clad in his military uniform, attempts to justify his actions, explaining that he couldn't simply leave his subordinates feeling uncomfortable. His expression serious, he continues, revealing that he had gone to see someone, though the full context remains unspoken. Meanwhile, Min Jae, standing with Kwang Il, questions the lieutenant's vague statements, demanding to know what he's truly talking about. Lieutenant Kim, now walking away, dismisses their concerns as nothing big, having merely told the other party to pull himself in. He glances back, a hint of resignation in his eyes, acknowledging that, as expected, his words had no effect. Back with Min Jae and Kwang Il, the former expresses frustration, noting that they claim the soldiers are free to offer advice, yet their concerns are ignored. A group of soldiers, including Shin Young-jun, Min Jae, Kwang Il, and Soo Hyuk, stand together, their faces reflecting a shared sentiment of discontent. Shin Young-jun's frustration boils over, as he vehemently curses the bastard who clearly doesn't care about them. His face contorted in anger, he delivers a final, scathing indictment, calling the situation a piece of shit. He asserts that the current situation is not to be taken lightly, as their very survival hangs in the balance, explaining that this grave concern is precisely why he called this meeting. Addressing the gathered soldiers, he then presents his initial suggestion, which is met with a questioning glance from Min-jae, as he declares their course of action must be to remove Lieutenant Kim. Min-jae's eyes widen in disbelief, questioning if he truly intends to go to such an extreme. Soo-hyuk, too, looks on with apprehension, wondering if this is truly a sound decision. Min-jae confronts Shin Young-jun directly, demanding to know what is wrong with him, arguing that they cannot simply dispose of a lieutenant. Shin Young-jun turns to him, attempting to persuade him, asking if he doesn't agree with his assessment, and urging him to consider how long they will continue to be dragged down by the lieutenant's actions. But Min-jae remains firm, stating that Kim is still an officer, and even if his orders seem strange, they are supposed to discuss and decide among themselves. Min-jae, still processing the gravity of the situation, wonders if such a drastic measure is truly the right thing to do, considering the potential for their group to grow much larger. Soo-hyuk then points out the inevitable consequence, that if Lieutenant Kim consistently acts as he does, he will always be out of place in their meetings. Shin Young-jun, his expression tightening, acknowledges this, adding that such a situation would only lead to more people viewing him as their leader. He emphasizes the critical point, that they will reach a stage where they can no longer act on their own. Turning to face the seated group, Shin Young-jun challenges them, asking for their thoughts and if he is mistaken in his assessment. He continues, his voice firm, reminding them that they all know Lieutenant Kim's shortcomings. Min-jae, with Soo-hyuk and Kwang-il listening intently, concedes that Shin Young-jun is right, but then adds a crucial caveat about their identity as military personnel. Soo-hyuk elaborates on this point, stating that they cannot simply act as they please, especially given their military structure. Min-jae then turns to Kwang-il, seeking his input on the matter. Still debating the precarious situation, the idea of ordinary soldiers acting as commanders is deemed the ultimate, yet most dangerous, form of modern warfare. Considering the weight of the argument, Soo-hyuk acknowledges the validity of the point. Min-jae then expresses his alarm, realizing that without Lieutenant Kim, they are the only officers present, and any incident report would lead to their immediate removal. Shin Young-jun, however, counters, insisting that even ordinary soldiers can assume command in the absence of officers. He stands firm in his conviction, his gaze unwavering as he considers the implications. Soo-hyuk, still concerned, points out that this would mean they bear full responsibility for everything, inevitably leading to problems with their superiors. Shin Young-jun, however, dismisses their worries, declaring that his sole purpose in coming was to get rid of Kim, not to be caught in bureaucratic red tape. He recalls a past argument, where someone scoffed at the idea of a cook being a commander, only for him to retort that a cook manages all the food supplies. Finally, Kwang-il offers his decisive opinion, stating that the most important thing is for Sergeant Shin to be in charge. He challenges the group, his voice firm, demanding that anyone with complaints about his new role speak up, especially those who might scoff at a cook becoming a commander. Kwang-il steps forward, defending him, reminding everyone that Sergeant Shin has always looked out for them, providing comfort and sustenance with his cooking. He continues, asserting that they can rely on him, because without his unique abilities, they would all be easy prey for the monsters. Shin Young-jun, looking slightly taken aback by the sudden support, asks if there's anything else, and if everyone truly accepts his new position. Kwang-il then addresses him directly, a friendly greeting on his lips, as a narration box confirms the decision. From this moment forward, Sergeant Shin will be their commander. But the moment is interrupted as an unseen figure grabs Shin Young-jun's shoulder, sternly calling his name, accusing him of disrespecting a direct order. Kwang-il, however, cuts through the tension with a resolute command. They must simply accept it. Suddenly, a blinding flash of light erupts, drawing the attention of Shin Young-jun, Kwang-il, Soo-hyuk, and Min-jae to an emergency broadcast projected before them, its urgent message repeating, all military personnel are to report to the nearest command post immediately. He receives a system notification confirming the successful formation of a minimum raid unit, a clan, now comprising 30 players. This clan represents the crucial first step toward becoming a full-fledged force, a level of cohesion far beyond that of an average party gathering. The system further details the current standings, noting his clan as the second in the large region of ROK, and the 17th in the small region. Rewards are promised for those who lead the way, with the second reward being a group skill token. A glowing object materializes in his hand, as the system declares him the leader of Clan 423 from this moment forward. Shin Young-jun stares at the confirmation of his new status, a clan leader, with a new group skill, a quiet realization dawning on him that he has truly become a leader. A sigh escapes him as he looks out over the landscape, accepting the harsh reality of their situation. The other soldiers turn to him, acknowledging his new position, entrusting him with their lives as Sergeant Shin. With a determined expression, he resolves to do things the right way. His first command as their leader is clear: Lieutenant Kim must not be abandoned. The other soldiers immediately protest, arguing that the situation is hopeless and too dangerous to keep him around. Shin Young-jun urges them to reconsider, asking them to calm down and think things through. He explains that if they start abandoning their own, they will lose their spirit, even if their bodies survive. His gaze firm, he emphasizes the critical need to retain their humanity. He concludes, stating that they must not be the ones to initiate violence against other people. Addressing the assembled soldiers, Shin Young-jun makes a solemn request. I need you all to promise me this. From the ranks, a voice, belonging to Min Jae, acknowledges his stance. So that's what you meant. That's very good leadership. Yet, the same voice quickly shifts to concern. Hey, following your orders means we can't abandon Lieutenant Kim. If he's not going to be useful, why would we keep him on the team? It's too dangerous. We still don't need to kill him. Min Jae continues, grappling with the moral dilemma. What? What about that? He's a human being, and only doing damage right now. But still, throwing him away would be a waste. Shin Young-jun, unwavering, offers his counterpoint. We can make use of him. The three soldiers, Soo Hyuk, Kwang Il, and Min Jae, exchange uncertain glances, their expressions reflecting the weight of his decision. Later, under the cover of night, the group stands gathered outside a building. The discussion seemingly concluded, but the tension still palpable. Shin Young-jun observes the return of the troops, noting their presence as a hand reaches for a radio, confirming that the soldiers are back. Meanwhile, Kwang Il, lounging casually, questions the plan to go out for the ritual at night as a group, wondering if it might pose a problem. He dismisses the potential danger, considering them just a bunch of 20-something kids. Shin Young-jun, addressing the seated soldiers, remarks that their captain seems strong-handed but too lenient with them, before Min Jae asks if he's checked for any awakened individuals. With a slight smile, Shin Young-jun confirms he has been checking on a few soldiers, but so far, none have awakened. Later that night, the group stands together under the open sky, preparing for their task. Inside, as they sit on their beds, one of them shares an observation. He took a peek and saw that the other group uses guns to kill monsters, too. Shin Young-jun listens intently, his expression serious. Kwang Il, still relaxed, declares they are ready to go. Still reeling from the sudden loss of contact, the soldiers discover that even their radio signals are dead, leaving them isolated and bewildered by the unfolding situation. A cautious voice suggests they should wait a few more days, emphasizing that a little caution never hurts. A subordinate quickly agrees, acknowledging the wisdom in the suggestion. The next day dawns, and Shin Young-jun, having prepared to wait for his soldiers to return, finds himself ready for a meal. He stands by a window, gazing out, perhaps contemplating the quiet before the storm. His attention then shifts to a clan token, a device that grants the leader authority and allows them to manage their position within the clan. As he examines the token, its interface displays detailed information about its functions. He realizes the profound impact of its abilities, understanding that providing stat bonuses to all members of a group is indeed a powerful effect. He laments the lack of a suitable subject to represent his current thoughts, a holographic display before him. The sudden loss of military ranks and official titles weighs heavily on him, prompting an internal question about his true role as a leader. Min Jae reassures him that such a reaction is natural, but Shin Young-jun dismisses the title of leader as excessive, acknowledging Min Jae's strength in combat. A memory flashes of him in a dynamic stance, recalling a past confrontation where trust was the issue. He acknowledges the precariousness of their situation, recognizing his own growing strength. Min Jae suggests a more empathetic view towards their adversaries, but Shin Young-jun firmly corrects him, asserting they are merely threats. A surge of power emanates from him as he realizes he is the last remaining hope. Min Jae confirms his actions, stating his belief in helping those who ask, which prompts Shin Young-jun to reflect on their preparedness, before Min Jae offers a simple affirmation. He had also instructed them to avoid discussing military matters as much as possible, ensuring their safety. Still, Min Jae cautioned, they might need to remain vigilant, as Tae-jun hadn't fully grasped the situation, urging them to be as careful as possible. He advised keeping their eyes peeled. Shin Young-jun wondered if that should prevent them from increasing their ranks, to which Min Jae confirmed it was a problem, as they currently relied on madmen for supplies. Thankfully, Min Jae added, these madmen weren't easily mistaken for others, but there was still another issue. He paused, waiting for a response. The survivors kept asking to speak with them, and one woman, in particular, insisted on speaking with the captain. Min Jae wondered if her request was important, admitting he had no idea, but she claimed to be the leader of the survivor group. So, they concluded, Sergeant Shin should be the one to speak with her, even if Lieutenant Kim might complain later. Shin Young-jun listened intently, his expression thoughtful. He then declared he would handle Lieutenant Kim's concerns, leaving Min Jae surprised and asking what he intended to do. Taking a moment to light a cigarette for his subordinate, he calmly assures him that he will handle the situation, despite Min Jae's concern about Lieutenant Kim's potential reaction. Before delving further into that matter, he shifts the conversation, instructing Min Jae to select 3 individuals from the kitchen staff to report after dinner. The orders are relayed, with a stern warning to keep the information confidential, met with an immediate affirmation. As the instructions are disseminated, a voice offers a simple, encouraging good luck. Later, a plate of freshly prepared pasta sits ready, its aroma filling the air. A voice remarks with satisfaction that it's about time the meal was prepared. Looking at the dish, Shin Youngjun admits he'd been meaning to do some cooking. Meanwhile, outside the building, Min-jae and Soo-hyuk walk away, a sudden realization dawning on one of them. Min-jae questions what lies beneath the kitchen, and Soo-hyuk reveals the existence of a basement in the dining room. Meanwhile, another part of the facility revealed a massive generator, a crucial power source that seemed to be the subject of much discussion. Min-jae and Soo-hyuk continued their conversation, with Min-jae noting the generator's immense size, while Soo-hyuk mused about its potential use as a bunker. As Soo-hyuk walked away, a faint sound echoed through the sterile corridors. A hidden mechanism beneath the floor began to shift, revealing a secret passage as Min-jae's earlier idea about using the basement came to mind. The passage led to a sturdy, reinforced door, one that looked perfectly suited for a cell. Soo-hyuk stared at the ominous entrance, his expression unreadable. The heavy door creaked open, revealing the darkness within. Inside, a lone figure sat in silhouette, their identity obscured by the gloom. A voice, filled with surprise and disbelief, questioned, "Is it Youngjun?" A voice confirms its identity. "Yes, it's me, Lieutenant Kim." His face, etched with concern, is visible as beads of sweat form on his brow. Behind a closed door, a quiet room waits. Meanwhile, outside, Min-jae, Kwang-il, and Soo-hyuk attempt to force their way in, with Min-jae delivering a powerful kick to the door. Despite his efforts, the door holds firm, prompting a frustrated cry that it simply won't open. Inside, unaware of the commotion, Shin Youngjun stares intently at a computer screen, his brow furrowed as he wonders what could possibly be happening. Suddenly, the door explodes inward, revealing Shin Youngjun standing amidst crackling blue electrical energy, startling the soldiers who exclaim, "Sergeant Shin?" The power surges, concentrating around his outstretched hand. Engulfed in the vibrant blue electricity, he stands resolute, the room now bathed in an ethereal glow. His eyes glow with fierce determination, a shout escaping his lips as the power fully manifests. Now fully charged, Shin Youngjun faces the three recoiling soldiers, who are stunned by the sudden, overwhelming display of his abilities. A heavy silence hangs in the air, broken only by the faint sounds of a damaged, desolate space. Min-jae's voice cuts through the tension, pleading with him to listen, promising to apologize to all the soldiers he had offended. He confesses to a past mistake, admitting he had spilled coffee, broken the radar device, and then blamed it on the guard on duty. With a heavy heart, he reveals he made a mistake during the inspection and took it out on the soldiers. The empty bunk bed stands as a silent witness as Min-jae continues, knowing Youngjun must be wondering why they put him in this situation. He recounts more of his past, from his time as a new soldier at the border, where his team got hurt, to countless other regrets. Min-jae then asks if Youngjun means to be a chef, lamenting that he's been trying to get rid of the bloody meat smell for ages, implying there's more to the story than just that, including a record of violence. The revelation hits Shin Youngjun with a jolt, his eyes widening in surprise as the full weight of the sergeant's words settles upon him. Min-jae reaches out, his voice filled with a quiet resignation, explaining that something isn't possible right now. His concern deepens as he checks the communication equipment, realizing there are no signals on the radio either, leaving him to wonder what in the world is happening. Despite the dire situation, he turns to Youngjun, holding out a plate of pasta and promising to keep his word, assuring him that even if he has to make something else, Youngjun will eat, acknowledging how hard it must have been for him to be locked up. Looking at Youngjun with a gentle expression, he asks if he likes this food, something he personally prepared. As Youngjun looks on with a hint of surprise, Min-jae offers a heartfelt thank you. Then, with a sudden shift, Min-jae focuses on the dish, twirling the pasta onto his fork. He takes a large bite, savoring the taste. Overwhelmed by the simple pleasure, he exclaims how delicious and good it is. Tears stream down his face as he continues to eat, declaring that he finally feels alive again. He watches the other man, a slight smile playing on his lips, but his expression quickly shifts to concern. A nervous chuckle escapes him as he asks, "But in this situation, is it really okay to be so happy?" Shin Youngjun, kneeling by a pot, looks up with a weary expression. "You're cooking lizard meat?" Min-jae's gaze softens as he replies, "Yeah, we're running out of food." He gestures towards the dead creature on the ground. "No, but is it okay for men to eat such food?" Shin Youngjun shrugs, his expression still weary. "I don't know." He continues to stir the pot, explaining, "But I don't have any choice but to use it as a food source right now." Min-jae nods, understanding the grim reality. "So I've been experimenting with some new things." A new title is revealed, a testament to those who overcome impossible odds. A title given to those who have broken through the impasse and increases the effectiveness of class-related skills and talents by 100%. He considers the new monster-based dish, thinking it might be suitable for Lieutenant Kim to test. With a confident gaze, the lieutenant readily accepts the task, assuring him he'll handle it. As the day progresses, a new culinary experiment takes shape, a dish made from the meat of a red-eyed lizard, promising a unique flavor that has never been experienced in this world. Shin Youngjun, the cook, reacts with a mix of surprise and determination, uttering a sound of focused effort. His expression remains intense. As Min-jae approaches, expressing his satisfaction with the cook's progress, remarking that he's glad to see him feeling good. Shin Young-jun, holding a plate with the finished dish, responds with a surprised exclamation, as if taken aback by the compliment or the taste of his creation. He stands amidst the kitchen, the new dish a testament to his ongoing efforts. Shin Young-jun finds a quiet satisfaction in his work, reflecting on his joy in preparing meals for others. He hopes to earn their approval and keep them addicted to his unique dishes. However, Min Jae, holding a tray, expresses his disbelief, questioning if this meager offering is all he's receiving today. He dismisses the meal, insisting that Young-jun is not to be treated with such casualness, and demands a proper, substantial meal. Unperturbed by the exchange, Shin Young-jun simply walks away, acknowledging the situation as expected. Meanwhile, Min Jae and Lieutenant Kim stand together, with the lieutenant declaring it's time to get down to business. Nearby, Kwang-il wonders aloud about Young-jun's intentions, while Soo-hyuk clarifies that he's only serving those in the commander's direct line. Kwang-il reacts with surprise, realizing that Lieutenant Kim must be a significant admirer of the lizard meat. He then receives an unexpected order. He needs to acquire the commander's lizard, specifically Commander 1. Above, the sky stretches endlessly, a canvas of soft blue and drifting clouds, while below, a dark, imposing landmass rises to meet it. Suddenly, a hand reaches out in desperation, a voice crying out, "No, not this one." Elsewhere, a commanding figure stands with his back turned, issuing an absolute order. "This is an order. Bring me a proper dish right now." Min Jae then reiterates his demand to Shin Young-jun, stating, "If you don't want to change your mind, I'll just come back tomorrow," as the chef silently considers his words, thinking, "Think carefully about it until then." In another moment, Kwang-il reacts with disbelief, exclaiming, "What? Are you serious?" While Soo-hyuk, beside him, worries internally about the sheer volume of his friend's voice, wondering if this intensity might be his undoing. A hand belonging to Lieutenant Kim gestures emphatically, his voice firm as he declares, "Ace, I'm saying this to Lieutenant Officer. My orders are absolute." Min Jae's foot steps down with finality, his words echoing his earlier statement. "If you don't want to change your mind, I'll just come back tomorrow." As Shin Young-jun's silent thought persists, think carefully about it until then. Finally, a sharp, intense purple eye opens, its gaze piercing and mysterious. The silence of the communication devices hangs heavy, a walkie-talkie and a router lying inert, as a voice confirms no signals are reaching the radio either, leaving everyone to wonder what in the world is happening. Amidst the growing uncertainty, a military boot descends with a heavy thud, drawing a furious reaction from Kwang-il, who protests, "You can't do this, Sergeant Shin. You're not allowed to do this," he shouts, demanding the sergeant look him in the eyes. Ignoring the outburst, Shin Young-jun calmly offers, "Well, I'll cook for you, but on one condition." His expression then shifts to one of profound shock, a silent question hanging in the air. A swift, blurring motion cuts through the space, followed by the heavy impact of a hand or clawed foot striking the ground. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim stands at the threshold of a darkened room, peering inside, a fragmented thought about John people and random orders crossing his mind. Deep within the shadows, a sharp, glowing purple eye snaps open, as a voice exclaims, "Ah, that, Kim." The scene shifts abruptly to a gruesome discovery, a dead lizard-like creature lying in a pool of blood, prompting a shocked exclamation from Shin Young-jun, who then sets a firm condition. If anyone desires his cooking, they must first eliminate such monsters. A muffled struggle echoes through the murky depths, as a bloodied hand clenches tight. Suddenly, a system message flashes, congratulating him on clearing a hidden goal, leaving him stunned and covered in grime. The message details the awakening of a commander, increasing the stats of all nearby troops by 10%. A revelation that brings a small, satisfied smile to his face. Lieutenant Kim Hyun-sek demands an explanation from Young-jun, who internally muses about his luck and the lottery ticket being a test. The lieutenant, bloodied and confused, can only wonder if this strange turn of events was a win. Shin Young-jun stands in the kitchen, observing a transparent system screen that identifies him as a novice chef, level 1. He considers the system's assessment that his current stats are too weak, emphasizing that numerical increases are less important than overall growth. The system elaborates, explaining that fixed stat increases are more effective when the target possesses low base stats. He reflects that even Lieutenant Kim wouldn't have been more effective if the system hadn't granted him so much experience. He was able to experience the system, confirming his success in gaining complete control through training his body, an achievement that earned him the fruit of the dragon as a reward. He had gained significant experience, leveling up to novice chef level 10, and was now being promoted to junior chef level 1. He notes his mana level is now 9, and his stats will increase by 2 for every level he gains. The system declares his potential unlimited. Even as a novice chef level 1, he was a master-level chef in his previous life. He carefully examines the dish before him, a new creation born from his culinary skill, wondering how it will turn out. With a final touch, the battle rations are complete. A system notification confirms his success, and he can't help but feel a surge of satisfaction for this new skill. The battle ration skill allows him to create preserved food for combat, less potent than a normal meal, yet designed for extended preservation and high caloric density in a compact form, making it easy to carry. He muses on its practical applications, realizing it's perfect for expeditions or training the troops. Suddenly, his thoughts drift to a different scene as he stands in a military uniform, observing a holographic display and wondering aloud, who would have thought that the useless Lieutenant Kim would be this good? Back in the kitchen, he returns his focus to the dish, a determined expression settling on his face as he considers his next steps. Under a clear, expansive sky. As the military operation prepared to begin, a soldier questioned why Lieutenant Kim would not be joining them, while another confirmed they were about to start. Inside the kitchen, Min Jae was announced as Lieutenant Kim's replacement, taking charge of the cooking, a decision met with surprise by Shin Young-jun, who was then informed that no one else was available for the task. Min Jae, however, was quickly vouched for, praised as the most reliable in the unit and an excellent speaker. Despite the praise, Shin Young-jun's expression remained troubled, accusing them of merely trying to push responsibility onto him. He conceded that their assessment of his capabilities was accurate, acknowledging his leadership potential, but still expressed a desire not to be solely in charge of everything. With the decision made, the group prepared to depart, wishing each other good luck as they headed out. Their destination was clearly marked, the dormitory mess hall. Upon entering, Shin Young-jun and his companions were greeted by waiting personnel, one of whom remarked on their early arrival. A female officer then stepped forward, offering a welcoming smile. He looks on with concern, a chilling thought echoing in his mind. There might be someone among them who wishes them harm. Meanwhile, under the cover of night, Min Jae and Lieutenant Kim observe a distant building, discussing the need to conceal their forces based on Tae-jin's observations. Back in the mess hall, the group gathers around a table, agreeing it's best to gather reliable information from their adversaries without revealing their own positions. Stepping forward to address the assembled personnel, Sergeant Shin Young-jun introduces himself as the new cook in charge of the kitchen. A female officer looks on in surprise, while Soo-hyuk questions the sudden change, asking about Lieutenant Kim's whereabouts. With a slight frown, he explains that Lieutenant Kim believed it better for those in charge of operations to be present, assuring them that everything would run smoothly. The female officer simply acknowledges this, as he exchanges glances with Min Jae. He then expresses his doubts to the female officer, admitting he doesn't think he'll be able to cook for them for a while, and suggesting it would be better if they had brought someone else. Taking charge, Kwang Il points to himself and Min Jae, explaining that they are the most knowledgeable soldiers in the division, responsible for daily operations, and invites any questions. As the briefing continues, a soldier raises a question, inquiring if he can ask something. He then elaborates, acknowledging the protagonist's recent efforts and the lack of time he's had to consider his new division's identity, implying a deeper concern about his role. Min Jae, another operational expert, adds to the sentiment, stating that they are, as usual, preoccupied with military duties. Kwang Il, observing the protagonist's reaction, interjects, suggesting that their work might be considered a lower priority than his, though quickly clarifying not to take it personally. Shin Young-jun, looking directly at Kwang Il, responds with a sharp question, asking how he could possibly say such a thing after just hearing his explanation. The female officer, observing the tension, offers a more diplomatic perspective, suggesting that perhaps the protagonist is a soldier who simply doesn't like to cook, wondering what could be more important than that. Suddenly, Shin Young-jun's expression shifts to one of intense focus, his voice cutting through the room as he calls out a name, Mr. Park Kwon-chong. The scene abruptly shifts to an elderly man, Park Kwon-chong, who looks up with a startled expression, seemingly caught off guard by the sudden address. Back in the briefing room, Soo-hyuk, Lieutenant Kim, and the others exchange glances, their faces reflecting confusion and concern, as Soo-hyuk voices his understanding of the situation, but admits it's best to keep quiet for now. A moment of recognition crosses his face, as Shin Young-jun realizes who has arrived. The woman before him apologizes for her tardiness, explaining she's a very busy person, to which he concedes they did take a long time, but assures her there were no ill intentions. Introducing herself as Lee Sang-ha, she reveals her past as a small clothing store owner before becoming a hunter. He expresses his relief, glad she made it to the unit in one piece. A narration box interjects, suggesting it's important to understand how she ended up in this unit, given the unusual circumstances, and to know each other's situations. Lee Sang-ha readily agrees, acknowledging the importance of transparency. Clasping his hand in a gesture of support, she encourages him, calling him brother. He responds with a knowing glance, simply stating, well, you know. The scene shifts to an aerial view of a military base, as a narration box explains that monsters had appeared out of nowhere approximately 2 weeks prior. As the world plunged into chaos, a monstrous entity tore through the city, and simultaneously, all forms of communication, internet, television, and phone services, ceased to function. Lee Sang-ha explained the terrifying sequence of events, revealing that they had been attacked by monsters, and those who were injured but survived had eventually transformed into zombies. Her hands clasped tightly, she continued, describing the sheer magnitude of the chaos that had ensued. Both Shin Young-jun and his companion stared back, their expressions a mixture of shock and disbelief at her words. Their eyes wide with alarm, they struggled to comprehend what she was talking about. The other man's face contorted in horror, the word zombies escaping his lips in a stunned whisper. The horrifying reality of her words was then visually confirmed, as a horde of grotesque, glowing-eyed creatures swarmed through a desolate urban landscape. With all radio signals dead and a pervasive sense of dread hanging in the air, Sergeant Shin Young-jun and his fellow soldiers gather, a palpable tension filling the room as they try to make sense of the unfolding chaos. Lieutenant Kim Hyun-sek turns to him, a hint of desperation in his voice, asking if they're truly dealing with zombies, only for Shin Young-jun to quickly dismiss the idea, reminding him they haven't encountered any yet. Meanwhile, in a different location, Mr. Park Kwon-chang addresses Lee Sang-ha, remarking on how unaffected they are, leaving her to ponder the implications. Back with the military, Lieutenant Kim clarifies, insisting that while they don't use the term zombie, the creatures are certainly not to be underestimated. Park Kwon-chang, however, remains firm in his assessment, declaring them definitely zombies before asking Lee Sang-ha what she prefers to call them. Shin Young-jun's expression shifts to one of surprise, as if a new, unsettling thought has just occurred to him. The question hangs in the air among the soldiers, as one of them tentatively suggests the term walkers, sparking a collective moment of uncertainty. Lieutenant Kim, clearly exasperated, demands to know what Shin Young-jun is talking about, finding the new terminology a bit much. Park Kwon-chang, with a knowing look, acknowledges Lee Sang-ha's preference, teasing her about being a fan of that show and concluding that walkers is indeed the appropriate term. Shin Young-jun considers the term, acknowledging that it feels right, even if it's a bit unconventional. Meanwhile, in a separate conversation, Mr. Park Kwon-chang had pressed Lee Sang-ha on her initial assessment, who insisted they were simply zombies. The new designation, though perhaps a little awkward, had ultimately stuck. Shin Young-jun, eager for more details, urged the storyteller to continue, asking what happened next. Yet, the story unfolding before him, the one he was hearing, didn't quite align with Lee Sang-ha's account. As the military group fled from the relentless creatures, Lee Sang-ha herself was also on the run, desperately trying to escape the zombies. She eventually joined a group of survivors she encountered at school, and while she continued her search for a safe haven, one of the soldiers suddenly called out, pointing towards a nearby military base. The military unit listens intently as Park Kwon-chang explains that a survivor had told them about their base. He confirms, "That's me." The female officer presses him for details, asking how he knew about their unit, to which he replies that a friend who worked in construction had told him. He elaborates, explaining his friend had mentioned working on a military base near his town, and all he'd heard was that there was a military base deep in the mountains. He admits they don't know what's happening in the world, but he thought if they kept moving, they might eventually find someone to help. Meanwhile, in another location, a young man with spiky dark hair remarks, "It must have been a long journey." He continues, pondering the difficulty of passing through the monsters, before adding, "I have a question." He points out the lack of weapons, suggesting he could use a metal pipe, prompting Lee Sang-ha to question, "Get through the monsters?" Shin Young-jun addresses the assembled military personnel, revealing a startling truth: they've already encountered an awakener. Lieutenant Kim looks on, a hint of disbelief on his face as Young-jun reiterates, again. The implications settle heavily in the air, the thought of such power being real, yet Young-jun clarifies that none of this would be possible without the awakening, and among the 25 of them, he is the only one who has awakened. Lee Sang-ha, however, stands apart, her own thoughts echoing a different truth, that her own abilities are what have carried them this far. Later, seated with Shin Young-jun, she remarks on his revelation, "That's a cool reveal," but questions if it's truly possible with just one awakener. Her gaze sharpens, a silent challenge in her eyes as she declares, "Let me prove myself." Lieutenant Kim reacts with a gasp of surprise, his eyes wide as he questions, "H here?" A soft click echoes as Lee Sang-ha offers a confident smile, leaving Lieutenant Kim stunned, a silent ellipsis hanging in the air as he stares at the open door. She began to adjust her clothing, finding the thick fabric too restrictive for proper movement. These weren't like normal clothes, she noted, requiring modification. Watching her, Lieutenant Kim mused that while he knew she'd worked at a truck stop, he hadn't realized she'd acquired such unique skills there. With focused precision, she continued to cut away the excess fabric, her expression resolute as she prepared for what was next. Suddenly, a vibrant red energy surged around her, enveloping her in a powerful aura, her knife glowing with the same intense light. She dropped into a low, aggressive stance, every fiber of her being radiating readiness. Then, with a blinding burst of speed, she launched herself upwards. She plummets downward with incredible speed, the air rushing past her with a sharp, echoing sound. Her body angled for the rapid descent. Observing the aftermath of her demonstration, she thinks to herself, this level of power was needed much earlier. Lieutenant Kim, witnessing the raw display, exclaims, that's incredible." Meanwhile, her thoughts drift to a critical moment, realizing she had no other option but to stab the monster right in its eye. Back in the descent, she plunges into a dark, swirling abyss, the unknown depths swallowing her whole. In the heat of the moment, she recalls, she stabbed the monster with it, having no other option. The monstrous creature, with its glowing red eyes, recoils from the unexpected attack, its dark fur bristling in pain. A blue holographic window materializes before her, granting her new superpowers, she realizes, now able to incarcerate zombies with a mere flick of her finger. Holding a knife, she contemplates the implications of this newfound ability, the power to incapacitate the undead with such ease. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Kim questions the situation, wondering if she truly stabbed a zombie, and if the undead possess different awakening conditions than humans. He presses her, reminding her of earlier discussions. "Didn't you say that zombies too can become awakened, Mr. Lee?" she asks, to which he replies, "That's my question too." A moment of silence hangs heavy in the air, before Min-jae speculates that perhaps one can kill a zombie, but not succeed in awakening it. Still, the lieutenant finds the whole situation unsettling, muttering that it's all rather strange. His thoughts race back to the zombie, the one that was once human, and he exclaims in disbelief, "What the hell?" As Lee Sang-ha stands alone, a voice wonders, is she really the only awakened? Another voice, unseen, suggests a darker possibility. Or, are they hiding something from us? Shin Young-jun stands amidst stacked boxes, awaiting information, as a voice asks if he had something to tell them about Min-jae. Lee Sang-ha confirms she has news, explaining that while she doesn't know the exact criteria, there's a chance Min-jae's rank could increase after he completes a dungeon, information she felt compelled to share. He expresses his sincere gratitude for the valuable insight. She then extends a further offer, assuring him that if he ever finds himself in a similar situation, they would be ready to help. A different scene unfolds, showing Min-jae from behind, as Shin Young-jun considers his actions, believing they aren't involved in anything malicious. He muses that if they were, they would also be putting themselves in grave danger. Back in the original room, Lee Sang-ha shifts the conversation, offering to explain her unit's current situation and promising proper accommodation for his team. Shin Young-jun accepts her offer with a firm handshake. Turning to a subordinate, Shin Young-jun instructs Kwang Il to clear the table and find a spare one. He would go prepare a trap, he declared, his gaze firm. Later, sitting alone, he found himself deep in thought. The word zombies echoing in his mind as he recalled Mr. Lee's warning that all kinds of monsters had surfaced in the city. He sighed, finding the whole situation to be such a pain. His thoughts were interrupted by Kwang Il, who announced that the dishes were ready. Thanking him, Shin Young-jun then turned to Lee Sang-ha and the student, who insisted he didn't have to do everything on his own, offering to pay for their accommodation and meals. Instead, he presented them with a tray of snacks he had prepared, inviting them to share. The student's eyes widened in surprise, exclaiming, "You got snacks?" With a soft tap, he sets down a pair of homemade popsicles, a small reward for those who had diligently helped with the cleanup. Offering one to the unnamed student, Shin Young-jun encourages him to enjoy the ice cream, admitting he'd used leftover ingredients and wasn't sure how good they'd be, as he wasn't a professional chef. He then extends the invitation to Lee Sang-ha, insisting she should have one too. As the two students hold their treats, a thought crosses their minds. This isn't just any ice cream. It's a happiness-flavored one, made with the chef's special sauce. Meanwhile, Shin Young-jun's mind is already strategizing, planning to spread a rumor that helping with chores comes with delicious rewards. Lee Sang-ha takes a tentative bite, and both students continue to savor their unexpected treat. When the unnamed student's eyes suddenly widen in pure astonishment, exclaiming that it's incredibly delicious, a flavor he's never experienced before, and wonders aloud if others don't like it as much as he does. Still savoring the unexpected delight, the unnamed student confirms his enjoyment of the popsicle, a profound sense of happiness washing over him, a feeling he hadn't anticipated. Observing his reaction, Lee Sang-ha playfully asks if he was laughing, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. As they both enjoy their treats, a shared moment of simple pleasure settles between them. Shin Young-jun, watching the student, notes that he hasn't laughed like this since his parents passed, admitting to himself that the sight brings him a quiet happiness. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts, a profound emotional change rippling through the air. Tears welling in his eyes, the unnamed student laments having forgotten how to simply be happy, unable to hold back his emotions as Shin Young-jun gently encourages him, assuring him that crying is a good thing. Lee Sang-ha, witnessing his raw vulnerability, finds herself also overcome with emotion, tears beginning to stream down her own face as she tries to maintain a cheerful facade. Her heart, overflowing with repressed emotions, struggles to contain the torrent, even as she attempts to appear strong for her friend. Shin Young-jun observes the scene, understanding that such a profound emotional release is a testament to the skill of producer. His producer's skill had finally subsided, leaving the monsters in its wake trembling with an unexpected fear. In a quieter moment, a hand gently offered a small treat. A simple gesture as Lee Sang-ha reassured the student that sometimes an ice cream was all it took. Later, walking away, he mused to himself that he should probably try to hunt more. The evening after a meeting, he recalled a persistent individual who kept asking him for a drink, and he had even managed to get his room number. Later, Lieutenant Kim inquired if there was anything new, to which a soldier reported that 5 people were in the room. Shin Young-jun then revealed that they had all known each other since before the outbreak. Lieutenant Kim questioned if their reliance on the producer's skill meant they weren't truly working together, to which Shin Young-jun conceded that while true, they still should be collaborating. He stands before Lieutenant Kim, a subtle tension in the air as they discuss the unfolding situation. Later, overlooking the city from a high wall, Lieutenant Kim questions their next move, wondering aloud what they should do, but Shin Young-jun counters, asserting they cannot simply eliminate the problem and pretend it never happened. He explains that if word got out, it would cause widespread panic, and they couldn't afford the survivors rioting. Lieutenant Kim agrees but insists they cannot merely wait, while Shin Young-jun emphasizes the potential threat posed by the awakening individuals. Back inside, Shin Young-jun proposes a plan to make the individuals disappear, hoping to force them to reveal their intentions, then recalls a detail about someone arrested from the same unit as the survivors. Lieutenant Kim confirms the detail with a knowing smile, mentioning that the arrested individual had agreed to limited living space and dining hall access for now. Shin Young-jun then leans in, revealing he has an idea, prompting Lieutenant Kim to ask what it is. He outlines his plan, to dislocate the individual and assign them to the diving well, promising to see what he can do from there. A confident smile spreads across his face as he declares his ability to execute the plan, just as he did with Kwang Il and Lieutenant Kim. He considers the situation, his hand resting idly. As Lieutenant Kim questions his confidence, asking if it will truly be that easy. He acknowledges the potential difficulty, admitting that he's not entirely sure how to proceed. Still, he assures Lieutenant Kim that he will be more careful, acknowledging the risks involved. Lieutenant Kim understands, feeling the gravity of the situation himself, knowing no one would believe them if they knew the truth. Shin Young-jun resolves to use his abilities discreetly, ensuring they remain undetected. He confirms his decision, ready to proceed with caution. Looking out at the city, he muses that this is much harder than he initially thought. Having completed his previous task, Shin Young-jun's voice cuts through the quiet of the kitchen, asking if the work is done. A young man with short, curly dark hair and a wide, confident smile replies, assuring him that he excels at such tasks, earning a commendation from Shin Young-jun for his good work. As a small reward, Shin Young-jun offers him a treat, suggesting a quick snack. The young man's eyes widen in surprise, before a delighted smile spreads across his face as he recognizes the offering, the infamous ice cream. In the bustling kitchen, Lieutenant Kim asks if he's the only one who has applied for the cooking job, noting how envious people must be of those who've tried the food, as everyone in the cafeteria can't stop bragging about its deliciousness. Shin Young-jun, holding out a treat, replies that he feels sorry for those who applied, but reassures him that everyone will get their turn eventually, and he's sure they're all eagerly awaiting the day they can finally eat at the cafeteria. He takes a bite of the frozen dessert, and his eyes widen in disbelief as the flavor explodes on his tongue, making him declare that this taste is simply unbelievable, and now he truly understands everyone's enthusiastic reactions. Lieutenant Kim smiles, proudly stating that of course it's delicious, considering how much time he spent making it. It was bound to be perfect. The ice cream bar glows with an ethereal light, a special treat made with rare ingredients, known as Mutan ice cream, a dessert crafted by the novice chef himself. Finishing the last bite, Shin Young-jun sighs contentedly, remarking that it was truly good and so tasty, adding that it had been a long time since he'd had anything so wonderfully sweet. Lieutenant Kim beams, genuinely pleased, telling him he's glad he enjoyed it. Shin Young-jun, still reeling from the ice cream's taste, finds himself questioning his own intense reaction, wondering aloud what could possibly be happening to him. Lieutenant Kim, observing his distress, asks if he had requested something earlier, to which Shin Young-jun confirms he did. Kim then explains that he needed a reason to bring him into the unit, and if he hadn't asked, Kim would have had to create a successful scenario. Shin Young-jun, still processing, admits he felt relieved when Kim didn't say anything, but now he's utterly confused about what's truly happening. Kim clarifies that he had a feeling this might be the case, then poses a rhetorical question about what would happen if he didn't want to talk, but had no choice. Shin Young-jun's internal monologue reveals his mouth is moving on its own, beyond his control. Kim continues, explaining that he also felt sorry for him, as he wouldn't have been able to use his ability if he hadn't been awakened. He elaborates that Shin Young-jun wouldn't even have been able to use his mouth, implying that his current state is a direct result of his awakening. Shin Young-jun, finally grasping the situation, confirms his understanding, while Kim smiles, pleased with the outcome. Still reeling from the implications of his awakened state, Shin Young-jun curses under his breath, realizing the precariousness of his situation if he remains here. Yet, a thought crosses his mind. He still has a crucial question to ask before any decisions can be made. His frustration boils over at the idea of being unable to refuse, but he reluctantly concedes, urging his interlocutor to proceed with their inquiry. Lieutenant Kim addresses a group of soldiers, including Shin Young-jun, explaining that if they had confidence in their abilities, they could have lived a comfortable life. He reveals that all 5 of them were awakened and managed, but those whose abilities proved impractical were simply disposed of. The chilling implication hangs in the air as he reiterates, all 5 of us. Nearby, 2 female soldiers whisper amongst themselves, one wondering if such drastic measures were reserved for those of higher rank, while the other confirms it was all due to the commander's direct orders. Lieutenant Kim continues, posing a rhetorical question about the identity of the 5 awakened individuals, calling it a paradox. He clarifies that they were the only ones permitted to leave the unit, and that difficult choices had to be made between those with different potentials. He pauses, reflecting on the process, explaining that after observing them for a few days, Lieutenant Kim concludes his explanation to a fellow soldier, stating that they ultimately decided there were no individuals with equivalent threats within their unit. He explains that they had decided to carry out the operation, revealing the shocking detail that it would commence tonight. The news hangs heavy in the air, echoing the urgency of the impending mission as the military building stands silent under the night sky. Shin Young-jun's eyes widen in disbelief, the word tonight repeating in his mind. Lieutenant Kim confirms with a slight smirk, assuring him the operation would proceed as soon as he returned. The reality of the situation washes over Shin Young-jun, a desperate thought forming in his mind. This can't be happening. As his hand begins to glow with an ominous light, he realizes the urgency of their current predicament. A fiery orange aura erupts around his hands as he declares the immediate necessity of action. With a powerful surge of energy, he leaps into the air, his form enveloped in the expanding flames. He lands with a forceful impact, the fiery aura still radiating from his body. Engulfed in a sudden, intense burst of flames, Shin Young-jun's fiery aura expands, a clear sign of his awakened power. His expression hardens with resolve, his gaze fixed on an unseen opponent. Suddenly, Lieutenant Kim lunges forward, delivering a swift kick as he dismissively declares, "You're just a cook." The lieutenant continues his relentless assault, a flurry of martial arts strikes, though he internally admits, "I didn't expect this. I didn't expect him to come at me like this." His next strike focuses with pinpoint precision, colliding directly with Shin Young-jun's fiery defense, as a thought crosses his mind. It's a shame that our abilities have been exposed. But before he can finish the thought, Shin Young-jun unleashes a powerful counterattack, his voice booming. "Kill you and start the game over. It's all over." Enveloped in an even more intense inferno, he charges forward, culminating in a massive, devastating fiery explosion. Engulfed in a vibrant, orange inferno, Shin Young-jun unleashes a powerful wave of flames. His eyes burning with resolve as he declares, "You're underestimating a chef's power, fool." Lieutenant Kim, however, remains unimpressed, retorting, "It's a job that's quite familiar with fire." Ignoring the taunt, Shin Young-jun focuses on the swirling flames around his hand, reflecting that a low-level flame affinity, originating from cooking, has always been tied to fire, to volume, and a steel pan. Then, with a surge of power, he unleashes a devastating fiery explosion, declaring, "In front of a top-class chef, you're just a kid with the fire of a chef." The inferno expands, engulfing everything in its path. A blinding wave of heat and light. Lieutenant Kim is violently thrown backward by the sheer force. His body engulfed in the raging flames, a look of utter shock plastered across his face. He can hardly believe the audacity, the sheer impudence of his opponent's words, letting out a soft sigh. But there's no need to hold back anymore, he decides, his eyes glowing with a fierce blue light as he prepares to unleash his true, ultimate ability. Engulfed in a massive, vibrant aura of orange and yellow flames, he activates the realization of primal roasting technique. The sheer heat and energy distort the very air around him. As he extends his hands, warning his opponent to brace himself. Lieutenant Kim is instantly engulfed in the inferno, his face contorting in shock and disbelief as he questions the overwhelming power. With a grimace of intense concentration, he clenches his hand, maintaining the devastating attack. The battle concludes with him standing victorious, a faint blue aura surrounding him, while Lieutenant Kim lies defeated on the scorched ground, protected by a shimmering blue energy shield. Still engulfed in the searing inferno of his primal roasting technique, Shin Young-jun's power continued to rage, the flames consuming everything around Lieutenant Kim, who could only watch in disbelief. A desperate cry escaped him, as the sheer force of the attack threatened to tear him apart. But just as despair threatened to consume him, a brilliant blue energy began to coalesce, forming a protective barrier. The intricate patterns of the shield solidified, holding back the inferno with unwavering resolve. Meanwhile, as the sun began to set over a distant city, two figures stood atop a high wall, their silhouettes stark against the vibrant sky. One, a man with dark hair and a green shirt, turned to his companion, his voice laced with impatience as he questioned, "Why isn't Chanyun coming yet? What should we do now, brother?" His blonde-haired companion remained silent, his gaze fixed on the horizon, a thoughtful expression etched upon his face. A group of soldiers and civilians stood in tense discussion, one of them asserting that they couldn't wait for Chayung any longer and had to proceed without him. Another voice countered, reminding them that Chayung was the strongest among them, making it difficult to imagine continuing without his incomparable power. The blonde-haired leader, his expression firm, acknowledged the situation, before shifting the focus to securing their immediate surroundings, confirming that the monsters had already vanished from the vicinity. Still, a note of caution entered his voice, as he admitted they couldn't be entirely sure of the monsters' absence, and they might still be nearby. His words carried weight, for he knew Chaejung's strength was indeed incomparable, an exceptional power whose ability to sense danger was unmatched, a force of nature surrounded by crackling, fiery energy. Yet, the blonde-haired man felt a pang of self-doubt, believing he was the one who shouldn't be there, burdened by the responsibility. He quickly pushed the thought aside, his voice regaining its resolve as he challenged Lieutenant Kim, asking if he didn't trust him, and reiterating that they would follow the plan, with Cha-young joining them later. The leader's gaze remained fixed forward, his determination unwavering. A sense of urgency grips the group as they rush forward, one of them questioning the haste, while their leader, Huang Cha-young, declares their mission to protect the people inside the factory. From above, the factory complex looms large, as the figures below move with purpose, a faint schwip sound accompanying their swift advance. The sound of their movement continues, and a voice from the group expresses bewilderment, wondering aloud what exactly is happening. Gathered together, Lieutenant Kim and Min Jae stand with Huang Cha-young and other personnel, as one of them voices concern about dragging people out in the middle of the night, noting that some individuals seem strange. As Huang Cha-young looks down, lost in thought, an unseen individual respectfully asks what he is contemplating. Turning to Lee Sang-ha, Huang Cha-young dismisses his thoughts as nothing serious, explaining that he has a condition where stress causes him to break out in hives all over his body. Lee Sang-ha listens intently, her expression reflecting concern at his revelation. Behind Huang Cha-young, another man remarks that he was always particularly sensitive and violent. As they rush forward, the factory looms into view, confirming their destination is the shortest route. Meanwhile, Huang Cha-young, lost in thought, questions the timing of these events, wondering if his own volatile nature might have contributed to the current chaos. Approaching the factory entrance, Lieutenant Kim observes the large gathering of survivors, lamenting that their own group is far too small for the task ahead. The sheer number of people gathered there makes their small unit seem even more insignificant, a daunting sight for the approaching team. Huang Cha-young, still separate from the main group, muses on his ambition, believing that only by succeeding with this unit can he truly earn the recognition he craves. His expression hardens, a silent question hanging in the air. Are you really going to achieve it? Inside a nearby building, Min Jae, Lee Sang-ha, and Lieutenant Kim peer out a window, shocked to witness a fight erupting among the survivors outside. Min Jae expresses his disdain for the unruly crowd, while Lee Sang-ha questions why those people are even there, causing trouble. He admits he's disliked them from the start. Outside, two guards stand watch, one of them wondering aloud about the commotion and what the other guards are doing. Observing the chaotic scene, Min Jae expresses his uncertainty, as Lieutenant Kim adds that the unruly survivors could have already begun digging, emphasizing the need to stop them before they interfere with their mission. Meanwhile, from a different vantage point, Huang Cha-young watches the same crowd, muttering that they should simply listen to them. Back with the military, a firm voice reiterates the command, stressing the importance of reporting the situation and keeping a close watch on the survivors. A lone figure, likely Min Jae, stands in the desolate landscape, acknowledging the order with a crisp, "Yes, understood." Huang Cha-young and Lee Sang-ha continue their observation, with Lee Sang-ha remarking that she always had a feeling these people would eventually cause trouble. Her hand clenches, as she states that she has no other choice now that things have come to this point. A soft, ethereal glow emanates from Lee Sang-ha, her form silhouetted against the light as she prepares to act. Huang Cha-young and Shin Young-jun watch, startled, as the former exclaims in surprise at Lee Sang-ha's sudden activation of her ability. Shin Young-jun's expression shifts to one of deep concern, muttering about the terrifying nature of such powers and his familiarity with their strength. Even after she had used her weapon, the woman still wasn't revealing her true nature. Meanwhile, Huang Cha-young observed the unfolding events, wondering if the others could truly handle the power of those things, as Shin Young-jun stood silently behind him. Lee Sang-ha, however, could only react with a stunned expression, uttering a disbelieving, "No way." Shin Young-jun, stepping forward with resolve, offered to take charge, declaring he would break those scissors himself. Huang Cha-young, observing the woman's display of power, acknowledged her strength, remarking that she was indeed formidable. Turning to another subordinate, Huang Cha-young issued a direct command, "Third, you go help him." The green-haired man, responding with a confident nod, affirmed his understanding to his big brother. As Lee Sang-ha stood amidst the group, her body now radiating a soft, ethereal glow, she realized that these individuals were completely unaware of her true abilities. A new thought then struck her, as she questioned if someone else had been hiding their awakened state, specifically wondering if Kim had just awakened. The tension remains palpable as the group stands, unable to communicate, with no signals on the radio either, leaving them to wonder what in the world is going on, and if their current predicament is a consequence of their own cluelessness. Suddenly, a collective gasp escapes them as a shocking realization dawns, a word barely forming on their lips, "Awak dash." Meanwhile, an elderly man, his face etched with disbelief, can only exclaim, "All of them? They've been fooling us all this time." Huang Cha-young, his expression a mix of anger and surprise, realizes that she didn't plan on backing down, confirming that so is her. As if on cue, Lee Sang-ha's hand glows with a vibrant blue aura, generating multiple golden orbs that shimmer with raw power. But even as her power manifests, she glances over her shoulder, a look of surprise crossing her face, realizing there are people behind her. With a surge of determination, she moves with incredible speed, knowing she needs to keep them away first. However, before she can fully execute her plan, an unseen force strikes, sending her hurtling through the air. As she plummets, Min-jae reaches out in alarm, his face reflecting the shock of her sudden fall. She barely has time to react as a dark, cracked foot slams into her glowing arm, the impact sending a shockwave through her. A sickening crack echoes, followed by a blinding flash of light. The force lifts her off her feet, scattering the golden orb she had just manifested as she's thrown violently backward. She tumbles through the air. While the attacker's dark, cracked foot lands with a soft thud, golden particles still swirling around its descent. Still airborne, she looks on in disbelief as her golden orbs continue to dissipate around her. Then, with another loud impact, she crashes to the ground, golden energy flaring around her. Lying amidst the fading glow, she curses, realizing the overwhelming power of her opponent. They are on a completely different level compared to formerly. Meanwhile, the others watch the scene unfold, a silent question hanging in the air. Did they ever stand a chance against such an awakened power? The group watches in stunned silence, their faces etched with disbelief and concern as the aftermath of the brutal attack unfolds before them. Shin Youngjun and Min-jae, among them, can only stare, their expressions a mix of fear and helplessness. But Hwang Chae-young, observing the scene with a confident smirk, seems to have a different assessment, believing they will be able to handle the situation. An enemy is sent hurtling through the air, a blur of motion indicating a powerful strike. The female fighter, a whirlwind of motion, delivers another devastating kick, sending a foe sprawling as she hears a voice comment on her skill. Nearby, Hwang Chae-young manifests glowing golden orbs, his expression tight with impatience, demanding that everyone get serious and stop messing around. The female fighter, however, remains focused, her thoughts racing as she observes the chaotic scene, realizing the lack of teamwork might present an opportunity to utilize the space. She presses her advantage, launching another powerful kick, her movements fluid and precise against the horde of enemies. Another foe is sent flying, unable to withstand her relentless assault. As she dispatches another enemy, Hwang Chae-young suddenly moves into the fray, declaring he will handle the situation himself. His face grim with determination, he reminds them of the escalating danger, stating they have already reached level 4. Maintaining his golden orbs, Hwang Chae-young internally dismisses the female fighter's contribution, convinced they cannot afford to lose to a mere non-combatant tailor. A sudden, deafening crash echoes through the air, shaking the very foundations of the nearby building. Inside, golden orbs flicker around Hwang Chae-young as he stares in disbelief, while another man beside him cries out, "What's happening?" A woman nearby echoes the panic, "What's happening?" as Hwang Chae-young's expression hardens with grim determination. He turns, facing a gathering crowd of bewildered individuals, his presence commanding attention even in the midst of confusion. Above, a towering chimney continues to emit smoke into the darkening sky, a silent witness to the unfolding crisis. Suddenly, a rifle is raised, its barrel pointing skyward. A sharp click confirms the weapon is ready. As a group of soldiers, their faces etched with concern, look up and demand, "What are you doing?" Now clad in military uniform, Hwang Chae-young confronts them, his voice cutting through the tension with an undeniable command. "Everyone, freeze." As the situation rapidly deteriorates, Hwang Chae-young finds himself amidst a tense standoff, a civilian woman standing defensively before a group of armed soldiers. With a pistol raised, the woman scans the sky, a soldier behind her mirroring her wary gaze upwards. Nearby, two other men react with visible shock, their expressions reflecting the sudden, overwhelming nature of the crisis. Suddenly, an unseen force violently throws multiple soldiers backward, their bodies impacting the ground with enough power to crack the very earth beneath them. Amidst the chaos, the woman begins to scale a nearby structure, a desperate voice calling out, "Can't you stop right now? And if we don't stop?" One soldier, rifle firmly in hand, makes a grim declaration, "I will open fire." Hwang Chae-young, however, merely smirks, finding the soldier's threat amusing. "Yeah, that's amusing. A soldier shooting civilians." The resolute soldier justifies his stance, explaining, "This is an exceptional circumstance. If you are threatened, you may open fire." Lieutenant Kim surveyed the scene, a question forming in his mind. Was this man truly the leader they needed to confront? Indeed, there were more than a few awakened hidden among the civilians, all now cornered by the armed soldiers. He knew that if they wanted to confront a leader, they might have to get serious. After all, who would dare confront a soldier who had a gun pointed directly at them? The awakened might not be so different from ordinary people, but they certainly weren't strong enough to beat a gun yet. A soldier's voice cut through the tension, commanding them to stop right there. Meanwhile, Hwang Chae-young, still observing, scoffed at the sight of them threatening to kill a bunch of kids who had just turned 20. Two other soldiers exchanged glances, one wondering if that person had gone mad, before Private Seo Sunwoo was urged to make a decision. The situation was growing increasingly annoying. He had clearly warned them, his voice cutting through the tense silence of the standoff. Meanwhile, Hwang Chae-young remained a detached observer, his expression unreadable as the situation spiraled. A soldier's finger tightened on the trigger, the metallic cold a stark promise of violence. Below, the civilians huddled together, their faces etched with fear and desperation, some clinging to loved ones. The soldier held his aim steady, his rifle a grim extension of the military's resolve. With a soft click, the safety was disengaged. Suddenly, a powerful, unseen force erupted, sending shockwaves through the air. The entire area seemed to vibrate from the impact, the buildings themselves appearing to shudder. The standoff remained, but now with an added layer of uncertainty, as the military and civilians alike reacted to the unexpected event. As the dust settled from the unexpected shockwave, Huang Chaiyong turned to Lieutenant Kim, accusing him of being ready to open fire. Kim, in turn, acknowledged his intent, but quickly retracted his earlier dismissive words about Huang Chaiyong's age. Meanwhile, among the civilians, a wave of panic spread as radios went silent and other devices failed, leaving them bewildered by the sudden loss of communication. The tension between the two men remained palpable, their exchange echoing the earlier confrontation, a stark reminder of the fragile peace. Suddenly, Lieutenant Kim's rifle sputtered, emitting sparks as it ceased to function, leaving him stunned by the unexpected malfunction. A closer inspection revealed the device, seemingly intact, was in fact completely broken, defying its outward appearance. Huang Chaiyong, observing the widespread failures, casually dismissed them as a temporary side effect, underestimating the true nature of the disruption. A system message flashed, confirming the anomaly and questioning if it was merely a bug. Lieutenant Kim's frustration mounted as he realized his own abilities were useless, just as a fiery explosion erupted nearby, signaling a new, immediate danger. Amidst the chaos, a single bullet flew, accompanied by a chilling declaration of intent to interfere with fire. As the chaos unfolds, a desperate voice confirms that not only are all electronic devices failing, but even the radio signals are completely gone. Huang Chaiyong, his expression grim, considers the implications, believing that with so many people like them present, their adversaries wouldn't have acted so carelessly. He admits to being caught off guard, while nearby, Min-jae urgently calls out to Lieutenant Kim, asking if he'd heard the news. Their abilities are now useless. Huang Chaiyong, addressing his subordinates, warns that if this continues, the city will surely fall into enemy hands, urging everyone to focus. From a nearby building, a voice promises that those who listen will not be treated poorly, declaring that from now on, they are taking over this squad. A hand presses a button on a communication device. As Sergeant Shin Young-jun, surrounded by other soldiers, questions if the fizz is interference, wondering what could be wrong and admitting he was unexpectedly scared. Huang Chaiyong, discussing strategy with another man, asks what they should do now, lamenting that with such fools among them, they can't do anything. Min-jae, speaking to another soldier, dismisses the need for strategy, suggesting they simply beat them up with numbers and send more people to the women's area. Amidst the chaos, soldiers struggle to maintain order, attempting to control the bewildered civilians, many of whom had no prior knowledge of awakened abilities. One soldier, Min-jae, cuts through the noise, silencing his subordinates with a sharp command, before delegating the immediate task to himself and another. Lieutenant Kim acknowledges the directive, ready to follow through. Suddenly, a powerful, unseen force strikes, revealing a new figure whose eyes glow with an ominous purple light, his body crackling with dark energy, as he declares his intent to make an example of the weakest. His gaze sharpens, the purple aura intensifying, as he specifies his targets, the dependent ones. With a surge of power, his fist glows with the same malevolent energy. And he unleashes a devastating punch, the impact echoing with raw force. The purple energy radiates outward from his body, a testament to his overwhelming power. The unnamed assailant's fist, crackling with malevolent purple energy, slams into one of the military personnel, the impact sending a shockwave through the air. The force of the blow lifts him clean off his feet, propelling him violently backward through the distorted space. A surge of potent purple energy erupts around Shin Young-jun, his body seemingly undergoing a profound transformation or being overwhelmed by an unknown force. His muscles visibly strain and flex as the power courses through him. Nearby, a group of soldiers watches in stunned silence, one of them barely managing to voice the collective thought, an awakening? Shin Young-jun collapses to the ground, still enveloped in the ominous glow, when an unseen voice echoes with a chilling declaration, "You found me." Before anyone can react, a powerful, unseen force delivers a devastating kick. The impact sends multiple soldiers flying through the air, their bodies flung like ragdolls across the barren ground. A short distance away, civilians huddle in terror, while Huang Chaiyong watches the unfolding chaos with a grim expression. Lieutenant Kim Hyun-sek looks on in shock, as Min-jae stands beside him, his face already bloodied from the sudden assault. A voice filled with disbelief questions, "What?" There was an awakened among the soldiers. In the chaotic aftermath, a young woman flees, her face etched with terror, as the ground around her remains scarred by the recent, devastating attack. Nearby, Min-jae looks down at a fallen comrade, questioning how anyone could be knocked out by a single blow. Lieutenant Kim, equally perplexed, wonders what gives the attacker the right to act with such impunity. An injured soldier lies on the ground, his eyes wide with lingering shock, a testament to the unseen force's power. The realization dawns on them that the enemy must have grown incredibly strong. Later, under the night sky, a voice addresses the assembled troops, assuring them the situation has been handled and asking if anyone requires medical attention. Min Jae then asks Lieutenant Kim about the possibility of awakened individuals among the soldiers, suggesting that such abilities might now be usable, before being told to deal with the matter. From a distance, Hwang Chae-young and Shin Young-jun observe the unfolding events, their expressions reflecting the gravity of the situation. All communication channels are dead, the radio silent, leaving only a desperate question hanging in the air. Nearby, Lieutenant Kim dismisses the recent unrest as nothing serious, though Min Jae has heard rumors of fighting among the survivors. Kim confirms a few individuals were indeed trying to cause trouble, prompting a questioning glance from his subordinate. He then reveals that others, led by a man named Lee Sang-hyuk, not only fought, but have now vanished without a trace. Min Jae deduces their intent was to forcibly take over the unit, a plan that ultimately failed when the commander arrived, leaving them with nothing to show for their efforts. Kim remarks that this outcome was precisely what Commander Min had predicted, revealing that the four individuals had walked right into a carefully laid trap. As Min Jae begins to address another matter, his attention is suddenly drawn to a familiar figure approaching. Sergeant Shin Young-jun joins the group of soldiers, all turning their gaze towards an unseen point in the distance. With a grunt of effort, Shin Young-jun swiftly carries an injured comrade over his shoulder, moving with urgent purpose. He presses on, the injured soldier heavy on his shoulder. As he continues his urgent journey, a voice cuts through the tension, asking, "Has everything been sorted out?" Finally reaching the gathering, Young-jun, who had arrived alone, drew the immediate attention of the other soldiers. Among them, Lieutenant Kim and Min Jae watch him approach, their expressions grim with concern. Carefully lowering the soldier to the ground, Young-jun explains, "He just suddenly woke up looking like this." Min Jae, ever observant, remarks, "Your fighting ability is improving every day." Reassuring the group, he clarifies, "He's just fainted." Elsewhere, a furious Hwang Chae-young slams his fist, his voice laced with anger. "He's the traitor among us. Damn it." Back with the group, Min Jae turns to Young-jun, a hint of concern in his tone. "Hey, you really worried?" Young-jun replies, "Be as gentle as possible." Suddenly, a Stark system notification flashes into view, detailing a grim discovery. Incident. Discovered a man with cut off the head and sucked all the blood. It concludes with a chilling assessment. But this talent is too good for him. He delivers a powerful, fiery kick, sending the monster reeling, fortunate to have obtained a skill token from the encounter. Considering the implications, he acknowledges the new potential. From now on, he realizes skill tokens will be a regular drop from monsters, significantly boosting his efficiency. Later, discussing with his comrades, Min Jae questions the overall strength of the remaining monsters, while Lieutenant Kim suggests that only those who grow too powerful are a concern. Min Jae confirms his understanding, believing the average monster level to be around 3. Lieutenant Kim dismisses the concern, adding that they also possess skill tokens. A sudden realization dawns on Shin Young-jun as he looks at a skill token in his hand. He understands that since skills offer a fixed increase, a higher initial level makes them far more advantageous, instantly boosting a level 1 skill to level 5. The efficiency is undeniably different, prompting the question of long-term commitment. He acknowledges that the military's current strength is a result of their own efforts, not some external power, a sentiment Min Jae echoes, adding that their unit has been nurtured by their collective hard work. Min Jae then points out that Shin Young-jun is also a member of their unit, implying he too is part of this collective effort. The conversation continues, the weight of their words hanging in the air. Shin Young-jun agrees, acknowledging that they are all awakened, and that without their presence, the situation would have been far worse. Meanwhile, a young woman in a pink hoodie is being escorted by soldiers, assuring them that she is unharmed. Back with the group, Lieutenant Kim expresses relief that she is okay, and that they were able to protect her. Shin Young-jun apologizes for the trouble, explaining that he was unaware of her presence until he heard her scream. The young woman simply states that she understands, her expression calm despite the ordeal. As she walks away with the soldiers, she muses that they barely made it out of the unit, wondering if there are more awakened than she initially thought. A quiet moment passes, his gaze distant as if contemplating the weight of his responsibilities. Elsewhere, a voice suggests, "I'd better disclose everything to Mr. Singhae," wondering if such an act might be considered heartless. Under the glow of a full moon, he acknowledges his primary role. "I'm a chef, but I do other jobs too." The next day arrives. Min Jae greets him, "Sergeant Shin. Hello, anything unusual?" The soldier explains, "Yeah, we thought maybe they'd tried to escape." But quickly adds, "But they left behind their weapons and uniforms. It was impossible." Shin Young-jun simply replies, "Good," then asks, "Which room is this one from?" Min Jae clarifies, "We're checking out the rooms." He then offers, "Would you like to join on your own?" A confident smile plays on his lips as he agrees. "Yeah, after all, it's my specialty." He finds Min Jae cowering on the floor, greeting him with a calm, almost detached tone. Min Jae, startled, can only stammer a response, while Shin Young-jun reassures him that he is only there to talk and has no intention of attacking. Still visibly shaken, Min Jae hesitantly agrees. Shin Young-jun presses him, asking if he will listen to what he has to say. Min Jae, still terrified, bows deeply, pleading for his life and promising to cooperate fully. Observing the man's extreme reaction, Shin Young-jun falls silent, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. He realizes the extent of the trauma, musing that his previous actions must have been quite impactful. With a softer tone, Shin Young-jun reiterates his promise that Min-jae will not be harmed again, urging him to listen. Then, in an unexpected gesture of care, he offers Min-jae something to eat, indicating a shift in his approach. All signals are down. Even the radio is silent, leaving a chilling void in communication. Shin Young-jun reflects on the current crisis, understanding that the effects of this information war are immeasurable, and it only serves to blind those caught within it. His concern stems from his past as a commander in Gangwon-do, where the spread of information about mana was already a powerful force. Such widespread knowledge made it difficult for their unit to gain influence, leading them to send talented individuals like Lieutenant Kim, the injured soldier, and Hwang Chae-young to gather and analyze intelligence on their behalf, these truly meticulous guys. He recalls a conversation where it was revealed that he had hidden his awakened status, joining Sonda's group instead. But taking over someone else's force is never an easy task, especially when one of their own, like Min-jae, is involved. He was the one who could infiltrate and become the most competent leader in the entire Gangwon-do region, a truly meticulous individual. Shin Young-jun's thoughts returned to the present, questioning if this was all part of a plan to exploit the rebellion, and if that was why their unit was trusted. Indeed, if they were to take over someone else's force, it would be better to do so for a hidden foe. Plus, they believed it would be easier for his guild to get Sun. He knew that revealing their true strength would only give other forces an advantage, which is why they had to conceal it. If their enemies knew how powerful they truly were, they would approach with far more caution, like cancer cells expanding through a body. Bringing survivors into his unit at that time had been a dangerous move. Now, he wondered how he should deal with the current situation, while appreciating the new abilities he had gained. In a flashback, Hwang Chae-young called out to him, confirming that he had recruited them exactly as instructed. When asked if there was any problem, Hwang Chae-young dismissed the concern, explaining that some had been stubborn, but he was convincing enough, persuading them until they eventually laughed it off. As expected, an awakened one was far more formidable than a regular soldier, making it such a useful ability. He extends a hand, offering a small gesture of appreciation. Young-jae, you handled this task well, didn't you? A wide grin spreads across Min-jae's face as he replies. Ah, thank you for your kind words. Right, since I worked hard, can you maybe double my snacks as a reward? His craving for treats is evident. His withdrawal symptoms are clearly getting worse. Shin Young-jun simply nods, a slight smile playing on his lips. Understood. Since you handled it well, I'll do that. Min-jae's face lights up with gratitude. Thank you. Young-jae is indebted to you for life. He then turns his attention to a cutting board, ready to work. Shin Young-jun instructs him. Please sit in the dining hall. I'll bring it to you. Min-jae watches him, still beaming. As he prepares the food, Shin Young-jun pauses, wondering if he should also prepare one for Lieutenant Kim. Amidst a group of tense men, one muscular blonde figure expresses his internal struggle, unable to bring himself to harm fellow humans. Observing the scene, Shin Young-jun's expression hardens with resolve. He knows he must act, a quiet determination settling over him as a faint glow emanates from his hand. With a swift, decisive motion, he strikes. The blonde man recoils, surprised, as Shin Young-jun offers him a small, steaming bun, its aroma filling the air. Soon, a full meal is presented, and the once tense man devours it with gusto. Shin Young-jun watches him eat, a quiet satisfaction on his face. As the last bite is taken, a profound change washes over the blonde man, his demeanor softening, his eyes losing their hardened edge. Shin Young-jun acknowledges the success of his unique power, having perfectly carried out his part with the power of cooking. A new title is awarded as a reward, its shimmering text materializing in the air. Shin Young-jun, holding his knife, receives the designation, Cook of Reformation, a title that hints at the profound effect of his culinary skills. He processes the information, learning that his cooking now increases its effectiveness by 30% when applied to evil-aligned monsters and professions. Meanwhile, a new directive is issued. All new recruits are to join the unit as its newest members. Hwang Chae-young stands before a group of soldiers, including Lieutenant Kim and Min-jae, delivering the announcement with a serious demeanor. His words hang in the air. While elsewhere, Shin Young-jun is already back in the kitchen, diligently preparing a meal under the watchful eye of another soldier. The weight of recent events is evident as a female civilian appears distressed, the injured soldier offering a comforting hand on her shoulder. Back with the military, Hwang Chae-young, Lieutenant Kim, and Min-jae stand with their unit, their expressions resolute and unyielding. Observing the new recruits, Hwang Chae-young notes that they seem to be adapting well to their new environment. Lieutenant Kim adds that while they are a bit older, it is not unheard of for older juniors to join the ranks. Meanwhile, Shin Young-jun reflects on his own situation, content that everything seems to be sorted out without issues. Back with the recruits, Hwang Chae-young states that they will remain the youngest until they completely reform, to which Min-jae respectfully replies, "Yes, sir." The gravity of their situation weighs heavily as Lieutenant Kim addresses Shin Young-jun, emphasizing the critical need for his leadership and trust in these serious times. The unit's plans have been completely derailed, with the unexpected arrival of survivors further straining their already limited resources. With so many mouths to feed and dwindling supplies, it becomes clear that their current rate of consumption is unsustainable. Lieutenant Kim turns to Shin Young-jun once more, seeking guidance on their next course of action. After a moment of contemplation, Shin Young-jun resolves that they must prepare to abandon the unit. Later, under the pale moonlight, Shin Young-jun and Min Jae walk together, the latter finally understanding why dinner had been skipped. Yet, to their astonishment, they discover a lavish spread of food available at the unit, prompting Min Jae to exclaim his amazement. A voice encourages everyone to eat, as plates laden with meat and vegetables are presented. The sight of such abundance immediately sparks confusion, as the soldiers question how they can be eating so well when they were just told about severe resource shortages. He beams, presenting the lavish spread, before revealing the surprising truth. The meal is, in fact, lizard meat. A pair of chopsticks then carefully lifts a piece of the unusual fare, prompting a wave of shock and utter confusion to ripple through the assembled soldiers. They question what could possibly be happening. Just as the chaos begins to settle, a voice urgently calls out, addressing Sergeant Shin. Lieutenant Kim observes that the creatures they're fighting aren't just lizards, but something far more dangerous, while Min Jae agrees, noting their unusual mana. Lieutenant Kim, wiping sweat from his brow, expresses his disbelief, wondering what in the world is happening. Hwang Chae-young then explains that until now, they had only encountered lizards, learning their weaknesses. But now, he continues, the monsters are not merely monsters, some of them are more like zombies. Gathered around a table, Hwang Chae-young concludes that they need to be prepared, as some of these creatures are indeed humanoid. Lieutenant Kim acknowledges the truth of his words, a grim realization settling over the group. Hwang Chae-young continues, explaining that the unit's food supply is limited, only enough for a few days of combat. He then presents a digital display, suggesting they could buy rye bread from the store, ensuring they wouldn't starve. However, the display also indicates that cooking it would consume both power and additional food resources. As the conversation turns to sustenance, a voice notes that monster meat, despite its magical properties, is the most effective option available. Min Jae confirms this, stating, so you're saying, monster meat is the best option. Hwang Chae-young, however, acknowledges the difficulty of this choice. I understand, but many won't like this. He elaborates, explaining that lizard meat, in particular, will be strongly rejected. Hwang Chae-young then adds that they have seen these creatures, not just visually, but also felt them. Shin Young-jun, the cook, responds with a knowing nod, acknowledging, yeah, I know that well. The cook then muses, perhaps to himself, that the reason for the strong aversion is because he's been damaging their mental state with pretty cooking. He continues, reflecting on the nature of the monsters, noting that if not the entire body, at least the upper body has collapsed under where these creatures stood. The cook then states, with a heavy heart, I'm barely able to face the situation myself. He concludes, eating monsters that used to be people. Despite the grim reality, he knows his duty, and looking at the prepared dishes, he acknowledges, there will be considerable resistance to this. As the grim reality of their situation settled, the discussion continued, with some expressing strong reservations, but the consensus remained, they could not afford to worry about such things. Lieutenant Kim reiterated the core principle, their primary goal was, and always would be, survival. He laid out the stark choice before them. Would they be eaten by monsters, or would they find a way to eat monsters and survive? The weight of this decision fell heavily on Shin Young-jun, who stood in quiet contemplation, the implications clear. Lieutenant Kim's words echoed, as Shin Young-jun looked up, a new resolve hardening his expression. With a direct plea, Lieutenant Kim entrusted him with the difficult task, asking him to convince everyone. Later, a soldier presented a meal to the gathered survivors, announcing it as a dish prepared by Sergeant Shin for everyone. The sight of the fresh food brought a wave of relief and excitement, as one soldier exclaimed his weariness of instant rations, wondering if this feast was truly monster meat. He watches intently as the soldiers begin to eat the meal he prepared, a mix of anticipation and anxiety on his face. One of them, Min Jae, takes a bite and his eyes widen in surprise, realizing it tastes even better than he expected, and more importantly, his stats are actually increasing. He exclaims that this meal is truly incomparable to anything they've had before. Other soldiers around the table echo his sentiment, their expressions shifting from apprehension to genuine enjoyment as they savor the monster meat. Min Jae turns to Shin Young-jun, a wide smile on his face, congratulating the sergeant on a resounding success with the cooking. The soldier simply nods, still savoring the taste, acknowledging that it truly isn't bad at all. Despite the positive reactions, some soldiers still hesitate, their fear of the unknown lingering. Shin Young-jun, however, remains confident, assuring them they'll get used to it after a few tries, to which Min Jae readily agrees, before suggesting they can't end the meal without some proper celebration. With a triumphant shout, Min Jae calls for the booze and beer, much to the surprise of others who wonder where he could have hidden it. Min Jae, still reveling in the successful meal, boasts about his resourcefulness, claiming the leftover drinks from deployment are his secret stash, as all other ends have vanished. Other soldiers eagerly carry in crates of green bottles, their cheers echoing as the celebration continues. The entire unit raises their bottles in unison, a testament to their newfound morale. Meanwhile, a new figure, a man in a dark suit, walks away from the scene, a somber narration box indicating that their unit will be leaving soon, urging them to enjoy the present. His sharp, green eyes hint at a deeper concern, a stark contrast to the revelry he just left. Elsewhere, a young woman, Sang-ae, steps out from a building, her casual attire suggesting a different world from the military camp. The unnamed leader rushes towards her, calling out her name, and she acknowledges his presence, before he explains they couldn't find his soldier. Sang-ae calmly states she came over because there was nothing there, while the leader begins to explain the circumstances surrounding their situation. The leader reflects on the precarious situation, understanding that trust cannot be forced upon survivors who are already exhausted. Instead, he believes their willingness to follow stems from a promise of protection, as he turns to Sang-ae, asking if she was referring to the monster meat. She acknowledges that it might seem strange, but quickly clarifies her understanding, affirming its practicality for survival, especially since they already feel abandoned. Her words resonate with Hwang Chae-young, who realizes that survivors like her must also feel uneasy, their trust not easily earned. With a determined expression, Sang-ae then makes a request, which he readily accepts, asking to be formally included in the unit. The leader looks on, surprised by her bold proposition, a flicker of astonishment crossing his face. He turns to his assembled soldiers, his voice booming with disbelief, questioning the unexpected turn of events. He ponders if they intend to join the combat as well, while Sang-ae calmly explains her rationale, stating that being protected by soldiers isn't inherently bad. However, she emphasizes the critical point. Without contributing, they would simply become another burden, another mouth to feed, just like the monsters they've been consuming. She thinks like a true leader, Hwang Chae-young observes, as Sang-ae continues to explain that they cannot protect the other survivors forever. He acknowledges that he and his unit have also been considering this, especially since the betrayal by Quan Chang's group, but admits her proposal is quite sudden. Without the unit's intervention, the survivors would not have been able to stop the monsters. The survivors were lucky to have them, as Hwang Chae-young recalls a past battle where he, with a glowing fist, fought alongside Sang-ae and others against a monstrous threat. In a subsequent discussion where Sang-ae had asked if he considered the lives of the other survivors. He had, of course, and they had thoroughly discussed it, concluding that they lacked the strength to survive on their own. Now, reflecting on their resolve, he reminds himself that as soldiers with ranks, joining the unit means obeying orders and becoming part of a structured force. Sang-ae reassures him, telling him not to worry about it. Min-jae, a soldier from his unit, then speaks to Hwang Chae-young, acknowledging that following the rules is simply the game they follow, Captain. Sang-ae then expresses a slight hesitation, feeling as though she is dragging him into danger alone, but Hwang Chae-young promises to discuss it with his superiors and let her know. With a bright, reassuring smile, Sang-ae offers her thanks, promising that she and the others will strive not to impede their efforts. A tense question hangs in the air, contemplating the implications of a new alliance. Lieutenant Kim voices his apprehension, asking Sergeant Shin if such a move wouldn't be too dangerous, especially since they are already outnumbered. But Shin Young-jun remains resolute, asserting that they cannot simply abandon the others, as leaving them would surely lead to their demise. Min-jae then inquires if all the other survivors have agreed to this plan. His expression unwavering. Having made his decision, Shin Young-jun's resolve hardens, believing it their duty as both humans and soldiers to protect those in need. With the path forward clear, he confirms the decision and moves to review the finer details of their plan. Among the preparations, a new set of command combat uniforms stands ready. Someone invites another to take a closer look. Indeed, the promises of hard work had not been empty. Min-jae, observing the new gear, expresses his surprise, wondering if the combat uniforms were made by the person before him. The answer confirms his suspicion. It is a set of military uniforms crafted from monster leather, specifically chieftain leather for the command version. The regular combat uniforms, however, are made from standard leather, prompting Min-jae to exclaim about the tailor's incredible talent, marveling that they made these uniforms themselves. Sang-ae, the skilled artisan, confirms her handiwork, explaining that she used leather from low-grade monsters, though the scales, while reduced, still leave the material a bit thick. Having reinforced only the critical areas, Sang-ae explains that she fitted the uniform to allow for full movement without restriction. The uniform itself appears to be made of a durable, camouflage pattern material, and she then offers, "Would you like to try it on?" As the steel leather command combat uniform is donned, it emits a soft, ethereal glow. This meticulously crafted leather armor, made from the hide of a chieftain-class monster, retains the creature's inherent magical properties, making it exceptionally durable, especially for a god-tier class monster. The uniform's special effects are profound, greatly increasing physical and attribute resistance, while also boosting strength and agility by lowering the wearer's charisma. A wide smile spreads across Shin Young-jun's face as he realizes, then it's incredible. If I utilize these sets of armor, the effect will be unimaginable. Sang-ae, observing him, comments that it suits him well, noting its comfortable feel. Considering her exceptional skill, Shin Young-jun muses that she could be a great asset in the reconstruction efforts, almost as if she runs a tailor shop. Sang-ae holds a piece of the newly crafted uniform, questioning its muted tone. She explains, well, I thought we were going to a city somehow. To which Shin Young-jun simply agrees, acknowledging her reasoning. The conversation shifts to the officer's uniform version, designed for enhanced performance, with the command combat uniform, made from chieftain leather, having been distributed to Lieutenant Kim and other court leaders. Sang-ae then reveals, about that, I'm currently the only one in our unit, leaving Shin Young-jun surprised, asking for clarification. He considers, it's a bit late, but I should tell her, realizing the implications of her unique position. Once she learns their secrets, there will be no turning back. With a resolute expression, Shin Young-jun declares that Sang-ae will be fully integrated into their clan, her skills now indispensable. Sang-ae's expression shifts as she processes the weight of his words, understanding that only the sergeant knows this crucial detail, a secret now shared between them. Looking directly at her, he emphasizes, so, please keep it a secret too, Ms. Sang-ae, his request carrying significant gravity as the scene pulls back to reveal the urban landscape outside. Amidst a growing sense of unease, all radio signals have gone dead, leaving everyone to wonder what in the world is happening. Meanwhile, Shin Young-jun ponders the implications of the new gear, questioning how a mere uniform could possibly enhance a warrior's abilities. Sang-ae, examining the material, realizes it's made of leather, and voices her concern that such a material couldn't possibly block bullets or allow for free movement, fearing it would only lead to ruin for those who wore it. Despite her apprehension, the other soldiers around them seem oblivious, their faces alight with excitement over the new uniforms. As Sang-ae continues to inspect the uniform, she expresses disbelief at the rapid production of steel leather combat gear, to which Shin Young-jun explains that its swift creation was only possible with the guild's assistance. He offers a reassuring smile, emphasizing that the warriors need more defense than attack, making the new gear incredibly comforting. Sang-ae then asks if they can be more comfortable in the new uniforms, eliciting a small gasp from her as she considers the implications. Understanding dawns on her face as she replies, I see. Shin Young-jun then adds that for him, a sheath has been attached to the belt. She looks on in surprise, marveling at the fact that it's almost a miracle to craft such an item from steel leather. As he continues to discuss the new gear, Shin Young-jun mentions setting aside uniforms for Lieutenant Kim and Min Jae, confirming they will be delivered. Turning to Sang-ae, he asks if she'd like to try on the uniform as well, to which she agrees. A short while later, as she walks away, now clad in the new uniform, she is informed that she's officially been appointed a squad leader for the survivors. Her expression thoughtful, Sang-ae questions the true meaning of being a representative of the survivors once they've joined the unit. Shin Young-jun, standing among other soldiers, simply replies, no, before clarifying that they are now simply members of the unit. Her eyes widen slightly in understanding, and she asks for further explanation. He explains that once all the survivors are integrated, they will no longer be considered survivors, but rather members of the unit, emphasizing the need to protect them. Sang-ae nods, absorbing his words, and acknowledges the new reality, realizing it's become a position rather than a title. With a reassuring smile, Shin Young-jun encourages her, confident she will excel in her new role. Continuing his encouragement, Shin Young-jun assures her that he can tell from experience she will adapt quickly. Meanwhile, in a memory, he recalls Min Jae's surprise at her unapproved officer status, but then agrees that humans are adaptable creatures, so she will get used to it soon. Back in the present, Sang-ae accepts a K5 pistol, asking if it isn't a bit much for her. The K5, a weapon typically issued to field-grade officers and senior warrant officers, is now in her hands. The memory continues, as he recalls that when the monsters first appeared, only the battalion commander, the lieutenant, and he were military doctors, forcing them to fight countless foes without proper weapons. Sang-ae admits that she has never handled a gun before. Smiling reassuringly, Shin Young-jun suggests that Soo Hyun can give her quick lessons. The memory shifts again, as Min Jae asks who will use the other two pistols, which Shin Young-jun intends for his aunt and cousin. Acknowledging the need, he confirms his plan to use the remaining one himself. Shifting focus to an earlier time, Shin Young-jun reflects on his abilities, acknowledging that the skill he's been using has a distinct limit. Later, in conversation with Min Jae, he suggests accompanying him, confident that his own skill could be of assistance, even if Min Jae finds the idea of it cool. A different scene unfolds, with a large crowd gathered, as someone remarks that a small sun doesn't suit a big frame, hinting at a powerful, perhaps overwhelming, presence. Back in a more intimate setting, Shin Young-jun looks down, apologizing as he notes that even Ms. Senga is laughing at him. A few days later, a building glows with energy, marking a triumphant moment as a voice exclaims, "We did it!" Shin Young-jun then congratulates someone off-panel, announcing their awakening. System notifications confirm the fulfillment of conditions, with 100 awakened individuals now forming a successfully established guild of 100 members. A large crowd gathers once more, as a voice questions the unfolding situation with a simple, "This?" Finally, the system updates Shin Young-jun's guild status, showing this starter edition guild. Field of view skill upgrading from level 1 to level 2. He finds all communication dead, the radio silent, and a growing sense of alarm washes over him as he questions what could possibly be happening.